Failed to get the red book. When I woke up, the number board at the marriage registry was displaying A052. I clutched the household registration booklet so tightly that my fingertips pressed into the plastic cover, nearly forcing the dove on it to remarry on the spot. In the lobby, some held flowers, others held babies, and a few clung to their partners, kissing with a fervor so sour and sweet it felt like they'd just been pickled, the tangy aroma practically smacking me in the face. My fiancé Xiaoya is not here. To be precise, my husband from my past life, Zhou Xiaoya, is not here. His phone buzzed. He sent a voice message, with wind howling in the background, and Lin Jiao's tearful voice saying, "Xiaoya, I really don't know who else to turn to." Zhou Xiaoya lowered his voice. "Qingyang, Jiao's mom got separated from us at the market. I'll go with her to the police station to check the surveillance footage. Wait for me in the lobby for half an hour. We'll definitely get the certificate today." I stared at that voice message, my stomach churning as if someone had stuffed it with a handful of undercooked noodles. The same day, the same words. In another lifetime I waited at the Civil Affairs Bureau from 9 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon, the flowers in my hands wilting like pickled vegetables. When he finally showed up, his uniform jacket was draped over his arm, sweat beading on his forehead. His first words weren't "I'm sorry, but it's a special situation, you should understand." I understood him for 3 years. I came to understand that when the birthday cake had candles on it, he was helping Lin Jia fix a water pipe. When I had a fever and took a taxi to the hospital by myself, he was dealing with a leak from the upstairs neighbor for Lin Jiao. And on the day of our divorce, he still said, "She has no one around her. I can't just ignore her." What a coincidence. I don't have anyone around me either. I reached up and dismissed the voice prompt. The staff member at the window leaned out and called, "A052, are Su Qingyang and Zhou Xiaoya here?" I stand up. The young girl next to me was so nervous she was plucking rose petals all over the ground. The boy beside her teased, "Relax, getting the marriage certificate isn't like walking into an exam hall." I put the household registration booklet back into my bag, smiled at the staff member, and said, "Sorry, I've changed my mind." The staff paused for a moment. "The groom hasn't arrived yet. We can wait a bit." "I'm done waiting." I handed back the number slip. "He has his half hour. I have my whole life." The moment those words were spoken, it felt like the air conditioning in the hall paused for a beat. The phone rang immediately. "It's from Zhou Xiaoya." I picked up, and I could hear his urgent footsteps on the other end. "Qingyang, don't worry. I've already sent a colleague to help, at most 40 minutes. "Zhou Xiaoya." My voice was so flat that even I found it unfamiliar. "I'm not picking up the certificate today." He was silent for 2 seconds, as if he hadn't understood. "What did you say?" I said, "I'm not taking it." "Don't be ridiculous." His tone turned serious. "Marriage isn't like buying a bubble tea. You can't just cancel it on a whim." I grabbed my bag and walked out. The sunlight outside the glass door bleached the steps white. The July heat hit me, and I suddenly felt like I had finally crawled out of a room with no open windows. Exactly. I stepped onto the first stair. That's why I don't want to accidentally buy a cup of bitter melon juice. The breathing on the other end of the phone paused. I heard Lin Jia whisper, "Is Qingyang upset? Maybe you should go first. I'll handle things here." Zhou Xiaoya immediately replied to her, "It's fine, I'll talk to her." I smiled slightly. "See, that's Zhou Xiaoya for you." He was telling me he was with me, but his body had already stepped in front of someone else. "You don't need to explain to me," I said as I walked to the curb and hailed a cab. "Go do your thing. I'm busy too. Busy not marrying you." The middle-aged driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror, his tone seasoned by life experience. "Where to, miss?" I gave my parents' restaurant address. As the car pulled away, Zhou Xiaoya called again. I stared at those 3 words on the screen, but my heart didn't ache with the same overwhelming pain as in my past life, only a clarity as sharp as a bowl of spicy hot pot. Without sesame paste. I'm hanging up. The Civil Affairs Bureau outside the window grew distant, but the plane tree at the gate remained. Its shadows fell on the ground in patches, like the fragmented time I waited for in my past life. Half an hour later, Zhou Xiaoya sent a message. "I'm at the Civil Affairs Bureau. Where are you?" I lowered my head and replied to him, "Back to the human world." He stood at the doorway. When I got back to Nanfeng Restaurant, my dad, Su Huichuan, was in the kitchen, chopping radishes. The cleaver thumped against the chopping board, echoing his basic stance toward the world. "If you can cut through it, no need to argue. If you can't, just throw it in the pot and stew." My mother, Jiang He, was sitting behind the cash register doing the accounts, the abacus beads clicking away. When she saw the household registration booklet in my hand, her glasses slid down to the tip of her nose. "Where's the certificate?" I placed my bag on the counter, didn't pick it up. My dad's knife missed by half an inch, and the radish rolled onto the floor like a chubby white guy scared off by marriage. My mom didn't shout or ask, just poured a glass of warm water and slid it to me. Had a fight? No fight. I took a sip, letting my throat recover. He was late. I'm not marrying him. My dad bent down to pick up the radish, brushed off the dirt, wanted to throw it away but couldn't bear to, and finally put it into the washing bowl. How late? 3 years from my past life. My mom's abacus beads froze mid-click. I knew it sounded like I'd just picked it up from a metaphysical stall, but I wasn't planning to explain right away. Talking about reincarnation to your own mom feels like a scam, especially since my mom is the type who, even with a buy one get one free deal, would suspect the free one is about to expire. She stared at me for a long moment without pressing further, simply saying, "Have a bowl of noodles first." Nanfeng Eatery sits at the corner of the old street. The signboard was hand-painted by my dad in his younger days. After 20 years of wind and sun, the character for wind is missing a stroke. It looks like life has slapped it around. After we got married in my past life, Zhou Xiaoya said that being a police officer was an unstable job, and our elderly family members also wanted us to live closer. So I closed the evening market of my small restaurant and moved to a neighborhood near his workplace. From then on, my daily life revolved entirely around his schedule. I made him soup, ironed his clothes, delivered medicine to his mother, and answered more than one phone call from Lin Jiao. In the end, my own days became like a bowl of soup that had been watered down over and over, still looking like it had some color, but when you tasted it, there was nothing left. My mom brought over a bowl of tomato beef brisket noodles, the red broth steaming hot, the brisket piled high like the unspoken worry she never voiced. "Eat first, then we'll talk." She pressed the chopsticks into my hand. "No matter how bad things get, you've got to keep your stomach steady, otherwise, you won't even have the strength to cry." I had just picked up my noodles when my phone vibrated again. Zhou Xiaoya sent a photo at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau. The sun was already dipping westward. He stood at the bottom of the steps, holding the document pouch we were supposed to use. The cuffs of his uniform shirt were rolled up, sweat beading on his forehead, his eyes staring straight past. The camera messages popped up one after another. "Su Qingyang, I'll be waiting for you here." I placed my phone face down on the table. My dad pretended to be passing by, his eyes glancing sideways over the edge of his phone. "Has he arrived?" "We're here. Police officers are busy too," my dad said. Seeing me look up, he quickly added, "But you're not a parking spot. He can't just come and park whenever he feels like it." I almost choked on the noodles. My mother shot him a glare. "If you've got something to say, spit it out. No need to hold back like a boiled egg with the shell still on." By evening, Zhou Xiaoya's phone calls had increased from over a dozen to more than 20. When Songji rushed to the eatery, she was still carrying half a watermelon in her hand. After hearing about my situation, her first reaction wasn't to console me. She simply set the watermelon down on the table. "Cut it to celebrate," she said. "Sisters escaping misery deserve a taste of something red." I glanced at her and said, "Aren't you going to ask me why? Are you, Su Qingyang, the kind of person who would flip a table just because your boyfriend showed up half an hour late?" Songji rolled up her sleeves. "You'd write a 300-word complaint review if a takeout order missed a single packet of vinegar. If you really flipped a table, there'd definitely be explosives hidden underneath." I laughed, but my eyes stung a little. At 11 p.m., Zhou Xiaoya was still standing outside the Civil Affairs Bureau. In the photo he sent, the main gate was already closed, the lights were off, and only the street lamp stretched his shadow long. The steps behind him were empty. The crowd that had queued up during the day to get their certificates had long dispersed, leaving just an old security guard peering out through the glass door. "I'll wait until you come." I stared at that line of text, my fingers frozen over it for a long while. In my past life, I fell for his tricks every time. Zhou Xiaoya stood there, silent, straight-backed, and stubborn, like a tree that refused to bend. As long as he was willing to wait, I felt seen. But marriage isn't something where standing at the door for one night can make up for 3 years of coldness inside the house. I'll reply to him, "Stop waiting. The marriage registry is closed." "And so am I," he quickly replied. "I'm still at work." I put my phone aside and continued writing the new menu for the eatery. I want to reopen the evening market at Nanfeng Restaurant, turning it into a community canteen while also offering bento boxes. In my past life, I changed everything for Zhou Xiaoya, but in this life, I'm going to take it all back, one step at a time. At 2 in the morning, I took one last look at my phone before turning off the light. Zhou Xiaoya didn't send another message, but Song Ji sent me a screenshot from her moments. She has a friend who lives near the Civil Affairs Bureau, and that friend captured a photo of a man sitting on the steps at the entrance, with a bag of untouched steamed buns beside him. The caption goes, "This guy must have gone through a breakup, sitting there like he's been possessed by the stone lion at the office entrance." I stared at that picture for a long time. Zhou Xiaoya kept his head down, clutching the document bag in his hand. The streetlight fell on his shoulders like a layer of frost. I turned off my phone. I do feel a pang of sympathy, but pity cannot be a way back. 03 Getting out of an engagement is like the tide going out. At 7 the next morning, I went to roll up the shutter door of the eatery. It was only halfway up when I spotted Zhou Xiaoya standing across the street. He changed into casual clothes, a white t-shirt and black trousers, with dark circles under his eyes, still standing tall and straight, yet looking as if the night breeze had thinned him out. I let go of the rolling shutter, and it crashed down with a loud clatter, almost producing the earliest drumbeat on the street. Zhou Xiaoya walked over, his voice a little hoarse. "Why didn't you answer the phone last night?" "Sleeping. I waited at the Civil Affairs Bureau all night long." "I know. I inserted the key into the lock. Sorry, you and the security guard had to become a makeshift tourist attraction." His brows furrowed, as if he hadn't expected me to still be in the mood for jokes. In my past life, by this time, I would have already thrown myself into his arms crying, punched him a couple of times, and then folded up my grievances into a tiny piece to tuck back into my heart. Zhou Xiaoya was all too familiar with that routine, so he had already struck a pose ready to apologize, but I never got to open for him in this lifetime. He blocked the doorway. "Qingyang, we need to talk." "Sure." I pushed open the glass door. 10 minutes. The breakfast crowd will be coming in. He followed me in, watching as I carried a basket of greens out of the kitchen, and then noticed the new menu I had written on the wall last night. "Southwind Evening Market, back in business today." His gaze paused for a moment. "You're going to reopen the night market?" Didn't you say earlier that you were too tired and wouldn't do it?" I dumped the greens into the sink, and the water gushed with a loud splash. That wasn't my line, it was something he summed up for me in a past life. Back then, he talked me into closing the evening market, saying I couldn't handle it alone, that after marriage I should focus on the family, that his mom wasn't in great health and we couldn't just order takeout every night. I bought it the day I shut down the evening market. My dad smoked half a pack of cigarettes in the kitchen and finally just said, "As long as you're sure." At the time, I thought I was charging headfirst into love, glowing with that special soft light reserved for hopeless romantics. Looking back now, that glow was probably just a gas leak from the stove. I used to not think it through, I said while washing the vegetables. Now I've come to terms with it. Being tired is still better than losing myself. Zhou Xiaoya fell silent for a moment. "I didn't mean to be late yesterday. Jia's mother is getting old, so her getting lost is no small matter." "I never said it wasn't a small matter." "Then why do you have to pick a fight with me over this?" The vegetable leaves in my hand were washed flat against my fingers by the water, the chill unmistakably clear. "Zhou Xiaoya, listen to yourself." I turned off the faucet and spun around to face him. "You've reduced my marriage to nothing more than me throwing a tantrum." His expression changed. "That's not what I meant." "You certainly are." I lifted the vegetable basket, droplets of water trickling down its edge. "That's always been your point. When others have problems, it's a real issue. When I have feelings, it's just making a fuss." Zhou Xiaoya pressed his lips together. The sky outside was brightening, and the soy milk vendor lady pushed her cart down the street, the bell on it chiming once, as if stamping a seal on the conversation. He took a step closer. "I can make it up to you. We can go to the Civil Affairs Bureau again today, or pick another day. It's up to you." I chuckled. "See, you still think this is like a late movie ticket. Just swap it for another show." "Then what do you want me to do?" A flicker of panic finally appeared in his eyes. I dried my hands and took out the red document patch from the drawer. Inside were photocopies of our household register, photos, and the receipt for the wedding venue contract. I pushed his portion over to him. "Take it." Zhou Xiaoya didn't move. "I already told the hotel yesterday, postpone the wedding banquet, or cancel it. I'll cover my share of the deposit. The rest is up to you and your family to figure out." I also returned the wedding dress. "We'll take whatever refund we can get," he said. "You're quick." Afraid that if I slow down, I'll soften again. The words were so blunt that his eyes flickered. He reached out and pressed down on the document pouch, his knuckles turning white. "Su Qingyang, I haven't done anything to wrong you. I know, he seemed relieved. I added the second half. You just never made me your top priority. That breath caught in his throat. Footsteps sounded from outside, and Song Ji burst in carrying 2 cups of coffee. Taking one look at the scene, she skidded to a halt, her gaze darting between us. Oh, breakfast joint open for business with a bonus ex-boyfriend exhibit. Zhou Xiaoye glanced at her but didn't respond. Song Ji sat the coffee beside me and said in a voice loud enough to be heard, Qingyang, the wedding planner needs confirmation on the teardown at 9:30, don't forget. Zhou Xiaoye's head snapped up. You even cancelled the wedding plan. I nodded, pretty efficient, right? I learned my lesson from procrastinating too much in the past, so this time around I'm all about swift action. He didn't get the in the past part. Just thought I was speaking out of anger. I didn't bother to explain either. Some wounds, when spoken, sound like accusations. Only those left unspoken feel like a verdict. Zhou Xiaoye picked up the document bag, paused at the doorway, and said, I'll be back. I tied my apron and looked down as I mixed the sauce. You're welcome to come for a meal, but don't bother trying to talk me into marriage. After he left, Song Ji leaned in and lowered her voice. You're really not getting married? I watched the steam rising from the pot as the tomatoes sizzled in the oil, releasing a glossy red sauce. I'm not getting married. When those 3 words were spoken, a certain part of my heart also settled into place. 04 Lin Jiao arrives. As soon as the notice about Nanfeng restaurant reopening its dinner service was posted, many old regulars showed up that very day. Granny Li sat by the window with her thermos in hand, sighing with emotion like someone who'd gone to an old friend's funeral only to find they'd just overslept. Now this tomato beef brisket hits the spot. Back when you closed for the evening, my grandson kept ordering me light meals every day. I started questioning my whole existence. Even the grass wasn't eating any fresher than I was. I smiled and added another spoonful of soup to her bowl. Then eat more today, and try to make up for all that grass you've been eating lately. My dad was sweating profusely in the kitchen, grumbling that I was making a fuss, but his hands were neatly arranging the braised chicken legs. Jiang, he was at the register, glancing at me after every transaction, as if afraid I might lose it and start swinging the spatula like a weapon. I'm actually pretty steady. Once you keep yourself busy, there's less room for sadness. As long as you have something to do with your hands, it's hard for your mind to play the ex-husband's greatest hits on a loop all day. Lin Jia showed up at the eatery just before closing time, around 8 in the evening. She wore a light blue dress, her hair loosely tied up, and held a box of cherries in her hand. Standing at the doorway, she first glanced at the people inside before softly calling out to me, Qingyang, I am wiping the table. The first time I met her in my past life, her voice was just like this, soft as a freshly baked cake, only to reveal, upon biting into it, a core of unmelted ice hidden inside. She is 1 year younger than me and has known Zhou Xiaoye since childhood. After Zhou Xiaoye became a police officer, her family got into the habit of turning to him for everything, big or small. She says she's timid and panics easily when things go wrong. He says they've been neighbors for years, so he helps whenever he can. One is good at shouting, the other at delivering. I was stuck in the middle, like that optional spiciness level on the menu, always defaulted to no spice. Want something to eat? I draped the rag over the chair back. We're about to close, only beef brisket noodles left. Lin Jiao walked in and placed the cherries on the counter. I'm not here to eat, I'm here to apologize. Song Ji sat in the corner going over the wedding refund, and when she heard that, her pen paused, her eyes gleaming like a badger in a melon patch. Lin Jiao's eyes were slightly reddened. I was really terrified when my mom went missing yesterday. Xiaoye is a police officer, so he was the only one I could turn to at the time. Please don't be upset with him because of me, okay? I stared at the box of cherries. Every time in her past life, she was like this. She first positioned herself as the victim, then placed Zhou Xiaoye in a position where he had no choice but to reach out, and finally put me in the role of the unreasonable one. The 3 roles were arranged so clearly, more meticulously than a wedding seating chart. I pushed the cherries back. No problem asking him for help. She froze. But my decision not to marry him is between him and me, I said. You don't need to apologize on his behalf. He's not some outsourced after-sales service for your household appliances. Song Ji let out a cough from the corner, as if choking on laughter while forcing a serious face. Lin Jia's face turned pale. You misunderstood me. I was just worried you'd overthink things. I didn't overthink it. I picked up the ledger. I barely thought at all. Just one thing. This man isn't right for me. She bit her lip, tears glistening in her eyes. Xiaoye waited all night at the Civil Affairs Bureau entrance. He's never bowed his head like this before. My hand, which was flipping through the ledger, stopped. Lower my head, I looked up. He waited for me one night, not lived 3 years in my place. Lin Jiao remained silent. The warm light from the restaurant fell across her face, soft as a filter. Standing there, she was indeed the kind of person who could soften anyone's heart, but I was no longer that Su Qingyang from my past life, the one who, at the sight of someone else's tears, would immediately blame herself for being too harsh. The wind chime at the door rang. Zhou Xiaoya walked in, clearly unaware that Lin Jiao was here. When he saw her, his brows furrowed slightly. Why are you here? Lin Jiao immediately turned around. I want to explain this to Qingyang. Zhou Xiaoya's gaze landed on my face. I closed the ledger and said, the explanation is done. She understands it clearly, and so can you. He caught the sharpness in my words and lowered his voice. Jiao, you should go back first. Lin Jiao stood still. Xiaoya, am I causing you trouble? That was a cleverly asked question. She wasn't asking if she was a burden, she was asking Zhou Xiaoya if she had become one. As long as he said no, I, the real troublemaker, would automatically step into the role. Zhou Xiaoya was silent for a moment. Go back first, I'll get in touch with you later. I let out a laugh. Zhou Xiaoya looked at me. Qingyang, it's nothing. I waved my hand. Your get in touch later thing, well, that's already a classic move. Consistent quality. Lin Jiao's tears finally fell as she turned and ran out. Zhou Xiaoya instinctively moved to chase, taking one step before stopping abruptly. I saw him pause, yet I felt nothing inside. In my past life, I waited through too many pauses like this every time. I hoped he would turn around and choose me every time. He said, I'll be back soon, but days aren't rubber bands. Stretch them too long, and they snap, and when they do, they'll sting you right in the face. Zhou Xiaoya stood still, his Adam's apple bobbing. I wasn't chasing, I saw it. He seemed to be searching my face for any sign of softening. I finished wiping the last table and flipped the chair onto it. But Zhou Xiaoya, marriage isn't about whether you chased after me once, it's about whether I can trust you to stay next time. He had no words to reply. I picked up the closed sign by the door and hung it on the outside of the glass door. The sign swayed slightly, casting a shadow over half of his figure. 05 Old soup from a past life. That night, I dreamed again. In my dream, I was back in the wedding home from a past life. Zhou Xiaoya's uniform shirt was drying on the balcony, so white it stung the eyes. I stood in the kitchen simmering soup. The clay pot bubbled and chugged away as my phone screen flickered on and off. In the first year of our marriage, I really enjoyed making soup for him. When he worked night shifts, I would make chicken soup. When he got caught in the rain on fieldwork, I would brew ginger soup. When his stomach was upset, I would cook yam and pork rib soup. Back then, I believed that loving someone meant chopping your heart into pieces, stewing it tender, and presenting it to him. Zhou Xiaoya wasn't ungrateful either. Every time he comes home, he finishes his drink and says, "You've worked hard." He always remembers to bring me supper, and whenever he passes a flower shop, he buys me a bouquet that's never quite well arranged. 2 carnations stuck in a bunch of roses, like a parent wrapped forcibly wedged into a couple's quarrel. But his kindness is always scattered like coins falling out of a pocket. Finding one brings a moment of joy, but it's never enough to buy a meal. Lin Jia's phone calls always managed to add up to an entire bill. Her water pipe burst, and Zhou Xiaoya went. Her mom felt uncomfortable in her chest, and Zhou Xiaoya went. She was bullied by a colleague, and Zhou Xiaoya went. She was scared of noises in the hallway at midnight, and Zhou Xiaoya also went. I asked him, "Doesn't she have any friends?" He said, "She's quite dependent on me." I asked again, "Then what about me?" He looked at me as if I'd asked a very childish question. "You're different, you can take a lot." I've remembered this sentence for a long time. I can take it, so I deserve to. In my dream, I set the soup on the table and waited until 2 in the morning before Zhou Xiaoya finally came back. He carried the chill from outside, exhaustion written across his face, and the first thing he said was, "Jiao had an emotional breakdown today." I stayed a while longer at her place. I stared at the pot of soup, now with a layer of congealed oil on top, and suddenly said, "Let's have a baby." That was the last effort of my past life. Zhou Xiaoya paused, rubbing his brow. "Wait a bit longer, I'm too busy right now, and a child is no small matter." I nodded. "Just wait a little longer." I've waited for the marriage certificate, waited for the wedding, waited for birthdays, waited for him to come home, and waited for him to say he would set boundaries. By the 3rd winter, I was doubled over with stomach pain in the hospital hallway. Calling him, he didn't pick up, but sent a message, dealing with Jia's family matters. Back later, It's still a bit late. I was holding on to the wall, laughing so hard that tears came to my eyes that day. I didn't wait for him. I checked myself into the hospital. When I woke up, there was a bowl of congee he had bought sitting on the bedside table. It had already gone cold. Beside it lay a divorce agreement. It was me who printed it. Zhou Xiaoya sat in the chair, his eyes terribly red. He said, "Qingyang, I never thought you'd really leave." I really wanted to ask him, "Did you think I'd be stuck in the same place forever?" But I don't have the energy. Outside, the rain was heavy, headlights swept across the window. All I remember is signing my name with a steady hand. The moment I finished, the world seemed to have its mute button pressed. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the Civil Affairs Bureau. When I woke from my dream, it was still dark outside, and I could hear the sound of a breakfast cart being wheeled past the window. There was a message from Zhou Xiaoya on the phone, sent in the early hours of the morning. "I want to know what exactly I did to disappoint you so much." I stared at that line of text and sat there for a long time. He had asked the same question in his past life. I said a lot back then: boundaries, companionship, respect, priorities. He listened carefully and even admitted his mistakes. But every time something came up, he would still fall back into his old ways. "Some people aren't that they don't love you. He treats loving you like background music. Fine as long as it's playing, no need to turn up the volume." I didn't reply to the message. After daybreak, the Southwind restaurant began prepping ingredients. My dad was in the back kneading dough, while Jiang he pasted the freshly printed menu onto the wall. At the bottom of the menu was a small line I'd added last night: evening service resumes, 10% off for regulars, 10% off for newcomers too. The boss is in a good mood today. Seeing this, Song Ji doubled over with laughter, unable to straighten up. "Are you running a business or a charity? Be fair in life." I chopped the scallions finely. "If we're going to take a loss, let's do it evenly." At 10 a.m., Zhou Xiaoya arrived. He didn't come inside. Instead, he stood outside and looked at me for a moment, holding a bag of medicine, the stomach medication I used to take. "I walk out." He handed me the medicine and said, "Have you been having stomach pain again lately?" I didn't respond. "No, you used to forget to eat when you got busy." "Zhou Xiaoya." I looked at him. "Don't use some trivial thing you remember to prove you're right for me." His hand froze in midair. The sun on the street was blazing, clearly illuminating the bloodshot veins in his eyes. "You remember I have a weak stomach. And you also remember Lin Zhiyao is afraid of the dark, but every time you can only make it to one place, you always go to hers." He finally lowered his eyes. This time, he didn't defend himself. I turned back into the shop, where the soup in the pot was boiling vigorously, its aroma wafting outward. Old soup can be reheated. No need for the old days. 06 Mother-in-law serves first. The news of the broken engagement spread faster than the beef brisket at Nanfeng restaurant on Old Street. News travels through three main channels: the vegetable market, the barbershop, and my mom's group of acquaintances. I had just posted the menu in the morning, and by afternoon, the auntie from the curtain shop next door was already asking me, "Qingyang, I heard you dumped your cop boyfriend." When she said cop boyfriend, her tone made it sound like I had kicked a ceremonial banner into the trash. I was packing a customer's order of braised chicken legs and kept a steady smile. "Auntie, it was a mutual split." The aunt nodded. "Peace is good, peace saves pots and pans." Before I could respond, a black sedan pulled up in front of the shop. Zhou Xiaoya's mother, Lu Huifeng, got out of the car. She wore a beige suit, her hair perfectly pinned up, carrying a red gift box in her hand. She had been the same in her past life, always dignified, always gentle, always able to voice the toughest demands in the softest tone. "Qingyang." Lu Huifeng walked into the shop and first glanced at the menu on the wall. "Child, why did you cancel the wedding banquet without saying a word?" I wiped my hands and said, "Please take a seat, ma'am." She didn't sit down, instead placing the gift box on the table and saying, "This is the bird's nest Xiaoya bought last night. He's busy and not good with words, so I'm here in his place as his mother." My mom looked up from behind the cash register, and her glasses glinted. Jiang he wasn't one to pick fights, but when it came to defending her own, she had a method. She wouldn't flip the table. She'd smooth out the tablecloth first, then ask, "How you plan to roll away?" Lu Huifeng sighed. "Qingyang, I know you're upset, but Xiaoya is a police officer, and a police officer's family has to bear more than ordinary people. When you married him, you should have been prepared for that from the start." When I heard the words "from the start," the half-cooked noodles in my stomach churned again. I said, "Auntie, I'm not marrying him anymore, so I don't need to prepare." Lu Huifeng's smile faded a little. "That's being willful. We've Already notified both sides of the family and booked the hotel. You young people have a fight and call it off just like that. How are the elders supposed to explain this to everyone? My dad poked his head out from the kitchen, still holding a slotted spoon. Explain what? Just say my daughter got her eyesight back and suddenly realized it wasn't a good fit. My mom coughed, signaling him to hold his tongue. Lu Huifeng's face finally fell. In-laws. That's not a very nice thing to say, is it? Jiang, he stood up and straightened the receipt. We haven't gotten the marriage certificate yet, so we're not in-laws. Whether the words sound nice or not is another matter. Let's get the facts straight first. The shop wasn't crowded, and Granny Li by the window immediately hugged her thermos tighter, with a look that said she'd already gotten her money's worth today. Lu Huifeng looked at me and said, Qingyang. Zhao Yi stood outside the Civil Affairs Bureau all night last night. Even if you're mad, it should have cooled down by now. I lowered my eyes and smiled. Auntie, whether I get over my anger or not isn't measured by how long I stand watch. Lu Huifeng was left speechless. I took out the wedding refund receipts and pushed them in front of her. The deposit for the hotel, we'll split it half and half. My share is already paid. I've also contacted the wedding planner and photographer. Anything that can be refunded will be, and for what can't, I'll cover the portion I booked. According to the contract, no gifts have been collected yet, so there's no issue with returning them. I'll notify everyone about the invitations one by one, so your family won't be embarrassed. Lu Huifeng stared at the stack of documents, clearly not expecting that I had already figured all of this out in my past life. The thing I dreaded most was when she said, "You're bringing shame to the Zhou family." The moment she said it, I backed down. When she said policing was a special job, I backed down. When she said our son had it hard, I backed down. When she said Lin Jiao was pitiful, I backed down too. In the end, I had nowhere left to retreat. When you lay out all the bills from this life, you suddenly realize that many so-called embarrassments are just wrapping paper designed to keep you quiet. Lu Huifeng lowered her voice. You've been together for so many years. Don't let a moment of impulsiveness ruin it all. Not just for a while, I said. It's been many times. She looked at me, a hint of scrutiny in her eyes. Are you seeing someone else? The shop instantly fell silent. Song Ji was just coming out with a bowl of noodles when she heard this and nearly spilled the soup all over the place. My mother's face darkened. I held her hand and spoke up myself. Auntie, when a woman doesn't want to get married, it doesn't necessarily mean she has someone else. It could also mean she has finally found herself. When these words were spoken, even the kitchen exhaust fan seemed to fall silent. Lu Huifeng stared at me for a long moment, then pushed the gift box a little closer and said, "Take the bird's nest, don't burn your bridges." I pushed the gift box back toward her. "Please take it back. I'm selling noodles now, not stewing bird's nest for the time being. Life is sticky enough as it is. I don't need any more collagen." Grandma Li couldn't help but let out a chuckle. Lu Huifeng picked up the gift box, turned around, and walked out the door. After she left, my mom picked up the stack of receipts and her eyes suddenly reddened. "When did you get that done?" "Last night, alone." My mom gently stroked my head and said softly, "If you don't want to get married this time, then don't. Your dad can cut radishes, I can keep the accounts, and you can make noodles. We won't starve." My dad added from the kitchen, "You can still get fat." I was laughing so hard that I almost cried into my soup. 07 South wind rekindles the fire. On the third day of the evening market's reopening, a small queue formed outside Nanfeng restaurant. Sounds inspiring, but the reality is that Granny Li posted a photo of beef brisket noodles in her senior ladies group with the caption, "This broth is more sincere than my daughter-in-law's words." The old sisters all rushed forward during the dinner rush. The shop was packed with middle-aged couples and young office workers from nearby buildings who had just finished their shifts. A young man in a shirt slurped up his last mouthful of noodles, looked up, and asked me, "Boss, do you have any meal combos? Can we order for our company's overtime shifts?" I was holding 2 bowls of noodles and nearly kicked the bucket on the spot. In my past life, I had also come up with a lunchbox plan, calculating the menu, costs, and delivery range, but back then, Zhou Xiaoya said, "You're already busy, adding delivery work will only tire you out more. We're getting married soon, it's better to keep things stable." Keep things stable, those 3 words were like a well-behaved lid, sealing away my ideas. For 3 whole years I'd blown the lid off this life, and the soup is still boiling. I left my number with the young guy, and after closing up for the night, I dragged Song Ji along to work on the menu. Song Ji studied design in college and now works as a freelance illustrator. Quick-witted and quick with words, she said, Your shop name is a bit rustic, but it has deep roots. Southwind Kitchen sounds like it could fill you up just by blowing in your direction. I rolled my eyes at her. Are you here to help or to hold a funeral for my sign? Help me out. She pushed the paper toward me. For the community dinner and company bento boxes, the key isn't variety, it's consistency. Your dad's braised meats are the ace in the hole, and your tomato beef brisket is the crowd pleaser. Throw in 2 veggie sides, and that's enough. I nodded. The next day, Xia Yanqing arrived. He was my high school classmate. Now he works in community business planning, wears silver-rimmed glasses, speaks slowly, and has a smirk that's a bit annoying. Back in high school, he tried to pursue me for 3 days. On the 4th day, I found out he had even used an essay template to write his love letter. From then on, any romantic feelings died before they could bloom, while our friendship grew strong and steady. As soon as he walked in, he said, Su Qingyang, I heard you're single again and your career's looking up. I'm here to invest in a bowl of noodles. I served him the most expensive bowl of beef brisket noodles. Start with an investment of 18 bucks. Xia Yanqing finished eating, wiped his mouth, and said, the taste hasn't changed, but your temper has improved. Song Ji looked up from the side and said, she's in a better mood because she doesn't want to get married anymore, not because of you. Xia Yanqing chuckled, well, the marriage market took a big hit, but the catering industry is raking it in. He didn't come empty-handed, he brought along a proposal for a community nighttime dining pilot program, where several nearby residential complexes and office buildings are looking to partner with a reliable restaurant to provide pre-ordered meals for the elderly, night shift workers, and overtime staff. The requirements are straightforward: clean food, punctual delivery, and stable pricing. My heart started racing as I read through the documents. This is exactly the path I wanted to pursue in my past life but never got a chance to. Xia Yanqing tapped the table. You've got the skills, the regulars, and the location. What you're missing is a streamlined process and an online gateway. I can set up a mini program for you. No upfront cost, just a cut per order down the line. I looked at him warily. Why are you suddenly being so nice? He adjusted his glasses and said, I've always been a good person, it's just that my high school essay skills let my character down. Song Ji burst out laughing. I didn't agree right away. I took the documents home and stayed up all night poring over them, crunching numbers until the early hours. Jiang He sat with me behind the checkout counter, swapping the abacus for a calculator. The keys clicked and clattered like a string of small firecrackers. After hearing the plan, my dad was silent for a long time before saying, if you're going to do it, just do it. Don't be afraid of the hard work. I looked at him. He lowered his head, sharpening the knife, his voice muffled. Last time you closed the night market, I didn't stop you because I thought you were happy being married. Now that you want to reopen it, I won't stop you either. This stove at home, whoever wants to cook on it, can. My nose tingled with tears. On the 3rd day, Xia Yanqing and I signed the memorandum of cooperation. As I put pen to paper, my palms were sweaty, but my mind was clear. Zhou Zhaoye arrived at that very moment. He stood at the doorway, saw me sitting side by side with Xia Yanqing, the documents spread out on the table, and his expression darkened visibly. Xia Yanqing looked up with a grin. Officer Zhou, care to join me for a meal? Zhou Zhaoye's gaze fell on the pen in my hand. Are you two discussing something? I put the contract away and said, a partnership with the eatery. You can talk to me about this kind of thing. I looked at him and asked calmly, will you support me? He didn't answer right away. The old him would have frowned first, asking if I was tired, if there were risks. Why I had to go through all the trouble this time. It was as if he chewed on his words before saying, if you want to do it, I can help you look into the safety and delivery routes. I'm a bit surprised. Xia Yanqing lifted his teacup and took a leisurely jab. Not bad. Officer Zhou didn't once say stay grounded today. That's worth noting. Zhou Zhaoye shot him a cold glance. I almost laughed out loud. It turns out even jealousy can make a man better. 08. The subject is still her, as you explained. The first batch of orders for the pop-up trial at the eatery were 20 dinners from a design company in a nearby office building. My dad and I started prepping ingredients at 4 p.m. Jiang He was in charge of packing, and Song Ji affixed handwritten labels to each meal box. Eat well today. Don't let your boss think you survive on coffee. I said she was too mushy. She said, workers need some spiritual sweetness. Don't be stingy. At 6:30 in the evening, Xia Yanqing drove over to pick up the meal. He loaded the food container into the trunk and was about to leave when Lin Jiao's call came through on my phone. I stared at the screen for 2 seconds, then picked up. Her voice was soft. Qingyang, I'm at your store in trance. I looked up. She stood across the street, a suitcase at her side, looking as if the wind had knocked all the spirit out of her. I walked out. What's up? Lin Jiao's eyes were red and swollen. I had a fight with my mom. I can't stay at home anymore. Zhao Yu won't pick up my calls. I don't know who else to turn to. After she finished speaking, she glanced at Xia Yanqing, then at me, with a familiar look of grievance in her eyes. It suddenly hit me. She wasn't at a loss for who to turn to. She knew Zhou Xiaoya had stopped picking up, so she came straight to me. The root of the problem. There's a hotel nearby, I said. There are also friends, colleagues, and relatives. You have plenty of people to choose from, but I'm really scared. She gripped the suitcase handle tightly. Xiaoya always helped me before. I looked at her, feeling not upset but rather exhausted. Some people use an umbrella handed to them for so long that they forget they can buy one themselves. Worse still, they start to believe the umbrella was meant to be left at their doorstep. Xia Yanqing leaned against the car, saying nothing. Lin Jiao's tears fell. Qingyang, did you tell Zhao Yi to stop looking after me? I don't have that authority, I said. I just won't foot the bill for you anymore on his behalf. She froze. Just then, Zhou Xiaoya's car pulled over by the roadside. He got out of the car quickly, clearly having rushed over after receiving word. Spotting the luggage, he frowned. Jiao, what are you doing here? Lin Jiao looked as if she had finally spotted a lifeline. Xiaoya, my mom said I'm always bothering you, that I'm shameless. I really didn't mean to. I just. Before she could finish speaking, tears started falling again. Zhou Xiaoya stood before her, his shoulders tensing slightly. I know that move all too well. In the previous life, whenever Lin Jiao cried, he would act like this. A rush of responsibility, old feelings, and protectiveness surged up, pushing me aside. I turned around to go back to the store. Zhou Xiaoya spoke up. Jiao, I'll have Ya Cheng'an take you to your cousin's place. Lin Jiao froze. Aren't you going to see me off? It's not convenient for me right now. Zhou Xiaoya glanced at me, then looked away. Besides, you're an adult now. Running away from home isn't the way to solve things. You need to talk to your mom, and you also need to find your own support system. Tears clung to Lin Jia's lashes, as if she couldn't process that this umbrella had suddenly stopped opening on its own. Zhou Xiaoya made a phone call, his tone brief. A few minutes later, his colleague drove over and picked up Lin Jiao. Before getting into the car, she looked at me with a mix of resentment and bewilderment in her eyes. After the car drove away, the street fell silent. Zhou Xiaoya walked up to me and said, I can explain what just happened. I looked at him and replied, see, even when you explain, the subject is still her. He opened his mouth, but the words caught in his throat. Xia Yanqing coughed awkwardly at the most inappropriate moment. I turned to glare at him, and he immediately raised his hand. I'm not laughing, I just choked on realism. Zhou Xiaoya ignored him. He whispered, I know what my problem was before. Knowing is easy, I said. The hard part is doing it again next time. I'll change. I've heard that before. I've heard it so many times in my past life that I could knit a scarf for Granny Lee with all those words. But today, he really didn't follow Lin Jiao. He handed the person over to the right one, and didn't push me into the role of being the understanding one. I can't pretend not to notice that. I nodded. Go ahead. His eyes lit up slightly. Then we haven't reconciled. I cut in. You do your thing, I'll do mine. Don't mistake your growth for my obligation. The light in Zhou Xiaoya's eyes slowly dimmed, but he didn't argue. Xia Yanqing loaded the last box of meals into the car and deliberately raised his voice. Boss Su, the order is going to be late. Love can wait, but the workers' dinner can't. I snapped back to reality. Hurry up, hurry up. Don't make the client think we deliver based on our moods. The car drove off, and I went back to the shop to continue working. Zhou Xiaoya stood at the door, not coming inside. Through the glass, I saw him look down, send a message, and put his phone back into his pocket. He didn't press me for answers, didn't push me, nor did he use that night to bargain for my turning back. This is probably already a huge challenge for him, but I don't want to be anyone's test case for the rest of my life. 09 Guarding the goal is not just marking time. The trial orders at Nanfeng restaurant have been running for half a month, with a stability that's almost unsettling. I'm not scared because it's bad, but because in my past life, I never had this feeling of being caught by my own life. Every morning when I wake up, it's not about what time Zhou Xiaoya gets off work, whether his mom needs to bring him dinner, or if Lin Jiao is going to call again. Instead, it's whether there's enough beef brisket for today, whether I should upgrade the lunch boxes, and whether the rice is a bit hard. And customer feedback is actually a dig at my dad. My dad was indignant about it. The rice is too hard, he's got soft teeth, and that's my fault, Jiang-hee remarked casually from the side. You didn't add enough water last time. My dad paused for 3 seconds and said, that's a problem with the rice. When the family bickered, I sat at the doorstep replying to orders, feeling deeply at ease. So at ease that even Zhou Xiaoya coming to eat every day couldn't pull me out of that sense of calm. He began to learn not to disturb. Sometimes when he passes by on patrol, he'd order a takeout. Other times when he gets off work late and there's only half a bowl of braised food left, he doesn't complain. And sometimes when he sees I'm busy, he'll scan the code to pay and take his tray to the return station himself, behaving like a grown man who has finally figured out how a buffet works. Song Ji commented, ex-husband dude has evolved, from a big dog to a big dog that knows how to cue. I said, he's not quite an ex-husband yet, we never got the certificate. She said through bites of a cucumber, then call him a pre-made ex-husband. I almost threw the ledger in her face. One evening, the security guard from the marriage registration office came to the noodle shop. He recognized me, took his bowl, and sat in a corner. Halfway through his meal, he suddenly said, Miss, that young man from last time, he really did stay outside the gate all night. The spoon in my hand paused. The old man, thinking I didn't believe him, added, he stood at first, then sat on the steps in the dead of night. The mosquitoes were swarming around him like they were holding a meeting, but he still didn't leave. I told him to go back, but he said he couldn't sleep anyway until the person he was waiting for showed up. Several customers in the store pricked up their ears. I placed a small dish of pickles on the old man's table. Please, help yourself. The old man wisely shut his mouth, then turned and exchanged a look with Granny Lee that said, these young people sure have stories to tell. Zhou Xiaoya came that very night. When he walked in, I was refilling the old man's soup. The old man's eyes lit up at the sight of him. Hey, young man, you're here too. I really wanted to shove the soup spoon into the old man's mouth. Zhou Xiaoya clearly recognized him too, his expression turning awkward. Hello. The old man held his bowl, very enthusiastic. Have you two made up yet? The air instantly ripened, so ripe you could serve it as a dish. I closed the ledger and said, Uncle, today I'll give you a 10% discount on the brisket, and you can cut down on 9/10 of your questions. The old man chuckled softly as he lowered his head to eat noodles. Zhou Xiaoya walked up to the counter and said in a low voice, sorry, I didn't expect him to bring that up. It's nothing. I handed him the takeout box. A lot of people probably know you stayed up all night. I don't mean to put pressure on you. I know. He looked at me. What do you think? I placed the change into his palm, my fingertips accidentally brushing against his hand. His hand was still warm, with a hint of calluses on the palm. I used to love holding this hand, feeling safe, as if he would shield me from the storms ahead. It wasn't until later that I realized, when he stepped in front, it often wasn't for me. Zhou Xiaoya, I said, keeping watch isn't about counting the days. His fingers tightened. I continued, if you stood outside the Civil Affairs Bureau all night, I would soften and feel bad. But I can't forget the 3 years I was frozen just because you froze for one night. His eyes slowly reddened. The lights in the shop dimmed softly, and the soup in the pot was still bubbling. Between us stood the counter, 2 lifetimes worth of old grudges, and the belated sense of boundaries he was only now beginning to learn. He asked, so do I still have a chance? The words were spoken softly, less like a cross-examination and more like he was finally uncertain. I didn't answer immediately. The wind chime by the door tinkled as the evening breeze brushed past. I didn't give you this opportunity, I said. You earned it, step by step. If you can make it happen, I'll see it. If you can't, I won't keep lying to myself either. Zhou Xiaoya nodded, carrying the takeout box. He walked to the door and turned back to look at me. I'm on the night shift tomorrow, so I won't be coming for dinner. The day after, if I don't get called in for overtime, I'll be here. That sentence sounded ordinary, yet it made me pause. He never used to talk like that. He always says, I'll try, says when I'm done, says don't wait too long. It sounds gentle, but it's like putting hope in a shell with no expiration date. This time, he told me the specific time, as well as the parts he wasn't sure about. I lowered my head and wiped the counter. Got it. After he left, Songji poked her head out from the kitchen and quipped, Tisk, looks like the pre-made ex-husband learned to put an expiration date on himself. I grabbed a scallion and threw it at her. She dodged with a laugh. I laughed too. After the laughter faded, the tightness in my chest didn't loosen, but it no longer felt as hard as before. 10 Lu Huifeng's tea. Lu Huifeng came the second time with the 2 aunts from the Zhou family. They picked 2 in the afternoon, when the restaurant had the fewest customers. As they walked in, They first looked around, their expressions like they were inspecting a daughter-in-law to see if she met factory standards. I was marinating chicken wings in the back kitchen, my hands covered in sauce. Jianghe was about to head out, so I stopped her and washed my own hands. Lu Huifeng sat down, her tone softer than last time. Qingyang, I'm not here to argue today. I nodded. Should we order first? She choked on her words. Aunt Zhou beside her smiled and smoothed things over. This child, still so sweet with words. We've already eaten. How about some tea then? I poured 3 cups of barley tea, on the house here, and help yourself to refills. Aunt Zhou took a sip from her cup and came straight to the point. Qingyang, that boy Zhao is pretty stubborn. Since you stirred up this talk of breaking off the engagement, he hasn't been able to eat or sleep properly at home. You two have been together for so many years, ending it all so suddenly would be such a shame. I sat down across from them. No regrets. 3 people looked at me at the same time in a flat tone. I said, too bad they're clearly not right for each other and still insist on getting married. Another aunt frowned. Why isn't he suitable? Zhaoye has a decent job, good character, doesn't smoke or fool around. At your age, you might not find anyone better if you keep looking. I laughed. Auntie, are you trying to talk me into marriage or bargaining for a second-hand house? Jianghe coughed behind the cash register, nearly spitting out the barley tea. Lu Huifeng's expression shifted. Qingyang, what the elders say may be blunt, but it's all for your own good. I know. I looked at her, but all your for my own good talk just ends up being about sending me back. Lu Huifeng remained silent. I took out what I had prepared long ago. It wasn't evidence, nor was it an accusation. It was just a piece of paper, listing the arrangements for my married life with Zhou Zhaoye, all things that had truly happened in my past life. Moving closer to his workplace added 40 minutes to my commute. Closing the evening market cut the restaurant's income by 30%. Having dinner at his family's place twice a week meant I had to squeeze in time for my own parents. When he gets called away on sudden tasks, I'm left to handle both sides of the relatives on my own. As for Lin Jia's matter, he says he'll help if he can, but when I say I'm uncomfortable with it, he tells me I'm overthinking. Lu Huifeng looked at the paper, her brows slowly knitting together. None of this has happened yet. Yes, I said, so I don't want that to happen. She stared at me with an indescribable look of doubt in her eyes. I can't talk about being reborn. Nor do I need to. When someone steps back from the edge of a fiery pit, they don't have to prove to others that they were truly burned. Aunt Zhou pushed the paper back. Marriage can't be counted that clearly. Life together is about making compromises. Compromise works, I said, but it can't be a one-way street. Lu Huifeng finally spoke up. Zhaoye is already changing. He's even been taking fewer calls from Zhiao lately. You have to give him some time. I looked at her and suddenly found it all a bit absurd. In her past life, she said Lin Zhiao was pitiful and told me to be magnanimous. In this life, she said Zhou Zhaoye was changing and asked me to give him time. They always find a reason to put my life on hold. Auntie, I said softly, Zhou Zhaoye changing his ways is his business, me not marrying him is my business. These two things can't be bundled together. Lu Huifeng's hand tightened around the cup. She whispered, then what will it take for you to come back? I thought about it. I didn't lose anything along the way, so there's no turning back, I said. I just took a different path. The shop quieted down and outside, children passed by after school, the metal buckles on their backpacks jingling softly. The sound was faint, yet it cracked open some of the stiffness inside the room. Lu Huifeng stood up and said no more. At the door, she turned back to look at me. Qingyang, did I ever make you feel wronged in the past? This question came out of nowhere. I looked at her. In my past life, I resented her for always burdening me with the label of police family, for believing that just because I was capable, I should do more, for doting on her son while forgetting that someone else's daughter could also grow weary. But at this moment, standing in the doorway, her silhouette was less like the mistress of the Zhou family and more like a mother who had finally realized she, too, was complicit in this debt of guilt. I didn't use harsh words. Ma'am, you're just too protective of your son. Her eyes flickered slightly. I added, but my mom also feels sorry for her daughter. Lu Huifeng nodded, picked up her bag, and left. Jianghe came over to collect the cups, wiping the table as she lowered her head. What you just said was pretty good, I deliberately asked. Which line? She glanced at me and said, the part about bargaining for a second-hand house. I laughed out loud. She laughed too, but as she did, the corners of her eyes grew slightly moist. Lin Jiao's Moments. The day Lin Jiao posted on Moments, the mini-program for Nanfeng restaurant had just gone live. Song Ji drew a little wind chime icon on the page, and Xia Yanqing made the ordering process run smoothly. On the first day of launch, the number of orders exceeded expectations, and I was so busy that I didn't get a chance to drink water until 9 in the evening. I had just taken a sip of water when Song Ji handed me her phone. On Lin Jiao's Moments screenshot, there was only one sentence: some bonds need no proof, those who understand always will, while those who don't only force a choice. Below someone commented, sending hugs to Jiao, don't let yourself be treated unfairly. Someone also asked, is that person causing trouble again? Looking at the screenshot, I suddenly felt like laughing. These days, not naming names on social media actually makes the attack more widespread. It's like tossing a handful of flour into a crowd, whoever coughs becomes the suspect. Song Ji slammed the table in fury. Isn't she throwing shade at you? Want me to log in and handle it? What are you logging in for? I'll roast her without a single curse word. Pure intellectual savagery. I pushed the phone back. Ignore it. Aren't you angry? I am. I picked up my water glass, but I'm too busy right now to be her free traffic. In my past life, I dreaded this kind of vague accusation the most. Whenever Lin Jiao puts on an act of being wronged, people around her automatically fill in the plot. The more I try to explain, the more petty I look. If I don't explain, I seem guilty of something. In the end, Zhou Xiaoya would come and tell me, she didn't name names, so don't take it personally. I remember that line too. A knife that isn't aimed at you by name still hurts when it cuts. Half an hour later, Zhou Xiaoya showed up. He walked in with his phone in hand, looking a bit off. I thought he was about to explain himself again, so I had already prepared the line. This shop doesn't offer emotional after-sales service. To my surprise, he handed me his phone. His latest WeChat post was displayed on the screen. Adults shouldn't expect others to uphold their boundaries for them. My personal matters end here. Please don't speculate about anyone, and don't bother Su Qingyang. No image attached. The tone is very much Zhou Xiaoya's, straight, stiff, like the please line up sign at the police station entrance. I was stunned for a moment. Song Ji leaned over to look and clicked her tongue. Ex-husband didn't play both sides this time. Zhou Xiaoya glanced at her, as if wanting to argue about the way she addressed him, but he held back in the end. I handed the phone back to him. Aren't you afraid this will embarrass Lin Jiao? He was silent for a moment. She'll feel embarrassed, but it's something I should have done long ago. You didn't used to think that way. I used to think that as long as I had a clear conscience, you should trust me. He looked at me. Now I know that in an intimate relationship, making someone else uncomfortable for a long time is itself the problem. I lowered my head to twist the cap, pressing my fingertips against the plastic ridges. If this had been in my past life, I would have thrown myself into his arms right away, packed up all my grievances and stored them away, telling myself that he finally understood. After being reborn, I learned one thing: people changing for the better deserves to be noticed. But that doesn't mean I have to reward them immediately. It's good that you think that way, I said. A flicker of disappointment passed through Zhou Xiaoya's eyes, but he quickly suppressed it. I'm not here for an answer. Then what are you here for? He placed a receipt on the counter. Order 20 portions of late-night snacks and have them delivered to the station. Everyone's working overtime and wants to eat your food. I looked at the note on the receipt: less spice, extra veggies, and just deliver it on time. This order is substantial. I'll take it. Business to business or personal to personal? Zhou Xiaoya said. It's a personal matter, so I'll treat them. Xia Yanqing just came out of the kitchen, overheard this, and chimed in with a smile. Officer Zhou, wouldn't you call this mending a relationship through orders? Zhou Xiaoya glanced at him. Not really. She's running a business, and I'm just buying a meal. Their eyes met, and the air felt like two cats hissing at each other through a pane of glass. I tapped the counter. You too, take your duel across the street. Don't mess with the boss's business. Song Ji was beside herself with laughter. Once the late-night snack was ready, Zhou Xiaoya didn't ask me to deliver it. He called a courier and stood at the shop in trance waiting until the rider picked it up before turning around to leave. Before leaving, he said, when it comes to things in our circle of friends, I won't let you face them alone anymore. I didn't say anything. He didn't even wait for my response. The streetlight dragged his shadow to the doorstep, only to have it severed by the glass door. In that moment, I suddenly recalled a past life. He always had me shield him from the wind, yet never realized that I, too, could feel cold this time. It seems he has finally caught the wave. 12 Dad's radish soup. My dad's birthday. The restaurant closed for half a day. Su Huichuan claimed he wasn't celebrating his birthday. But from 6 in the morning, he was already pacing around the kitchen. First, he complained that the fish I bought wasn't fresh enough, then he griped that Jianghe scallion slices were too thick. In the end, my mom shot him a glare that pinned him by the stove, and he had no choice but to quietly tend to his radish soup. Planning a birthday party is more stressful than preparing a state banquet, Jianghe said as she set the table. Anyone would think you're hosting foreign dignitaries today, my father snorted. What do you know, when you get old, a birthday is all about the sense of ceremony, I said. Dad, your sense of ceremony smells like ribs. He glared at me. Watch your mouth. At noon, relatives began arriving one after another. Social interactions in the old neighborhood are simple. Bring some fruit, a little tea, sit down for a meal, exchange a few wish you good health, and casually ask about the aftermath of my broken engagement. My aunt had barely sat down for 5 minutes before she asked, Qingyang, are the Zhous still contacting you? I picked up a piece of greens with my chopsticks. Connection, what do you think? Being a cop is great, stable, respectable. I laughed. Auntie, it's the job of a police officer that's stable, not the marriage. For a moment, the table fell silent. My dad immediately put a spare rib on my cousin's plate. Eat, stop asking. My daughter's allergic to the word decent these days. The relatives laughed, and the atmosphere loosened up again. Halfway through the meal, Zhou Xiaoya showed up. He stood at the door, holding 2 boxes of tea and a small cake, looking a bit awkward. This was the first time I'd seen him so uneasy in my home. In my past life, every time he came over, he'd be surrounded by compliments, young and promising, with a respectable job, dependable and steady, like a trophy that could put on its own shoes. My dad was taken aback when he saw him. Zhou Xiaoya put down the gift. Happy birthday, uncle. Sorry for dropping by so suddenly. My mom looked at me. I had no idea he was coming. Zhou Xiaoya added, I won't stay for dinner, I'm just dropping off the gift. His words made many in the room look away, no longer interested in the spectacle. My dad wiped his hands and walked over to take the package. Since you're here, stay for a bit. Zhou Xiaoya didn't sit down, standing straight instead. Uncle, I didn't do well in the past, I caused Qingyang a lot of pain, and I made you worry too. My father held the tea canister, saying nothing. The air in the room slowly grew still. Zhou Xiaoya continued, the annulment wasn't Qingyang's capriciousness, it was my fault. If relatives or friends ask in the future, you can say that. The Zhou family's reputation shouldn't be something she has to bear for us. A sudden, gentle tremor stirred in my heart. In his past life, he had never taken responsibility publicly like this. He was always silent. Silence was like a cloth, covering up all the awkwardness, and covering me too. My aunt put down her chopsticks, her eyes unreadable. My father stared at Zhou Xiaoya for a long time, then suddenly asked, do you know which piece of radish Qingyang likes in the radish soup? This question came out of nowhere. Zhou Xiaoya was stunned. I was also stunned. My dad pointed at the pot and said, when she was little, she loved eating the part near the bone, slow cooked until tender, but not falling apart, you know. Zhou Xiaoya's lips moved slightly. I don't know. It's not surprising you don't know, my dad said in a low voice. You're busy, you've got big things to deal with, but life is made up of these little things. Which piece of meat she likes, whether she feels cold, whether she puts on a brave face when she's tired, no one's going to remember those for you. Zhou Xiaoya lowered his head. My dad set the tea on the table and said, you're a good cop, I'll give you that, but my daughter isn't the dispatch office of your unit. You can't just dump every problem on her doorstep. When those words fell, I barely held back tears. Jianghe sat beside me and gently squeezed my hand. Zhou Xiaoya looked up, his voice hoarse. Uncle, I'll remember. My dad nodded. Remembering isn't enough, you have to follow through. We won't keep you for dinner today, not that you're unwelcome, but your matter hasn't reached the point where we can all sit at the same table. Zhou Xiaoya showed neither embarrassment nor made any excuses. He pushed the cake to the edge of the table and said, I'll head off first then. Take your time with the cake, Auntie and Uncle. As he turned and walked out, the sunlight was just right, falling gently on his shoulders. Sitting at the table, I suddenly realized I was no longer in a rush to make excuses for him like I did in my past life. Whether he can be understood as his business, whether I can protect myself as mine. After the meal, my dad ladled me a bowl of turnip soup, making sure to pick the piece closest to the bone. Eat up, he said, don't just keep staring at whether others have changed, you've got to fill your own stomach too. I lowered my head and took a bite. The radish was stewed so tender that the steam hit my eyes. feeling a bit hot. 13 The eatery got bad reviews since the launch of Nanfeng Restaurant's mini program. Orders have been pouring in, and so have the headaches. First, someone spammed negative reviews on the platform, claiming our food was unhygienic and made them feel sick afterward. Then, several new accounts started stirring things up in the comments, saying things like old street shops offer no guarantees and the owner's been unstable since the engagement fell through. She cooks with resentment. I was so furious that I laughed when I read the last sentence. Songji said even more bluntly, has this guy never tasted your cooking? When you cook with a grudge, you just add extra chili, you don't make it unclean. The negative reviews came in a concentrated batch, all sounding like they were copied and pasted. Xia Yanqing checked the back end, the shipping addresses were scattered, and all the phone numbers were new. He frowned, looks like someone is deliberately targeting you. My dad stood there holding the spatula, his face as dark as overbraised chicken wings. Who's the bastard who did this? Jiang. He was much calmer. Stop arguing for now, sort out the kitchen, procurement, sample retention, and surveillance footage, make public what needs to be made public, and explain what needs to be explained. I nodded. In my past life, whenever something like this happened, my first instinct was always to turn to Zhou Xiaoya, not because he could fix it for me, but because I had gotten used to parking my sense of security with him. But in this life, I don't want to become someone who just reaches out and waits for others to pull me up. We stayed up all night organizing the supplier invoices, kitchen sanitation records, and sample preservation photos. Song Ji wrote a restrained response, but the ending was very much her style. Welcome oversight, reject rumors. Food can go cold, but keep your conscience clean. After reading it, I said, isn't the last line a bit too strong? Song Ji, they've already forced you to admit you cook with resentment, so what's wrong with us calling them malicious in return? The next day, after the response was posted, regular customers flooded the comments with their support. Granny Lee even used her account with a floral avatar to comment, I've been eating it for 20 years, my stomach's in great shape, and my taste buds are just fine. Don't believe me? Come argue with me. I almost laughed till I cried. But the matter isn't over yet. At 10 o'clock in the evening, a man came to the storefront causing a scene, claiming he had food poisoning and demanding compensation. He was shouting loudly, slamming the table, scaring several customers into getting up and leaving immediately. My dad was about to rush out, but I stopped him. I walked into the front hall. Which day did you buy it? Let me see the order. The man slammed his phone on the table and snapped, cut the crap, pay up. I glanced at the screen. The order number didn't belong to our shop at all. He probably didn't expect me to check that carefully. His eyes flickered for a moment. This isn't an order from Nanfeng Restaurant, I said. You've got the wrong place. Flushed with anger and humiliation, he raised his hand and was about to shove the lunchbox off the table. Someone came in through the door and grabbed him by the wrist. Zhou Xiaoya, dressed in plain clothes, said coldly, let's talk this out. No need for violence. The man's confidence faltered the moment he saw him. Who the hell are you? Just passing through to grab a bite, Zhou Xiaoya said. Also a cop. The man's face darkened even more. Zhou Xiaoya didn't take my side. He simply asked the man to produce the order, medical certificate, and payment records. The man stammered, finally spat out, you guys are something, and turned to leave. Zhou Xiaoya stopped him, causing trouble and then leaving just like that. The man froze. Zhou Xiaoya said calmly, apologize to the shopkeeper. The man muttered an unwilling sorry and scrambled faster than undercooked noodles. The shop fell silent. My dad, gripping the spatula, muttered under his breath, coward. I breathed a sigh of relief and turned to look at Zhou Xiaoya. He didn't take credit for it, simply asking, did you secure the evidence? Kept? What about the platform, filing an appeal? He nodded. If you need me to provide a statement about what just happened at the scene, I can write it up as an ordinary witness. As for the rest, just follow your standard procedures. I'm a bit surprised. He used to take everything on his own shoulders when helping others, but this time, he didn't rush ahead to solve things for me, nor did he shield me from behind. He just stood by my side, steadying what needed to be steadied. Xia Yanqing came out of the kitchen, glanced at Zhou Xiaoya, and said, thanks, Zhou. Xiaoya looked at him and said, you're welcome. This time, the two of them didn't quarrel. I walked to the door and saw a figure hurrying away across the street. It looked a bit like Lin Zhiyao, but the lights were dim, so I couldn't see clearly. Zhou Xiaoya followed my gaze and asked, what's wrong? It's nothing. He didn't press further, nor did he judge for me. A night breeze drifted into the shop, carrying a hint of chill. I cleaned up the spilled lunchbox, my fingers sticky with the sauce. Zhou Xiaoya handed me a tissue. "I'll take it, thank you," he said. "You handled that well just now." I chuckled. Boss Su's motto is to check orders first when anything happens, so scammers can't get free emotional kicks. Zhou Xiaoya laughed too. That faint smile suddenly reminded me of him when we first fell in love. Back then, he hadn't yet been hardened into a stone by responsibilities and routines. He would still sit with me on the street eating roasted sweet potatoes, and laugh for ages. When I peeled the skin into the shape of a map, people can turn bad, and they can turn good too. It takes time to improve. I'm not rushing to draw a conclusion. 14 old wedding dress. The bad review saga ended up not being Lin Jia's doing. It was the new chain fast food joint at the end of the street that had hired people to stir things up. The owner thought we were stealing their late-night orders and wanted to scare off our small shop. After the platform handled it, the bad reviews were removed. And they came by to apologize. After listening, my dad stood at the door with his arms crossed. So what if they're a chain? Does being a chain give them the right to bully Nanfeng? My radish soup has a 20-year chain vibe too. It links from my pot straight to the stomachs of the old neighborhood. Song Ji clapped and said, "Uncle Su, it's a loss to the industry that you don't do stand-up comedy." After the whole thing blew over, the restaurant got even more popular. Old customers felt we could stand up to scrutiny, while new ones realized this little place had something special. Seizing the moment, Xia Yanqing helped me land a second office building order. I've been so busy I barely had time to breathe, and I almost forgot there's one more thing to take care of after the broken engagement. The bridal shop called to say that the modified version of the wedding dress I ordered earlier is ready, and asked if I still want to pick it up. I was stunned for a few seconds. I wore that wedding dress in my past life on our wedding day. Zhou Xiaoya had promised to stay by my side the entire time, but half an hour before the ceremony, Lin Jiao suddenly started crying outside the dressing room, saying her mother had gone missing again, and she was trembling so badly she could barely stand. Zhou Xiaoya looked at me, his eyes full of apology. I remember sitting on the sofa in my wedding dress, its train spreading across the floor like a flower forced into full bloom. He said, "Let me go check, I'll be right back." I didn't stop him. The ceremony was delayed by 20 minutes. By the time he rushed back, the master of ceremonies was drenched in sweat from sheer anxiety. All the guests were staring at me. His relatives from the Zhou family whispered that a police officer's job is demanding, while my relatives from the Su family remarked that the bride should be understanding and broad-minded. I stood on stage, smiling so hard my face froze. Everyone praised me for being so mature that day. No one asked me if I was willing. In this life, I stood at the entrance of a bridal shop and saw through the glass that white gown hanging inside. Its layers of skirt cascaded, and when the light fell upon it, it was truly beautiful. The shop assistant saw me coming and enthusiastically greeted me. "Miss Su, how about trying it on? Even though the wedding date has changed, you can take the wedding dress home for now." I shook my head. "I won't take it." "Can I change it for something else?" The shop assistant was taken aback. "Something else?" I looked at the white tulle and suddenly said, "Change it into an evening gown, no train, no veil, something I can walk in, go on stage in, and lift the hem myself." The shop assistant hesitated. "Altering a wedding gown into a dress will cause a lot of fabric loss." "That's okay." She had probably seen too many people suddenly call off their weddings, and there was a hint of caution in her eyes. "Are you sure?" I nodded. "Yes, I'm sure." Just as she finished speaking, the wind chime at the door rang. Zhou Xiaoya walked in. He paused when he saw the wedding dress. The shop assistant's eyes lit up instantly, probably thinking this was some kind of reconciliation scene. Even holding their breath, I turned around. "What are you doing here?" "The bridal shop called me too," he said. "They said they couldn't reach you." I took out my phone and realized I missed the call because I was busy this morning. Zhou Xiaoya approached the wedding dress, reaching out as if to touch it, before ultimately pulling his hand back. "You're going to change it, MHM?" he asked softly. "Not even a little." I looked at myself in the mirror, wearing a plain t-shirt, my hair tied up casually, with traces of flour on the back of my hand from kneading dough this morning. More than in that wedding dress, I look more like myself now. "The wedding dress isn't at fault," I said. "It just shouldn't have to keep standing guard for that wedding anymore." Zhou Xiaoya closed his eyes. The shop assistant quietly stepped aside, so engrossed in the gossip that their professionalism was nearly shattered. Zhou Xiaoya took a small box out of his pocket and placed it in front of me. It was a ring. When he put it on me in our past life, his fingers trembled slightly. I thought it was love back then, but only later did I realize it might have been the first time he understood he was taking on someone's entire life, yet hadn't learned how to bear it. "Here, this is yours too." he said. I didn't take it. Keep it, I said. If I keep it, it'll feel like I'm forcing you. You're giving it back to me. But it feels like you're forcing me. I looked at him. Zhou Xiaoya, can you go just one day without asking me for answers about the past? His fingers froze. I softened my voice. The ring, the wedding dress, that night at the Civil Affairs Bureau, none of those are answers. How you live your life now, that's what matters. He slowly put the box back. Okay, the word was barely a whisper. I thought he would leave, but instead he turned to the shop assistant. Does altering the dress cost extra? I'll pay. I frowned immediately. No need, he said. Then I won't pay. I was at a loss for words. Zhou Xiaoya looked at me, a faint smile in his eyes. I'm learning to respect the boss's opinions now. The store assistant couldn't help but turn around and chuckle. I glared at him. You learn fast, after being jilted by you. My insight has indeed sharpened. Hearing that from Zhou Xiaoya was like seeing a veteran cadre suddenly start posting Damaku. I couldn't help but chuckle, then quickly suppressed it. But he saw it. His eyes softened, but he didn't take the chance to move closer. He just stayed where he was, standing there with me until I finished signing the wedding gown alteration form. As I walked out of the bridal shop, the setting sun was warm, holding the alteration order. I suddenly felt that the old wedding dress wasn't so heavy anymore. It will have its train cut off, the hem shortened, and the intricate embellishments that require someone else to arrange for me removed. Just like myself, she's not a bad person. Lin Jiao came to see me again on a rainy afternoon that day. There were few customers in the shop. Rainwater dripped from the eaves into a plastic bucket by the door, the sound steady and rhythmic. She stood outside holding a clear umbrella, its surface covered in beads of water, as if she were carrying the entire gray sky on her head. I opened the door. Dinner, she shook her head. I want to have a word with you. I invited her in and poured her a cup of hot tea. She sat by the window, holding the cup in silence for a long time. She didn't cry, nor did she put on that fragile look from before, as if the slightest touch could break her. She looked exhausted, with dark circles under her eyes and the edges of her nails bitten red. I wasn't the one who left that bad review the other day, she said first. I know. She looked up at me, as if surprised that I answered so quickly. It's been looked into, I said. It's not you. She lowered her head, fingers tracing the rim of the cup. But you did suspect me, didn't you? I did. I didn't pretend to be magnanimous. She gave a bitter smile. That's fair. I really was quite insufferable before. I watched the rain outside the window. Lin Jiao wasn't a villain in the traditional sense. She wouldn't throw money in your face, tear up a wedding dress, or point a finger at you and curse. She was just too good at asking for help, too used to being caught, too skilled at carving out a place for herself in other people's relationships. Those are the worst kind of people, not bad enough to be clear-cut, but genuinely aggrieved. And when she hurt you, she wore that innocent look of I didn't want this either. She lowered her voice and said, my mom recently started going to the community daycare center. Zhou Xiaoya helped me set it up, but he didn't take her there himself. He just gave me the contact info and told me to handle the arrangements on my own. I was furious at first. She gave a strained smile. I thought he had changed, and that you were the one who made him that way. But later, when I handled the procedures myself, I realized it wasn't that hard. It's just that before, whenever I panicked, I'd turn to him first. I guess I'd been using fear as a universal pass. The rain grew heavier. I pushed the teapot toward her. Lin Jiao looked at me and said, Qingyang, did I used to come off like I was doing it on purpose? I thought about it and said, sometimes it does. Her eyes were red, but she didn't cry. My dad passed away early, she said. My mom is timid and needs someone to lean on for everything. Xiaoya has lived next door since we were kids, and his parents helped take care of us too. I got used to it. Whenever I called, he would come, but then he got you. And honestly, it stung. She finally said it out loud. No sugarcoating it as we're just friends. No brushing it off with you're overthinking it. Strangely, I didn't dislike her as much anymore. You're feeling unwell, so you take my seat, I asked. Her face turned pale. I said, not in a harsh tone, Lin Jiao, everyone has their wounds, but you can't use them as a ticket to just waltz into someone else's life. Her fingers whitened as she clenched the cup. After a long pause, she nodded. I'm sorry. This apology was neither too light nor too heavy, falling into the sound of rain without the syrupy, insincere undertones of a past life. I accept it, but I don't embrace it. Don't come looking for me so often from now on, I said. She was taken aback for a moment. I added, it's not that I hate you, it's just that we're not close enough for afternoon tea together. this drink today counts as after-sales service from Nanfeng restaurant. Once we're done, let's both go our separate ways." Lin Jiao froze, then smiled. There was embarrassment in that smile, along with a hint of relief. "Do you always talk this sharply?" "I never used to." "Tie it up," I said. Back then, I was going for the virtuous wife look, almost lost myself in the process. She laughed so hard that tears streamed down her face as the rain stopped. Zhou Xiaoye arrived. He stood at the doorway and, upon seeing Lin Jiao, was clearly taken aback. However, instead of walking straight toward her, he first glanced at me, his eyes asking a silent question. I nodded. Lin Jiao stood up and picked up her bag. "Xiaoya, I won't come to you for everything anymore, Zhou." Xiaoya was silent for a moment. "You can take care of yourself, I'll give it a try." She opened the umbrella and turned back to look at me. "Su Qingyang, you're pretty impressive." I thought for a moment. "Thanks, but it's mainly because I've been through the brink of death once." She didn't get it and thought I was joking. Zhou Xiaoya's gaze lingered on me, his eyes darkening slightly. After Lin Jiao walked away, he asked, "What did you just say?" "Say I'm awesome," the second half of the sentence. I turned around to collect the cups and said, "Officer Zhou, don't be too sharp as a person, or you'll end up single." He stood still and didn't press further, but I knew he was starting to have his doubts. 16 weeks afterwards, Zhou Xiaoyi asked about the previous life. After autumn arrived, the bento orders at Nanfeng restaurant stabilized. We hired 2 helpers, one named Xiaoman and the other Lu. Xiaoman is quick with his hands and talks a mile a minute. Lu is quiet, but his knife skills are steady. At first, my dad complained that young people don't know how to handle the heat in the kitchen, but 3 days later, he trusted Lu with the prep station without a second thought, though he still grumbled, "Barely passable." Xiaoman asked me privately, "Boss, has Uncle Su always been this subtle when praising people?" I said, "If he ever says you're good, you might as well start preparing your spot on the family tree." As the restaurant got busier, Zhou Xiaoya and I actually had less time to see each other. He never complained or showed up unannounced just to remind me of his presence. Before each visit, he would message me to ask if it was convenient. If I was busy, he wouldn't come. If I said yes, he would show up with a bag of fruit or a box of meal containers. Once I casually mentioned that the soy sauce in the shop was running out quickly, and the next day he brought over 2 jugs. Jiang He looked at the 2 jugs of soy sauce and remarked, "This is more practical than flowers." My father snorted beside me, bringing soy sauce as a gift to win someone over. Only he could come up with that. Jiang He looked at him and said, "When you were chasing me back then, all you gave me was a bag of potatoes." My dad immediately fell silent. I laughed so hard I almost messed up the ledger. Zhou Xiaoya's change wasn't dramatic. He didn't set up candles downstairs, write a long confession, or drag the whole world to witness how devoted he was. He simply filled in the empty spaces he had left behind. Little by little, "Just show up if you said you'd come, and let me know in advance if you can't make it." When I'm feeling unwell, he no longer says, "Drink more hot water," but instead asks if I need him to bring me medicine, and then waits for my reply regarding Lin Jiao's matter. He no longer explained a bunch of details to me, only saying, "She reached out to me," and I passed the matter on to the community staff. I began to breathe in his presence. This is rarer than love. One evening after closing, we carried the food containers to the storeroom together. A light rain was falling outside, the alley was filled with the scent of osmanthus, and the light slanted down from under the eaves. Zhou Xiaoya set down the last box and suddenly asked, "Qingyang, have you ever dreamed of our future?" My hand paused. He looked at me, his voice low. "Sometimes the things you say don't sound like guesses." I didn't deny it right away. Keeping the secret of my rebirth bottled up for too long felt like a stone pressed at the bottom of a river. I couldn't just bring it up casually, but Zhou Xiaoya was the other party involved in that life. I leaned against the shelf, listening to the rain tapping softly on the window. "What if I told you I actually went through the whole process of planning our wedding day?" Zhou Xiaoya's expression changed. He didn't laugh, nor did he say I was overthinking. His gaze just slowly darkened. Was I that bad that time? I looked at him. The question was too light, yet too heavy. "You're not a bad person," I said. "You just put me at the very bottom of your to-do list." Zhou Xiaoya's Adam's apple moved. I continued, "You'll love me, you'll care about me, and you'll be good to me when it crosses your mind. But whenever someone calls you, you go to them first. You always think I can wait, I can endure, I can fix myself on my own." His face went pale. "We've been married for 3 years, I said. "I closed my night market stall, moved near your workplace, and learned to be a police family member that everyone's satisfied with. Your mom praised me for being understanding, your colleagues said you were lucky, and Lin Jiao called me generous, only I know that every day, I'm losing a little bit more of myself. Zhou Xiaoya's eyes turned red amid the sound of rain, my voice grew steadier instead. On the day of our divorce, you asked me why, now I'll tell you. It wasn't because of Lin Jiao, nor was it because of any one time you were late. It was because I finally realized that after marrying you, I had become someone who could be put last by anyone. He slowly crouched down, covering his face with both hands. This is the first time I've seen Zhou Xiaoya like this. He was a policeman, accustomed to standing, to holding himself together, to burying his emotions beneath his uniform, but at this moment, he crouched in the storeroom of Nanfeng restaurant. Like a man finally looking upon the ruins after a long silence, he asked hoarsely. Did it hurt back then? A wave of warmth welled up in my eyes. It hurts. His shoulders flinched. I didn't comfort him. Some pain. He ought to know. When he looked up, his eyes were red-rimmed. I'm sorry. These 3 words came very late, a lifetime too late, but I didn't feel as relieved as I expected. Perhaps what I was waiting for wasn't for him to kneel down and admit his fault, but for someone to finally acknowledge that back then, I wasn't being dramatic, causing trouble, or overthinking. Zhou Xiaoya stood up, his voice hoarse. I'm not asking you to forgive me for the past, I just want to know, can I still love you, as the person I am now? I watched him. The dim light in the warehouse couldn't hide the exhaustion and earnestness on his face. I said, it's your freedom to like it. His eyes lit up slightly. I added, whether I agree or not is my own choice. He let out a low, bitter laugh. Got it. The rain outside has stopped. I pushed open the warehouse door, and the scent of osmanthus flooded in. Zhou Xiaoya followed behind me, neither too close nor too far away this time. He finally learned the meaning of distance. 17 is not a miracle band-aid. The day Lin Jiao moved out, she sent me a message. She said she was going to work in a neighboring city, to change her surroundings and also to let her mother try adapting to a new way of care. At the end of the message, she wrote, sorry for bothering you before. Wishing your business well, but don't wish me too well. I'm afraid you'd be forcing yourself. I read that line and smiled. I replied to her, well, I wish you a normal okay. She sent an emoji that looked like a mix of crying and laughing. This relationship finally found a thread to pull from the tangle. Not everyone needs to make peace. Some people are already graceful enough to walk away from each other. After Lin Jiao left, Zhou Xiaoya became even busier, with more autumn patrols and inspections. He often works the night shift. I used to feel anxious about his busyness, thinking every extra shift was a reminder that I'd always come last. Now he lets me know his schedule in advance, and after a long shift, he adds, safe today, heading to bed. That short sentence carries a steady calm. No need to guess, no need to wait, no need to keep flipping my phone over and over. One Friday evening, the restaurant landed a big order. The nearby community was hosting a double ninth festival event and ordered 80 senior meals, which had to be soft, tender, low in oil, and delivered to the activity center on time. My dad acted like he was facing a major crisis, starting to simmer the soup from early morning, even a Luke cutting carrots under his watchful eye. Got traumatized. I was in charge of coordinating the delivery, Xiaoman handled packing, and Song Ji was responsible for labeling. Xie Yanqing had to go out of town for a business meeting last minute and kept apologizing over the phone. At 4 p.m., Zhou Xiaoya messaged, I'm off today, need any help? I looked at the takeout boxes flying all over the kitchen and replied, yes. He arrived half an hour later, changed into an old jacket, rolled up his sleeves, and went straight to the back kitchen to move boxes. My dad glanced at him, didn't kick him out, but tossed him a pair of gloves instead. Don't spill the soup, that pot's worth more than you. Zhou Xiaoya nodded seriously. Got it. Xiaoman whispered to me, boss, who's this handsome guy? Before I could even speak, Song Ji glided past the checkout counter, saying, the ex-husband of the soon-to-be boss lady. Xiaoman's eyes widened. I want to pack Song Ji into a lunchbox and send her away. 10 minutes before delivery, Zhou Xiaoya's private phone rang. I was close enough to see that it was Lin Jiao on the screen. The kitchen was bustling with people, steam rising from under the pot lid. This scene felt like countless moments from a past life. Every time she called, my life would automatically step aside. Zhou Xiaoya also saw that I had noticed. He didn't dodge, nor did he immediately take it. The phone rang until it stopped. Soon, a message popped up. Xiaoya, I've arrived in the new city. I'm a bit out of sorts. Can I talk to you for a bit? Zhou Xiaoya looked down and replied to a message. I'm not the right person to be your emotional support anymore. In your new city, you have colleagues, friends, and professional helplines. Reach out to someone nearby who can support you in the long run, wishing you all the best. He put his phone back in his pocket and continued moving the meal boxes. I stood still, watching his retreating figure. As he moved to the doorway, he turned back and asked, "What's wrong?" I said, "It's nothing." He thought for a moment, then explained earnestly, "She's not a police case, nor is it something I have to handle." I nodded. He said, "I used to feel like I had to show up whenever someone called me, as if not going would mean I owed them something, but I'm not everyone's cure-all band-aid." I chuckled. "Well said, they should print that on the back of the police community contact card." He also smiled. The senior meal delivery went smoothly that day. The aunties at the activity center praised the soup, said the chicken was tender, and complimented Zhou Xiaoya on his handsome looks. One elderly lady grabbed my arm and asked, "Young lady, is this your boyfriend?" I was about to deny it, but Zhou Xiaoya spoke first, still chasing. Grandma immediately grinned. "Then you'd better brace yourself for a tough ride. That girl looks like a tough nut to crack." I was carrying the empty box and nearly burst out laughing. It was already dark on the way back. Zhou Xiaoya was driving, and I sat in the passenger seat with the leftover labels resting on my knees. The car carried a faint scent of food, mingled with the laundry detergent smell from his clothes. At the red light, he suddenly said, "I don't feel like I've been suffering." I turned my head to look at him. He gripped the steering wheel, eyes fixed ahead. "I put you through a lot of hardship before. What I'm doing now isn't hardship, it's making up for lost time." I pinched the tag paper, saying nothing. Outside the window, streetlights flicker on one by one, as if someone is slowly setting the long street ablaze. A small light flickered on somewhere inside me too, but I didn't rush to say it out loud. Some light need not be named right away. 18 gown on stage. On the day the wedding dress was altered into an evening gown, Nanfeng Restaurant received an invitation to the Community Food Festival. It was a small event, held at the old street square, with a few long-established shops setting up stalls and offering their signature snacks. Xia Yanqing suggested I wear that altered gown and say a few words on stage, calling it a brand story. I said, "A brand story is fine, but wearing an evening gown to sell beef brisket noodles, doesn't that feel a bit like a princess descending from heaven to stir-fry?" Xia Yanqing adjusted his glasses and said, "You have to trust the sense of conflict." Songji nodded beside her. "I'm all for it. Other bosses show up in suits, but you're wearing a redesigned wedding dress." I've already got the headline. Jilted woman shortens her wedding dress, fights her way back to Old Street with tomato beef brisket. I looked at her and said, "Have you been secretly studying viral headline formulas lately?" With a serious expression, she said, "For the sake of my sister's cause, I'm willing to learn any dark art." The sky was a brilliant blue on the day of the event. The moment I put on that dress, I froze for a few seconds at my reflection. The white tulle was shortened to just below the knee, no train, the waistline simple and clean, the sleeves were stripped down to sheer fabric, and when I raised my arms, they moved like a breeze. It no longer feels like a constraint at a wedding, but more like a dress you can run in. Jiang, he stood behind me, adjusting my collar. "You look good." My dad poked his head out from the kitchen, took a look, and then ducked back in. "Not bad," he said. "Jiang," he smiled, "your dad's okay, pretty much a celestial being descended to earth." My dad is coughing up a storm inside. The food festival was packed, with a long line stretching in front of the Nanfeng rice shop stall. Xiaoman handled the payments, Alu ladled out the soup, and my dad stood guard by the pot like a general defending a fortress. Songji raised a small megaphone and shouted, "Nanfeng beef brisket, so tender it won't get stuck in your teeth. After eating it, you won't miss your ex, just want more rice." I almost died laughing with my apron on. Zhou Xiaoya arrived earlier than agreed. He was in plain clothes, carrying a case of bottled water. When he saw me, his steps clearly faltered for a moment. I looked down at the gown. "Does it look weird?" He shook his head. "It looks great." He uttered those 3 words very slowly, as if afraid of stirring something. I chuckled. "Thanks. Once a wedding gown, now a battle robe." His eyes crinkled with a smile. "Boss Su is invincible." Right before I went on stage, the host told me I'd need to give a 3-minute talk about the old shop story. I had a script ready, but once I stood up there and saw all those familiar faces in the audience, I suddenly didn't feel like reading from it. I saw Jiang He standing by the stall, still holding a rag in hand. I saw Su Huichuan tending the soup pot, complaining about the heat while his eyes kept drifting toward the stage. I saw Songji holding up a small megaphone, making a heart sign at me. I saw Xia Yanqing with a camera, looking as professional as if he were shooting a Michelin star documentary. He also saw Zhou Xiaoya standing at the back of the crowd. He didn't push to the front, nor did he wave dramatically. He just stood quietly, watching me. The sunlight fell on his shoulder, this time, not cold, but warm like an old piece of bronze. Holding the microphone, I suddenly smiled. Hi everyone, I'm Su Qingyang from Nanfeng Kitchen. This wok of ours has been fired up for over 20 years. We did stop serving dinner for a while, because the boss had a few moments when he wasn't thinking straight. The audience laughed. I went on. I used to think that life required choosing the safest option, but later I realized that stability isn't something others give you. It's about tending the fire yourself every day, simmering the soup just right, and slowly building the life you want, little by little. I paused. The South Wind Eatery will keep running evening service and also offer meals for seniors, night shifts, and overtime workers. We can't promise life won't be tough, but we promise the beef brisket won't be. The audience erupted in applause and laughter as I stepped down. The hem of my skirt fluttered slightly in the wind. Zhou Xiaoya walked over, his hand reaching halfway before stopping. Need a hand? I watched his hand, remembering how in my past life, backstage at our wedding, he had reached out the same way, only to pull it back because of Lin Jia's phone call. This time, he was asking me. It's not an assumption, not a decision made for me, it's a question. I placed my hand in his palm. I do. His hand closed gently, with a steady pressure. The crowd buzzed with energy, the aroma of soup bubbling from the pot, as the hem of my white dress brushed across the square's brick surface. It struck me then how perfectly this gown had been altered, lighter, shorter, no longer needing someone else to smooth the path behind me. Zhou Xiaoya walked me back to the booth and murmured, "That was a good talk." I looked at him. Which line? The brisket is tender. I laughed out loud. Officer Zhou, your sense of aesthetics is pretty down to earth, he said, because this line sounds the most like you. My heart skipped a beat. Just like me. These two words make me happier than being called pretty. 19 sunny day at the Civil Affairs Bureau. When winter arrived, Nanfeng Kitchen opened its second pickup point. It wasn't big, just a small counter on the ground floor of an office building, serving soup, noodles, bento boxes, and hot drinks. Xia Yanqing handled the initial preparations, Song Ji designed the new sign, and Xiaoman and Alu took turns helping out. Su Huichuan kept saying a small counter had no soul, but on opening day, he was the first to wake up and brewed a full pot of soup. I'm spinning like a top chased by life, but this time I'm enjoying the run. Zhou Xiaoya was still busy. The difference was that he stopped making me guess. His work still came with unexpected tasks, overtime, and nights when he couldn't make it home on time, but he started to clearly communicate the uncertainties, follow through on what he could do, and let me know ahead of time what he couldn't. One day, he had originally planned to see a movie with me, but he got called away on a task at the last minute. When he texted me, I was in the middle of picking up an order and checking inventory. I can't make it tonight. I've returned the tickets. I'm not asking you to wait. I'm telling you I broke our plans. Let's reschedule when I've had some rest. If you're angry, you have every right to be. I stared at that message for a long time, then suddenly laughed. I replied to him, permission granted to be mad for 10 minutes, with the added penalty of buying the popcorn next time. He responded quickly, got it. That evening, I went to see the movie by myself. The film was average, and the popcorn was too sweet, but sitting in the theater, I felt no resentment or disappointment because I know that he hasn't forgotten me. He just went to do what he had to do, and didn't make me come up with excuses for his absence at year-end. Lu Huifeng visited the eatery once more. This time, she didn't bring her aunt, nor the bird's nest, just a bag of dumplings she had made herself. She sat by the window, finished a bowl of noodles, and then suddenly said to me, "Qingyang, Auntie always used to say that a police officer's family has to be sensible, but now that I think about it, that word sensible is pretty annoying." I didn't respond. I just added some soup to her bowl. She lowered her head and chuckled. When I was young, I didn't like being told I was sensible either. Now that I'm old, why am I using those words to pressure you? As she left, she set down the dumplings. Let your parents try some too. Don't feel burdened. It's not a peace offering, just dumplings. I accepted them. Some relationships don't need to be close right away, but they can gradually become less prickly. On the 27th day of the 12th lunar month, Zhou Xiaoya asked me, "Do you have time after the new year? I'm reconciling the accounts." "What's up?" He paused and said, "To the Civil Affairs Bureau, The tip of the pen traced a short line across the paper. I looked up at him. Zhou Xiaoya stood in front of the counter with a very serious expression. Yet there was a hint of nervousness in his seriousness. That nervousness reminded me of the first time he confessed his feelings. That day, he stood by the roadside for half an hour, finally blurted out, "Su Qingyang, I want to be with you. This isn't a mediation, it's a formal application." I laughed so hard back then that I crouched down on the ground. Now, as if submitting an application, he placed his heart before me. "I'm not rushing you," he quickly added, "if you don't want to go, we won't. I just want to make things clear. I want to marry you, not because you've forgiven who I used to be, and not because I stayed that night. It's because the person I am now wants to spend my life with the person you are now." I looked at him without saying a word. He continued, "I'm still a police officer, so work will keep me busy, and there will be plenty of times when I can't keep up with ordinary people's pace, but I won't let you bear all the uncertainty for me anymore. I'll tell you in advance, I'll respect boundaries, and I'll make you a part of my daily life, not just a word on my lips." The wind outside softly chimes. The wind chimes by the door. I looked down at the ledger. The scratch on it was conspicuously crooked, like a corner of my heart that had suddenly come loose. "Zhou Xiaoya," I said, "I'm not marrying a cop anymore." His face turned pale. I looked at him slowly, finishing my sentence. "If I ever marry, it will only be Zhou Xiaoya." He froze at that moment. The light in his eyes was like a lamp suddenly flickering on in a snowy field, bright, maybe even a little foolish. I couldn't help but laugh. "Don't get too excited. I haven't told you the exact day yet." His Adam's apple moved. "Any day works. Don't spend another night waiting outside the marriage registry," I said. "It's too much like performance art, bad for the neighborhood's image." He lowered his head with a smile, but his eyes were red. "Fine," he said, "this time I'm not guarding the goal, I'm guarding the man." I closed the ledger and said, "That line is a bit cheesy, let me try another way. Don't change." I kept my head down, continuing to tally the accounts, unable to suppress the smile at the corners of my mouth. "It's tacky enough to pass." 20. I married him after the Chinese New Year, on the 8th day of the first lunar month. The weather was so sunny it didn't feel like winter at all. I arranged to meet Zhou Xiaoya at the Civil Affairs Bureau at 9 in the morning. To prevent history from repeating itself, Song Ji sent me 3 messages the night before. First, "Did you bring your household registration booklet?" Second, "Did you bring your ID?" Rule 3, "Got your brain with you?" I replied, "Got the first 2, the third one's charging." She sent back a string of laughter. At 7 in the morning, Zhou Xiaoya arrived at the entrance of Nanfeng restaurant. He didn't rush me, just sat by the window and ordered a bowl of tomato brisket noodles. Su Huichuan personally served him, piling the beef so high it looked like the noodles were founding their own school. My dad put down his bowl and said firmly, "Eat up. Don't let my girl go hungry today." Zhou Xiaoya nodded. "Don't worry, Uncle Jiang." He handed me a small red envelope. "Here, take it." I was stunned. "Mom, I'm way too old for this." "No matter how old you are, you're still my daughter." She tucked the red envelope into my bag. "This time, you're not being married off, you're just going to get the certificate. You're always welcome to come home for a meal whenever you want." My nose tingled with emotion. "Got it." Song Ji made a special trip to see me off, crossing her arms as she looked Zhou Xiaoya up and down. "Officer Zhou, if you're late again today, I'll turn you into a new dish at Nanfeng restaurant, called latecomer chicken nuggets." Zhou Xiaoya said very seriously. "No." Xia Yanqing showed up too, camera in hand. He looked at me with a gentle smile and said, "Boss Su, I wish you a smooth long-term partnership this time. Clear terms, well-defined rights." I said, "Cut the contract talk." He raised his camera. "All right, then I'll wish you happiness." On the way to the Civil Affairs Bureau, Zhou Xiaoya drove steadily. I sat in the passenger seat, holding the document pouch in my hand. Outside the window, the street scene slowly receded, and I recalled that on the day of my rebirth, I had also clutched this same pouch as I walked away from the Civil Affairs Bureau. Back then, I thought I would never again step through that door in this lifetime. But living a life isn't about forever avoiding old places. It's about standing there one day again, knowing you have the freedom to walk in, and the confidence to turn and walk away. The car stopped at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau. The phoenix tree was still there, bare in winter with its branches reaching into the clear sky. The doorstep was clean and empty, no nightfall, no cold wind, and no Zhou Xiaoya sitting there until dawn. After getting out of the car, he walked around to my side and opened the door for me. "Su Qingyang," he extended his hand, "shall we go in now?" I looked at his hands this time. He didn't say, stop messing around, didn't say, you should understand, didn't ask me to wait, and didn't treat my decision as his default outcome. I placed my hand on it. Go in. The hall was still buzzing with activity. The number board flashed a new queue number. A young couple, one holding flowers, were taking photos. A middle-aged man was so nervous that he was holding his ID card upside down. The woman beside him gave him a slap and said, "Are you marrying me or the national emblem?" I laughed out loud. Zhou Xiaoya turned his head to look at me, a smile glimmering in his eyes. We took a number and sat down on the chairs to wait. During that time, his personal phone rang once. It was a New Year's greeting from Lin Jiao. He glanced at it, handed the phone to me, and then replied with just 4 words, "Wishing you a smooth new year, no extra comfort, no lingering ties to the past." I raised an eyebrow, not afraid I'd get jealous. He said, "I'm scared, but I'm even more scared that you'll have to deal with it alone again." My heart softened, but I said, "Officer Zhou, your political awareness is impressive." He chuckled softly, "Well taught, Boss Su." When it was our turn, the staff member checked the documents and looked up to ask, "Do you two voluntarily agree to get married?" The question was simple, but it suddenly left me dazed. In my past life, I had also answered, "I do." Back then, I thought being willing meant I loved him, willing to take a step back for him, willing to hide all my discomfort, willing to believe that things would get better in the future. Now I understand that willingness isn't about forcing yourself to stay voluntarily. I stand here with full awareness, knowing who he is, knowing who I am, knowing that marriage is neither a fairy tale nor a medal, knowing that ahead lie arguments, overtime, trivialities, and the pressures of reality, yet I no longer need to sacrifice myself to keep a relationship whole. I looked at Zhou Xiaoya. "He's looking at me too," the staff member asked again. "Ms. Su Qingyang, are you doing this voluntarily?" I smiled and said, "I am." Zhou Xiaoya gently took my hand under the table, his palm warm. "Mr. Zhou Xiaoya, are you doing this voluntarily?" His voice was steady. "Voluntarily." A click sounded as the steel stamp came down. I suddenly remembered that night outside the Civil Affairs Bureau. What he held on to in the cold wind wasn't me, but the past he thought he'd never lose. But today, he didn't mind the door. He came in with me. Once outside, the sunlight hit the red booklet, casting a vivid, true red. Song Ji was spamming the restaurant group chat, demanding we take photos to verify the goods. Su Huichuan sent a voice message, with the loud clatter of a spatula in the background, "Come back and eat as soon as you're done, the soup's getting cold." I smiled and put the red booklet into my bag. Zhou Xiaoya took my hand and led me down the steps. He suddenly said, "Qingyang, I know you won't marry a cop." I looked at him. He lowered his head, a faint glimmer of tears in his eyes, along with a bright, radiant smile. "You married a man who's still learning how to love you properly." I tightened my grip on his hand. "Then learn faster," I said. "My temper's not great, and tuition is expensive." Zhou Xiaoya laughed. "Got it." The wind rustled through the phoenix tree branches, and sunlight fell upon our shoulders. I haven't forgotten my past life, but I'm no longer trapped there at Nanfeng Eatery. The soup is still bubbling in the pot. My parents are waiting for me. My friends are chatting away in the group chat, and new orders keep popping up on the mini program. My days are filled with the warmth of a kitchen, hot soup, and a path I've carved out with my own hands. The man beside me is no longer the police officer husband who once made me wait at the Civil Affairs Bureau until dark. He is Zhou Xiaoya and I am Su Qingyang. This time, neither of us was late. Story 2, my husband's first love and I both suffered massive hemorrhages during difficult childbirth, desperately needing blood transfusions to survive. My husband chose to abandon me and save his first love instead. By the time the hospital secured additional blood supplies, I barely escaped with my life, devastated by the loss of our child. In my distraught state, I missed a step on the stairs and fell to my death. When I woke again, I had returned to a time before it all began. Gu Yuanzhou, this time I'm setting you free. Yuanzhou, save our child, please save our baby. A searing pain shot through my lower body, as if I were being torn in two. Cold sweat mingled with tears in my eyes, stinging sharply. I gripped Gu Yuanzhou's hand tightly, turning my head to plead with him. The man met my gaze, his face flickering with conflict and reluctance. "Ah, Yuanzhou, save me, I don't want to die." A sharp cry came from Ruan Ji on the adjacent delivery bed, causing Gu Yuanzhou to freeze mid-step, torn between two impossible choices. A human life hung in the balance. Seeing his indecisiveness, the doctor couldn't help but urge him to act. Both mothers are suffering from hemorrhaging due to difficult labor, but we only have enough blood for one. Battalion Commander Gu, you must decide immediately who receives the transfusion." Gu Yuanzhou clenched his fists, his teeth grinding audibly. His gaze shifted between me and Wan Ji, who was moaning in pain. His eyes, after a brief closure, reopened with unwavering determination. Though hoarse, his voice carried clearly to the doctors and nurses, "Save Wan Ji first, save Wan Ji." My mind went completely blank. As if struck by a thunderbolt, I couldn't form a single coherent thought. All I could see were the blurred figures of doctors and nurses bustling around Wan Ji in a frantic flurry. When I woke up again, I had no idea how many days had passed. I was alone in the hospital room. My once swollen belly had deflated like a balloon, losing air. I was desperate to see my baby, clenching my teeth against the searing pain. I dragged myself out of bed and stopped a nurse in the corridor. After I gave her my name and age, the nurse looked at me with pity in her eyes. "Didn't Battalion Commander Gu tell you? Your baby was deprived of oxygen for too long in the womb and was stillborn. We managed to save your life with an immediate blood transfusion. But, you'll never be able to carry another child. You're still young. Try to be strong about this. Don't do anything drastic." She sighed, patted my shoulder in consolation, and walked away with a heavy heart. When grief reaches its peak, one likely becomes numb. I drifted through the hospital like a lost soul, moving without conscious thought. As I passed by a hospital room, I caught a glimpse of a familiar figure out of the corner of my eye. "It's Gu Yuanzhou." He placed the sleeping baby in the crib, then turned and handed Wan Ji a bowl of soup. Wan Ji accepted it shyly, took a few sips with her head lowered, and broke the silence with a sullen tone. "Yuanzhou, you chose to save me first in the delivery room. Do you think Xia will throw a tantrum when she wakes up? If anyone's to blame, it should be me. I used up the hospital's blood supply first, which caused her to lose her child and the chance to ever become a mother. It's all my fault." Wah, even when crying, beautiful people remain beautiful. Somehow it just makes you ache for them all the more. Gu Yuanzhou hastily pulled out a handkerchief to wipe Wan Ji's tears. "Boom, I was the one who told the doctors to save you first, so there's no way this is on you. Zayan died a hero in the line of duty. You're a martyr's family, and the child was a martyr's legacy. It's only right that we take extra care of you." Lin Xia, at the mention of me, Gu Yuanzhou's expression gradually turned cold. "She tried to harm you, but ended up endangering herself and her child. It's fortunate that both you and the baby are safe, otherwise how could I ever face Zayan? With a mother as malicious as Lin Xia, that child would have been corrupted anyway. Better it never came into this world. Lin Xia should count herself lucky to be alive. What more does she have to complain about?" His icy words struck my ears, sending chills through my entire body. "Gu Yuanzhou is my husband and the father of our child. He may be heartless toward me, but how could he be indifferent to our own child? I've not only lost my child but also the chance to ever be a mother again." Wan Ji nearly bled to death on the delivery table. This is the man I married. This is the man I worshipped and regarded as my hero. I'm such a failure. I can't even hold my husband's heart, let alone protect my own child. My child. I'm so sorry. I failed you by choosing such a terrible father for you." I was laughing through my tears, my face drenched. Tears blurred my vision. I didn't realize I was walking down the stairs. My foot missed a step, and I tumbled down the staircase. Before my eyes closed, I heard a nurse scream, "Help, someone's fallen and is bleeding badly." I jolted awake from my sleep, staring blankly at the familiar concrete ceiling. The aroma of food drifted into the room, waking my appetite before the rest of me. I snapped out of my daze, remembering I had been reborn back to when I was 3 months pregnant. My past life feels like a lifetime ago, yet the memories are etched so deeply it could have been yesterday. Gu Yuanzhou pushed the door open and entered. Seeing me still lying in bed, his brow furrowed slightly, he sighed and pulled up a chair to sit by the bedside. "You haven't had dinner yet, have you? I brought some food back from the cafeteria. Why don't you get up and eat a little? Even if you're not eating, the baby needs to. After you eat, I'll take you for a walk downstairs. It'll be good for both you and the baby." I lay with my back to Gu Yuanzhou, still refusing to say a word. Gu Yuanzhou's patience finally snapped. He grabbed my shoulder and forcefully turned me onto my back. Her expression was a mix of irritation and exhaustion. "Lin Xia, you're about to become a mother. Are you really going to pull this childish hunger strike stunt every time things don't go your way? It's just a job. Is it really worth all this petty bargaining and hunger striking? It's not like I can't provide for you." Oh, now I remember. The teaching position Gu Yuanzhou took for granted was one I fought tooth and nail to secure over the past 2 years. More military families have moved in, and the kids have been running wild outdoors every day. Squabbles turning into fistfights became a regular occurrence. As the saying goes, mess with the cubs and the bears will come charging. The residential compound was thrown into chaos, with not a single peaceful day. After a brief deliberation, the leadership gave the green light to establish a preschool and elementary school. Every single child in the residential compound was sent to school without exception. With schools and students in place, the only thing missing was teachers, but the military base was in such a remote location that it took 3 hours just to drive to the nearest town. Most educated youth from the cities had been sent to the countryside, making it difficult to find teachers. After some thought, the leadership decided to recruit teachers from among the military families for the Yuhong class. A primary school education was sufficient qualification to teach elementary school. Teachers had higher requirements. At least a middle school diploma was mandatory. I was thrilled when I heard the news. Although Gu Yuanzhou's allowance covered our basic needs, earning my own money was an entirely different matter. Money in hand brings peace of mind. With my rare high school diploma, I managed to land a job as an elementary school teacher. Classes were set to begin as soon as the school purchased all the desks, chairs, and teaching materials. Just as I was anxiously awaiting the school's opening, Gu Yuanzhou suddenly informed me that he had given my position to Ruanji. His reasoning was that Ruanji's husband had died a heroic death, she was pregnant, and had a 3-year-old son to support. She needs this job more than I do. I was furious and told him to go ask the boss to get my job back. I made sure to emphasize the word my. Gu Yuanzhou flat out refused. How can you take back what's already been given? Besides, the boss has already notified Ruanji. It's too late to ask for it back now. Do you really think I have that much clout with the boss to keep making demands over and over? I don't care. I earned that job on my own merit. Why do you think the boss chose me over Ruanji? It's because I have better qualifications and teach better than she does. That position rightfully belongs to me. Who gave you the right to make decisions for me? Just because she's not as capable. She thinks she can steal someone else's job. I'm going to confront her face to face and see how she has the nerve. Blinded by rage, I stormed toward the door. But Gu Yuanzhou blocked my way, refusing to let me step outside. He looked at me with disappointment in his eyes. Lin Xia, you're about to become a mother yourself, so you should understand Ruanji's struggles. She's all alone, having to care for her older child while also being pregnant. It's a heavy burden for her, but you're different. You have me. This job means little to you, but it's crucial for her. If you have any compassion left, you should let her have the position. Gu Yuanzhou tucked a stray strand of hair behind my ear. His eyes dark and unfathomable, his tone grave. Lin Xia, don't let me down, okay? I was so upset that my chest felt tight and uncomfortable, so I went straight to the bedroom without eating dinner. When I woke up this morning, I realized I had been reborn. The emotional roller coaster of extreme joy and sorrow made my lower abdomen ache faintly. I didn't dare move an inch. After hastily eating lunch, I lay back down in bed. Getting back what I'd lost made me realize nothing matters more than my child, my dear child. This time I will make sure you come into this world safely. I'm the one who got the short end of the stick, and you're telling me not to make a fuss. I let out a cold laugh and sat up to face Gu Yuanzhou. Why shouldn't I care about what's rightfully mine? Battalion Commander Gu gives away what's mine to win someone else's favor, and I'm the petty one for objecting. Since that's how it is, I won't take the blame for nothing. If you want my job, tell Ruanji to pay me 300 for it, consider it bought. And I won't say another word, otherwise, I'll have to take this to the higher-ups. In my past life, no matter how hard I argued or how strongly I opposed it, Gu Yuanzhou still gave that job to Ruanji. Ruanji stole my job, so I naturally gave her the cold shoulder, yet she kept pushing for conversation, and if I ignored her, she'd put on this pitiful victim act. She even pretended to be strong and made excuses for me. Over time, the most absurd rumors started circulating in the residential compound. They accused me of being jealous that Ruanji became an elementary school teacher, claiming I held a grudge against her after failing to steal the job opportunity. Fortunately, Gu Yuanzhou's integrity and fairness prevented me from succeeding. Otherwise, Ruanji, a widow with a child to raise, would have been left with no means to survive. By nature, I'm solitary and reserved, poor at socializing, so no one believed me, let alone spoke up for me too. Every time I stepped outside, I could hear the military wives whispering and feel their scornful glances burning into me. Heaven has granted me a second chance at life. This time, no one will easily take what's mine. Lay a finger on my things, and you'll pay the price. Gu Yuanzhou was deeply irritated by my aggressive stance. Lin Xia, my stipend is more than enough to keep you comfortable. What do you need that 300 yuan for, with Ruanji's family having lost their income. If you drain Zayn's death benefits, how will she and her child survive? Trying to guilt-trip me into backing down, not a chance. I'm truly saddened by Battalion Commander Zhou's untimely death, and my heart goes out to his family, but Wanji is no relation of mine. I won't sacrifice my own interests for her sake. As the widow of a martyr, Wanji naturally receives special care from the state. Using the money to secure a job means she'll get a monthly salary. Surely better than scraping by on that meager pension. When you think about it, it's a foolproof deal. Gu Yuanzhou narrowed his eyes, his gaze filled with displeasure. Lin Xia, you're completely money-obsessed. I lowered my head and gently placed a hand on my abdomen. A new life is growing there. Raising a child costs a fortune. I was planning to save up by working as a teacher, but now you want to give my position to Wanji. How can I let myself end up empty-handed on both sides? Give me $300, and the job is yours. Otherwise, I'll take this to the superiors and demand justice. Then we'll all become famous in the army together. Gu Yuanzhou looked displeased, and I poured fuel on the fire. I've got nothing to lose, but Wanji just lost her husband. If her reputation gets tarnished too, how will she survive? I stood my ground and refused to budge, leaving Gu Yuanzhou no choice but to storm out, slamming the door behind him. Maybe he went to raise money for Wan Ji. I just want to get the money without any complications. If Wanji wants to be an elementary school teacher, just let her be. The next day, I went out for a walk and ran into Wanji head-on. I didn't want to see her and was about to turn away when she grabbed my arm. She spoke with earnest sincerity and an affectionate manner, as if we were the closest of sisters. Lin Xia, I heard from Yuanzhou that you've been upset with him over not becoming a teacher, but you're really in the wrong here. If you ask me, our main priority should be taking care of the family, while men protect the country. We should be their strongest support, don't you agree? After finishing her lecture, Wanji shifted her tone, furrowing her brows slightly as she gazed at her own reflection with self-pity. You're luckier than I am. Unlike me, having to work even while heavily pregnant. TCH, sounds like complaining, but it's really just showing off. See, even without a husband, there are still men eager to solve my problems. Doesn't that just make you green with envy? I withdrew my hand, ignoring her pitiful act, and said sternly, Battalion Commander Zhou gave his life for our country, a true hero who stood tall between heaven and earth. The nation and its people will always remember his sacrifice. As a martyr's family member, you should take pride in his legacy. Why would you call yourself unlucky? Do you harbor resentment toward our country? This era particularly celebrates the selfless spirit of dedicating oneself to national development. When Wanji lamented her misfortune of having to work after losing her husband, wasn't she actually resenting Zhou Zayan's sacrifice, harboring discontent toward the country and government? Such thinking is dangerous. I must kindly guide her toward the right path. Being an army wife isn't just for show, and Wanji clearly understood the weight of that responsibility. Her face went pale. I patted her shoulder and gave her a serious pep talk. Comrade Wan Ji, as the great man said, women hold up half the sky. With dedication and hard work, we women are every bit as capable as men. Battalion Commander Zhou is a celebrated hero throughout our troops. You can't let fear hold you back and become a burden to him. Just focus on being a teacher. If you run into any difficulties, the organization is here to support you. We'll always find a way to get by. As soon as the words were spoken, applause broke out from behind. Turning around, I saw it was Comrade Yang's wife, Sister Gua. Her hair was meticulously pinned up at the back, just like her character, decisive, fair, and selfless. That's why military wives always turn to her to mediate their disputes. Well said. Sister Gua nodded approvingly at me, then turned to Wanji. Wanji, now that you have a job, focus on settling into it. With Zayan gone, you need to stand on your own 2 feet, or life will only get harder. If you run into any trouble, come to me. I'll do my best to help you sort it out. Wanji's eyes welled up with tears, and she bit her lip until it turned pale. Sister Gua, Lin Xia is demanding 300 yuan from me, but where would I get that kind of money? Sister Gua frowned. Lin Xia, what's going on here? Are you bullying a martyr's family? Seriously, trying to make me look bad right to my face? Did you think you were the only one who could play the victim? I discreetly pinched my thigh, tears quickly welling up in my eyes as a bitter smile tugged at my lips. The military elementary school was hiring teachers, and since I met all the qualifications, the leadership brought me on board. But my husband Yuanzhou pointed out Comrade Wanji's family was struggling, so he suggested I give the position to her. After thinking it over, I realized he was right. so I proposed Comrade Yuan Ji pay me 300 yuan to formally take over the position. This way, no one could accuse her of using her status as a martyr's family to take advantage of me. Otherwise, who'd dare associate with her in the future? Sister-in-law Gua looked thoughtful, while Yuan Ji's face showed clear distress. I sighed and began sharing my own difficulties instead. I never intended to take that 300 yuan, but now that I'm expecting, Yuanzhou's allowance has to be sent back to his family, and soon we'll have a child to raise. Every little expense adds up. I wouldn't have even applied for the teaching position otherwise. Sister-in-law Gua shot Yuan Ji a reproachful look. Yuan Ji, you must be clearer when you speak next time, or I might wrongly blame Lin Xia. Lin Xia makes a valid point. The teaching job was rightfully hers. Her offering it was out of kindness. Keeping it would have been within her rights. Since she's generously passed it on to you, it's only fair you don't take it for nothing. Here's what we'll do. You contribute 200, and the organization will cover the remaining 100. Yuan Ji's smile had frozen on her face. Her attempt to get something for nothing backfired, costing her 200 yuan instead. She said insincerely, I'll follow your advice, sister-in-law. I'll definitely give the money to Lin Xia in a couple of days. Her unhappiness is my happiness. I beamed a wide smile and offered my sincere advice. Comrade Yuan Ji, while your skills fell short during the interview, diligence can make up for shortcomings. With more study and practice, you're bound to improve. Children are the successors to our revolutionary cause. You must teach your classes well and live up to the trust placed in you by the organization, parents, and students. Hearing me bluntly point out her incompetence, the strained smile on Yuan Ji's face nearly cracked. Thanks for the heads up. I'll make sure to prepare thoroughly. Since it's your first pregnancy and you're new to this, just focus on resting well at home. After 2 weeks, the school finally completed its preparations and was ready to officially open. I gathered my fabric and sewing kit, heading upstairs to learn dressmaking from Sister Yang. Gu Yuanzhou opened the door and entered, holding a child in his arms. It was Zhou Ming, Yuan Ji's son. I glanced at them and then ignored their existence, packed my things, and left. As I brushed past Gu Yuanzhou, he grabbed me. I looked at him in surprise. Gu Yuanzhou set the child down, hesitating for a moment before cautiously speaking up. Yuan Ji has classes, and there's clearly no one to watch him. Could you help take care of him? Is it not enough that Gu Yuanzhou waits on Yuan Ji hand and foot? Now he wants to drag me into this too. I scoffed and rolled my eyes right in front of Gu Yuanzhou. First of all, Yuan Ji and I aren't close enough for me to babysit her child. Besides, kids at that age are a handful. What if he gets diarrhea from drinking water or trips and gets hurt? Yuan Ji might think I'm holding a grudge against her and doing it on purpose, which, to be fair, I am. Long story short, I'm not babysitting. Whoever volunteered for this job can deal with it. While Gu Yuanzhou was still frowning in thought, I grabbed my things and left. I can't control the heavens or the earth, much less stop Gu Yuanzhou from showering Yuan Ji with attention. If the child wants to watch, let him watch. I spent the whole morning sewing at Sister Yang's place. When it was time for the meal, I went home to cook. I thought I'd have the house to myself and could enjoy some alone time, but when I opened the door, the scene before me took me completely by surprise. The living room was a mess, with little black footprints and water stains everywhere. The couch cover I'd so carefully chosen was all crumpled and half of it was pulled onto the floor. Dirty bowls were piled on the coffee table, surrounded by cookie crumbs of all sizes. The longer I looked, the angrier I got, my hands clenching into tight fists. The slightly ajar bedroom door swung open, and Zhou Ming dashed out with a towel wrapped around his waist, grinning from ear to ear. He was actually holding my intimate clothing in his hand. This is outrageous. How could Gu Yuanzhou let the child run wild and rummage through the house like that? I set down what I was carrying on the shoe cabinet, rushed over in a few quick steps, picked up Zhou Ming, and sat down with him on the sofa. Let go, that's mine. A surge of anger rose within me, but I took a deep breath and forced it down, stopping myself from immediately scolding the mischievous child. Seeing my dark expression, Zhou Ming froze for a moment, then let out an ear-splitting wail. Wah, bad lady, you stole my things. Hit, hit, hit. He flailed his arms and legs at me while crying, afraid he might hit my stomach. I quickly shifted to the side. Zhou Ming lay flat on his back, flailing like an overturned turtle. What's wrong? What happened? Gu Yuanzhou rushed over from the balcony in a panic, his hands covered in soap suds. Looks like he's washing Zhou Ming's pants. Gu Yuanzhou's devotion truly knows no bounds. It's enough to move heaven and earth. I pointed at Zhou Ming and snapped. How could you let the kid do this? Not only did he turn the house upside down, But you also let him rummage through my closet and parade my underwear around. I just wanted my things back. And he had the nerve to call me a bad guy and threaten to hit me. Unfazed, Gu Yuanzhou wiped his hands and gently cradled Zhou Ming in his arms to soothe him. He's only 3 years old, that's the age when kids are naturally energetic and curious. How much self-control do you expect from a toddler? Besides, as a man, I'm not exactly skilled at childcare. If you'd been here to help, we might have avoided this whole mess. I snatched the clothes back, returned them to the bedroom, then shut the door firmly behind me. Zhou Ming had stopped crying and was now contentedly playing on Gu Yuanzhou's lap, the picture of paternal affection and childish devotion. The sight left a bitter taste in my mouth. Gu Yuanzhou dotes on Ruanji's child like this, yet remains completely indifferent to our own in our past life. He said I deserved to lose our child and never become a mother again, but it was clearly Ruanji who flaunted her superiority right in front of me. She boasted about how much Gu Yuanzhou adores Zhou Ming and how attentive he is to her. She mocked me for being Gu Yuanzhou's wife yet failing to capture his heart. I was both furious and heartbroken. Amid the emotional turmoil, a dull cramp began to pulse in my abdomen. Having no energy to argue with her, I stepped around her to leave. Ruanji grabbed my hand and pressed it against herself, then slipped and fell backward with a terrified expression. She screamed, "Ah, Lin Xia, why did you push me?" I didn't miss the triumph in her eyes as she pulled me down the steps with her. Gu Yuanzhou happened to arrive just in time to witness me pushing Ruanji. That's the real meaning of "you've made your bed, now lie in it." I walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of warm water, and leaned against the doorframe to sneer. If the child doesn't know better, do the adults not know better either? How can Battalion Commander Gu, a grown man, not keep an eye on a 3-year-old? If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. You can't even watch your own kid and let the house become a mess, and now you're blaming me for not helping. I've heard of outsourcing filial duties, but I've never heard of outsourcing simp behavior. In my previous life, after I died, my soul wandered for decades, witnessing the rapid and ever-changing progress of future generations. People in later generations would describe someone like Gu Yuanzhou as a simp. Not content with groveling himself, he expected others to join him in desperate attempts to gain favor. Of course, Gu Yuanzhou had no idea what simp meant, but that didn't stop him from inferring the true meaning of simp from my tone and attitude. It's definitely not a nice word. He pressed his thin lips together, stubbornly refusing to admit he was wrong. Lin Xia, when did you learn to be so unreasonable? I've told you, I'm only looking after Ruanji and her son out of brotherly loyalty to Zayan, not for any other reason. Stop letting your imagination run wild and going around tarnishing Comrade Ruanji's reputation. I've been married to Gu Yuanzhou for 3 years, but we only became intimate 3 months ago. That night, Gu Yuanzhou came back from Zhou Zayan's place uncharacteristically drunk. In vino veritas, I heard with my own ears Gu Yuanzhou murmuring Ruanji's name. He said he hadn't been brave enough back then and deserved to lose Ruanji later. I discreetly looked into their story. Gu Yuanzhou, Zhou Zayan, and Ruanji all hailed from the same village. Before the founding of the People's Republic, the Ruan family were major landowners, while the Gu and Zhou families had been their tenant farmers for generations. I just smiled. During the political turmoil that followed, the Ruans were labeled as the 5 black categories and subjected to public denunciation. Ruanji was also implicated, plunging her into a life of utter misery. Zhou Zayan, who had grown up with her, had already distinguished himself in the military by then. To rescue his beloved from hardship, he defied his family's objections and married Ruanji, who came from a landlord family. He even brought her to live with him in the army, shielding her from backbreaking labor and the scorn and humiliation of others. Zhou Zayan risked his career and successfully won her heart, making her his bride. Gu Yuanzhou also had feelings for Ruanji, but he didn't dare take the risk, so he silently wished his best friend and the girl he loved all the happiness. 3 years ago, Gu Yuanzhou came to Shangyang village to visit his grandparents and ended up rescuing me when I accidentally fell into the water. My parents latched onto him, and he reluctantly married me. My parents always favored sons over daughters. I endured countless beatings, scoldings, and hardships just to make it through high school. Right after high school, I landed a job at the county's food processing plant, but my parents helped my younger brother steal that job from me, then tried to sell me off to some mountain village for a hefty bride price. I'll never forget their greedy faces. A high school graduate, perfect, she'll fetch a high price. I fell into the water while fleeing overnight and was rescued by Gu Yuanzhou. My parents seized the opportunity to threaten him into marrying me with a betrothal gift of 500 yuan, or else they would report him for misconduct. Left with no choice, Gu Yuanzhou had to comply. I don't resent Gu Yuanzhou for not loving me or touching me. He saved me from the tragic fate of being sold off, and took me away from my parents who favored sons over daughters by letting me join the army. All I felt towards him was guilt and gratitude, so I did my best to take care of his daily needs, ensuring he had nothing to worry about. After Zhou Zhan sacrificed himself, that man used the guise of being a loyal brother to openly care for the woman he loved. He was infatuated with Ruanji, yet too afraid of public gossip to divorce me. When forced to choose, as a husband he abandoned his wife. As a father, he cast aside his own child. My heart remained utterly still. After 3 years of marriage, his heart had grown this cold and callous. Gu Yuanzhou, you're my husband and the father of our child, why can't you show us even a little bit of favoritism? If you want to be Ruanji's husband, I'll step aside for you. Being right doesn't mean you have to be loud. The louder Gu Yuanzhou gets, the more it shows his guilt. I watched Gu Yuanzhou's furious outburst with a cold stare before turning to enter the kitchen. You know perfectly well whether this is about Zhou Zhan. I quickly prepared a bowl of egg noodles, ate it, and cleaned up the kitchen. Gu Yuanzhou in the living room was eagerly watching the kitchen, and when he saw me come out empty-handed, he couldn't help but demand, "You ate by yourself, didn't you cook for us?" He'd been watching the kids all morning and was absolutely starving by now. When he saw me enter the kitchen, he thought he'd finally get a warm meal, only to realize I hadn't cooked any for them at all. I clicked my tongue in disapproval. What are you going to do about it if I keep the food to myself? Can't you cook when you're hungry? Go to the cafeteria then. It's not like you stopped eating before you married me. Gu Yuanzhou was left speechless by my remark. I couldn't be bothered with him. After entering the bedroom, I casually closed the door, shutting out Gu Yuanzhou's reproachful gaze. I had no idea how Gu Yuanzhou managed his lunch, nor did I care to find out. When I finally woke up, the house was completely silent. I ran into Ruanji while taking an afternoon stroll, just as she was coming to pick up her son. You've got to admire her mental fortitude. Even after I scammed her out of $200, she could still talk to me with a smile. Lin Xia, I'm here to pick up Mingming. I hope he didn't cause you any trouble today. My apologies. I'll be blunt. If you knew it would be a bother, you shouldn't have sent them over. But it makes no difference to me. Gu Yuanzhou's the one looking after the child, and he's absolutely thrilled about it. Ruanji lifted her chin, clearly pleased with her own appeal, though her words were modest. We're just a widow and her orphan. Yuanzhou only pities us. Please don't read too much into it. That's a classic case of protesting too much. Look how much better Gu Yuanzhou treats me than you, his legitimate wife. But I had no patience for her evasive tactics. What if I divorce Gu Yuanzhou and you marry him? It's not like his feelings for you are anything new. Ruanji was no naive young girl untouched by matters of the heart. The look in Gu Yuanzhou's eyes when he gazed at her was far from innocent. She basked in the satisfaction of her own charm while comfortably accepting Gu Yuanzhou's attentions. They just hadn't addressed the unspoken tension between them yet. With Zhou Zhan gone, she had no reason to stay in the military any longer. She would have to leave as soon as the baby was born. Ruanji was never one to endure hardship, and with the world in chaos outside, raising 2 children would be an immense struggle. Compared to men out in the world, the men in the military were far more dependable. Marrying an officer would not only provide continued protection for her and her family, but also secure her a comfortable life as an officer's wife. In our past life, she risked everything to frame me, successfully killing any affection I had for Gu Yuanzhou. Then she cleared the way for herself. Her hidden sinister intentions were suddenly exposed to the light. Ruanji's face instantly turned pale, her eyes welling up with tears. Lin Xia, don't talk nonsense. Yuanzhou only looks after us because of Zhan. There's nothing between us. You're overthinking it. A beauty in tears is a sight that stirs compassion in anyone who sees her. If Gu Yuanzhou saw her like this, he'd probably want nothing more than to take her in his arms and comfort her right away. Innocent. When your son had a fever in the middle of the night, Gu Yuanzhou took him to the hospital and stayed by his side all night. When you were pregnant and craving oranges, Gu Yuanzhou drove 3 hours just to get them for you. When you needed a job to support your family, Gu Yuanzhou took it upon himself to give you my job. A wave of immense anger and helplessness washed over me. It dawned on me how powerless I was. As both a daughter and a wife, my parents and husband could so easily take what was mine. Overwhelmed by rage, I grabbed Ruanji's wrist and snapped back at her sharply. I hate it when people steal my job. If I hadn't offered to sell it to you, would you have just pretended not to know and accepted Gu Yuanzhou's favor? Completely ignoring how upset and angry I am, Wanji opened her mouth but had nothing to say in her defense. I let go of her hand and chuckled lightly. See, you knew all along. You enjoyed all the benefits while pretending to be clueless. Ah, bad woman, bullying mommy. Hit, hit, hit. Suddenly, Zhou Ming charged at me diagonally from the front, yelling like a little bull. Just as he was about to crash into my stomach, I quickly stepped back. Zhou Ming missed and hit his head on the edge of the flower bed. Wailing loudly, Gu Yuanzhou rushed over in a few quick strides, pushed me aside, scooped up Zhou Ming, and left. What are you hiding for, kid? Blood from Zhou Ming's forehead streamed down his face, and he was sobbing uncontrollably from the pain. Wan Ji, her face full of concern, followed Gu Yuanzhou and left. No one asked if I was okay, no one offered a helping hand. A sharp cramp seized my lower abdomen, followed by a warm gush between my legs. No, my baby. The whole reason I was given this second chance was to protect my child. My desperate cries for help finally brought two military wives running. They scrambled to get me to the hospital. Fortunately, it was just minor bleeding. With prompt treatment and proper rest, I'll be fine. I thanked them and stayed overnight at the hospital. When I returned home the next day, the house was completely empty. Gu Yuanzhou is probably at the hospital taking care of Zhou Ming, for at 9 in the evening, Gu Yuanzhou came back looking completely exhausted. Seeing me sitting motionless on the sofa, he casually instructed, tomorrow, make a pot of chicken soup and bring it to Mingming. He had to get stitches and went through a lot, so he needs proper nourishment. I looked at him in confusion and said, sometimes I wonder if Zhou Ming is actually your son, given how much you care about him. You're so concerned about him getting good food to recover from his injury, but what about your own child? Yesterday, when you pushed me, I almost had a miscarriage. Gu Yuanzhou averted his gaze, a flicker of guilt crossing his face. You're fine now, aren't you? Even after losing so much blood, how can you bear to haggle over every little thing with a child? Gu Yuanzhou was dead set on siding with Zhou Ming. No amount of talking from me would make a difference. I suddenly felt exhausted and didn't want to argue with him anymore. Gu Yuanzhou, let's get a divorce. Her voice was flat, devoid of any emotion. I thought I'd feel reluctant, but there was nothing. It felt like a weight had been lifted from my chest, bringing a sense of relief. Gu Yuanzhou stared in wide-eyed disbelief. His lips parted and closed as if struggling to form words. I know you're in love with Ruan Ji. Now that Zhou Zhan has fallen, there's nothing standing between you two. You only married me because my parents forced your hand. Honestly, I should be thanking you. If it weren't for you, they would have sold me off long ago. I'd hoped we could build a life together. It wouldn't matter if you never loved me. Look how many couples marry without romance. They just support each other through life. That would have been enough. The evening breeze brought a chill to my face, but I'm your wife. I can't stand by and watch you use brotherhood as a pretext for your hidden agenda, caring more about someone else's child than our own. I get disappointed and hurt too, and yes, I feel jealous and resentful. So before I become completely unrecognizable, let's get a divorce. I'll set you free, so you can pursue your true love. Gu Yuanzhou stared at me for a long time before finally uttering a single word. He twitched his fingers. Let's hold off for now. This is a critical moment for my promotion to battalion commander, and a divorce would negatively impact that. Don't worry, I'll make it up to you. That delay stretched all the way until after I had given birth and completed my postpartum confinement. Gu Yuanzhou held the divorce application documents, his gaze heavy and somber. Are you absolutely sure about the divorce? Once we submit the paperwork, there's no turning back. Military marriages aren't something to be taken lightly. Watching my daughter sleep soundly, I felt completely content. I never regret my decisions. Go ahead and file it. Our divorce sent shockwaves through the military housing compound. In an era where marriage was considered a lifelong commitment, our actions were quite unconventional, yet we ended up getting divorced. On the day I left, Gu Yuanzhou saw me off from the military base with my daughter. I hitched a ride with the logistics truck to the county town, then bought bus tickets to the city. My experience as a wandering spirit in my past life gave me the foresight to know that the national college entrance exams would resume in just 1 year. Every single one of the first batch of university graduates went on to become elite professionals in their respective fields. For my own sake and for my daughter's future, I was determined to seize this life-changing opportunity. The compensation from Gu Yuanzhou, combined with the earnings from my contributions to the newspaper, was more than enough to support me and my son. How could such meager compensation ever heal the wounds from my past life? Before leaving the military, I anonymously reported Gu Yuanzhou and Wang Ji's inappropriate relationship to our superiors. As for how severely they'll be affected, that's entirely up to chance through the changing seasons. I took the college entrance exam and waited with hope for my acceptance letter. My daughter is growing up day by day, and now she can take a few steps while holding onto a chair. Bang, bang, bang. I thought it was the admission letter arriving, so I rushed to open the door. As soon as I opened the door, I saw Gu Yuanzhou, looking haggard. My hopes dashed. I was about to close the door when he pulled me into a tight embrace. Lin Xia, I'm sorry, I regret everything. I'm divorcing Wang Ji. Please come back to me. I was wrong. I should have realized long ago that it's you I love, eh? Burnt child dreads the fire. I've long since given up on him and am about to embrace a bright future. Why would I want to take on a second-hand man? I calmly pulled away from his embrace and looked up at him. What exactly are you regretting, Battalion Commander Gu? If your marriage were happy and your career thriving, would you still be here regretting? You're only coming to me now because you think I can manage your household, freeing you up to focus on your career, Gu Yuanzhou. So this is the extent of your love. Just a little hardship was enough to make you give up on Wang Ji. That anonymous letter thrust Gu Yuanzhou and Wang Ji into the public eye. The military demoted Gu Yuanzhou for causing a scandal, but Wang Ji used it as an excuse to latch onto him and force a marriage. After marrying, Wang Ji quit her teaching job, flaunting her new status as an officer's wife. She was utterly clueless about childcare. The eldest son had turned the house upside down, and the youngest son's diapers were piled up like a mountain, waiting for Gu Yuanzhou to come home and wash them. When Gu Yuanzhou returned from the military camp, he couldn't even get a warm meal. Wang Ji didn't want to do housework, so she persuaded Gu Yuanzhou to hire a distant relative from their hometown to help out. It was called helping out, but in reality, they had hired a nanny, with a nanny taking care of the household. Wang Ji was completely freed up to focus on dressing up, applying makeup, and styling herself every day. Later, Gu Yuanzhou was reported again for allegedly exploiting junior soldiers and accepting benefits by taking advantage of his position. An investigation revealed that it was actually Wang Ji who had done it. Gu Yuanzhou's salary had to cover sending money back home, paying the nanny, and managing all the daily expenses for a family of 4. There was no money left for her extravagant lifestyle, so she came up with this shady scheme. The young soldiers had endured her extortion for too long, and finally banded together to report her. Coinciding with a military crackdown, Gu Yuanzhou was stripped of his rank and sent back to farm the land. Wang Ji had been so desperate to escape the backbreaking toil of rural life, yet she ended up right back in the countryside. Gu Yuanzhou buried his face in his hands. You're right, I brought this on myself. I have no right to ask you to come back. He walked away, utterly dejected. Just as I was about to close the door, the crisp sound of a bell rang out from the alley. The mail carrier delivered my acceptance letter. The February sun was gentle, and the future unfolded before my eyes. I knew that was the best path I had carved out for myself. Story 2. After my stepsister caused my death, the schizophrenic genius scientist abandoned his life's research and avenged me in a frenzied act of self-destruction. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn. At the moment I first witnessed his breakdown, talking to himself, he appeared wildly disturbed. This time, instead of running away in fear, I cautiously approached and grasped his scar-covered arm. What are you researching? Can you tell me? I asked. He paused for a moment. Researching, Joyce, my name. At the moment when I was completely engulfed by the waves, what I saw was Jojo's smug expression. Goodbye, my dear sister. Only with your death can the family wealth and Leon be mine. It was only at that moment that I realized Jojo, who always appeared innocent and frail, harbored deep schemes and ruthless ambitions. Perhaps driven by intense hatred, my soul lingered after death, floating in midair, and followed Jojo home. I watched as she tearfully announced my death to our ill father, who was literally infuriated to death. Jojo, with Joyce's family gone, she and her mother naturally inherited all the family assets, enjoying great splendor. On the day Jojo married Leon in my place, the ceremony was grand and spectacular. She wore my wedding dress, smiling like a victor. Leon and I had a business marriage without any real emotion. It didn't matter to him whom he married, as long as it benefited the family. I thought it was just that. But when I saw the tender affection in Leon's eyes, I suddenly realized that he and Jojo must have been involved much earlier. A boundless hatred overwhelmed me, nearly tearing me apart. I was filled with hate and regret. At that moment, a Bugatti charged onto the lawn at lightning speed, creating a piercing Crash, the guests at the scene instantly panicked and scattered. The Bugatti didn't stop, it continued circling the venue, wreaking havoc on Jojo's meticulously arranged setting. Finally, it braked sharply in front of Jojo and Leon. The door opened, and out stepped a man, his presence dark and crazed. It was Jason, the globally renowned genius scientist. The last time I saw him in the news was 2 years ago. He had secluded himself to work on a project. This project is my life's pursuit. Without completing it, my life would be meaningless. After that, he vanished from the public eye. I never imagined Jason would appear at the wedding, and even less so to avenge me. Jason, holding a sharp knife, charged at Jojo without hesitation, his eyes filled with hatred and despair. Jojo tried to escape, but he caught her, and just within 2 seconds, the sharp knife slashed her throat. In what seemed like an act of vengeance, Jason repeatedly stabbed her, each stab accompanied by a tear. You killed her. I couldn't even bear to look. Yet you killed her. You go accompany her in death. Go to hell and atone for your sins. Jojo was beyond dead. Jason turned, his gaze falling on Leon, who was preparing to flee. You can't escape either. He charged like a cheetah, blinded by rage. Someone must have called the police. As the sound of sirens began to wail, the sky was overcast, and raindrops pounded down. Blood was smeared everywhere, surrounding the desperate and suffocating Jason. It was as if all his strength had been drained. He fell to his knees and wept. My research, the pursuit of my entire life, gone. Joyce, I'm coming to join you. From the bottom of my heart, I cried out, Jason. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to being 18 years old. There were no weddings, no bloodshed, just a tightly closed door. My heart trembled as I stared in disbelief at the door. There was a cute little bear doorbell on it. It was a gift from me to Jason, a gesture to win him over. Jason had transferred to my school in his second year of high school and was my desk mate. He was quiet and reserved, often daydreaming during class, yet his grades were far superior to ours. Curious and envious, I tried to get closer to him, hoping he could tutor me. Today, the class monitor had organized a gathering and sent me to call Jason. In my previous life, when I came to call him, I happened to witness one of his episodes. He was talking to himself, his expression frenzied. I was scared and fled. Only later did I learn that Jason had schizophrenia. That's why he transferred here. After that escape, I never saw Jason again. He transferred to another class the next day, deliberately avoiding me. I took a moment to compose my heavy heart, raised my hand, and pressed the doorbell. Jason opened the door and seemed surprised to see me. Joyce, the clear, young man stood before me, his body carrying a pleasant scent of gardenia. At the sight of him, my nose tingled, and my voice was slightly choked. Are you coming to the class gathering today? He frowned slightly. Come in first. After entering, I noticed the surveillance at the entryway. Further inside, the living room had cameras too. These were things I hadn't noticed in my previous life. Jason poured me a glass of water. Seeing the redness around my eyes, there was a hint of worry and sympathy in his gaze. Have you been bullied? I took the water, smiling and shaking my head. No. Just had a little argument with my dad. Jason was silent for a moment. Are you going? I am. Jason then looked up and slightly curved his lips. Good, let me change my clothes. Okay. I sat on the living room sofa, watching Jason enter the bedroom, my heart unconsciously racing. He had had his episode in the bedroom. I had read up a bit on schizophrenia, visual and auditory hallucinations. Jason had them both. When I heard Jason's raised voice from the bedroom, despite being mentally prepared, my hand holding the glass still trembled. Taking a deep breath, I stood up and cautiously approached his bedroom. Pushing open the door, I saw Jason's expression changing rapidly, now angry, now distressed. This approach to the research is completely unworkable. It's bound to fail. This angle is too tricky and time-consuming with little payoff, and I don't have that much time. There were clothes laid out on the bed that he was planning to change into. He had already taken off his coat, revealing his arms. They were covered in scars. It was shocking to see. The argument grew more intense. I clenched my fists, my palms sweaty. It wasn't until Jason calmed down and sat on the bed with a thump, frustratingly clutching his hair, that he exclaimed, "What should I do with this research?" After saying that, he fell silent for a long while. That's when I carefully approached him, holding my breath as I drew near. Jason, he didn't respond, just kept his head down, deep in thought. I noticed the crisscrossed scars on his arms and felt a tightness in my chest. Gently, I reached out and took his wrist, asking again, "Can you tell me what you're working on?" I remembered Jason had joined a research project at university and had made quite a name for himself. Jason stiffened for a moment, then mechanically looked up. His gaze was distant and wooden. He stared at me as if trying to recognize me. After a long while, a hint of joy sparked in his eyes, and he gripped my hand back. "I'm researching, Joyce," he said. A jolt went through my heart. Joyce, was he researching me? Triggered by something, Jason began to talk nonstop. "Who are you? You look like her. I like her. Can you give me some advice? I want to confess my feelings to her, but I'm scared. I'm sick. I should wait, but I can't. I really like her. Please help me." I snapped back from my shock. Tears had welled up in my eyes. "You should tell her directly. She won't reject you." No one knew that I had once had feelings for Jason. Who could resist a good-looking, smart guy during their teenage years? But later, due to fear, hesitation, and the erosion of time, those youthful heartbeats were buried and forgotten. Jason's eyes brightened at my words. "Okay." After the excitement, he seemed a bit tired. I helped him lie down, and he held on to my hand, refusing to let go. "Stay with me. I don't want to be alone." I sat by the bed and nodded. "Okay, I'll stay with you." Jason finally closed his eyes and gradually fell asleep. I looked around his room, noticing there were no sharp objects anywhere, and the door wasn't even locked, making it easy for me to enter. Yet, there were so many scars on his arms, and in such a large house, he was all alone. "Jason," a wave of sorrow spread from my heart to every part of my body. "The class leader sent me a message asking about my progress. Jason won't be coming. Something just came up at home for me, so I won't make it either. Have fun without us." "Alright then." The sun outside was scorching, its rays piercing through the window onto Jason's face, causing him to furrow his brow in discomfort. I carefully pried his hand open and went over to draw the curtains shut. His expression softened. I had intended to wait for Jason to wake up, but my phone rang again. This time, it was a message from my dad. He had already warned me earlier that he would be bringing JoJo and her mother, Mona, back home, and now he was asking if I was at home. I glanced at Jason, still lying on the bed. "I'm here." In my last life, Mona married into our family right after I graduated. My dad, fearing disharmony, had allowed them to live with us for a year. During that time, JoJo and her mother played their parts perfectly, completely deceiving both me and my father. This time, I was determined not to let them through my door. After leaving Jason's house, my bodyguard drove me back. As we arrived at the villa, I saw JoJo and Mona looking around in surprise, their eyes filled with excitement and greed. My dad, naively, was showing them around the house. With a stern face, I ordered the bodyguard, "Hit them." The bodyguard, shocked, responded, "Miss, hit them." At that moment, my mind was filled with the bloody tragedies of my previous life. I was so full of hatred. My dad, not very cunning, devoted all his energy to his company, yet Mona used him as a stepping stone for social climbing. I treated JoJo like a sister, always protecting her, but she envied and hated me, and eventually pushed me into the sea. Those ungrateful wretches, they deserved death. Although puzzled, the bodyguard obeyed. He stepped on the gas, and the car sped towards JoJo and her mother. My dad turned pale with shock. "Joyce." With a loud crash, JoJo and Mona were struck and thrown onto the ground. I immediately got out of the car, tears streaming down my face. "Dad." The brakes failed. I was so scared. I rushed into my dad's arms, clinging to him tightly. While comforting me, he sent someone to check on JoJo and her mother. In his heart, I was the most important. In my last life, he had made a will, leaving everything to me, and instructed me to take good care of JoJo and her mother. It was also for this reason that they harbored murderous intentions towards me. The emergency services soon arrived and took them away. My dad comforted me until I calmed down, and then he rushed to the hospital. I sat in the living room while the bodyguard stood in front of me, uneasy. "Miss, if the gentleman checks the car, it's fine, you won't be dismissed." My dad wasn't foolish. Right now, I just really didn't want to see JoJo and her mother. "You may go." The bodyguard respectfully left. I went upstairs to my room to wait for my dad to come back. I glanced at the time, unsure if Jason had woken up. His house had surveillance. If he was awake, he'd surely check it. In my last life, he probably saw me fleeing on the cameras and since then kept his distance from me, avoiding me. I sent him a voice message. Something came up at home, so I had to leave. "Are you awake?" On the other end of the phone, Jason sat desolately on the floor, the computer in front of him replaying the surveillance footage of the entire house. An hour ago, she had arrived. She had seen everything. Beside him lay a sharply honed triangular ruler which he uncontrollably dragged across his arm, repeatedly slicing into his flesh, blood streaming down. Why did it have to be when she came? She must be terrified. Jason choked out between sobs at that moment. His phone lit up with a new message, a voice message. Trembling, he played it. A girl's clear voice came through. I had to go back home because of some issues. Are you awake? It took a while before I received Jason's response, just a single, cold word. Yeah. I was puzzled. Why was he colder than usual? He must have seen the surveillance footage. He should know I wasn't scared. Wasn't he planning to confess his feelings to me? I decided to call him directly. Jason, I said when he answered, his voice sounding muffled. Yeah. Words were on the tip of my tongue, but suddenly, I felt shy. I couldn't just ask outright why he hadn't confessed his feelings, could I? Do you have time tomorrow? Let's go to the haunted house in West City. I heard it's really thrilling, I emphasized. Just the two of us. Jason was silent. I waited patiently for his reply. There was a rustling sound on the other end, then suddenly, something seemed to drop. Following that, Jason's raspy voice came through. Okay, he paused. His tone apologetic. Can we go in the afternoon? I can't get up in the morning. Sure, I replied after chatting a bit more. I hung up, but I didn't feel happy about his agreement. Instead, I had a bad feeling. Jason's biological clock was always precise. He never had trouble waking up or slept in, unless something was wrong. But he wasn't saying, and it wasn't right for me to press too hard. I turned on my tablet and started searching for more information on mental illnesses. Schizophrenia had several triggers: external stimuli, psychological trauma, substance abuse, and genetic factors. I could rule out the last two. To my knowledge, neither of Jason's parents had mental illnesses, and his mother had passed away when he was 10. That left the first two. Could his father be the cause? I recalled his empty, surveillance-filled home. Jason lived there day and night, every move watched. It must have been suffocating. A heaviness settled in my chest. Looking at our chat, I took a deep breath. Jason, this time, it's my turn to save you. It was evening by the time my dad returned from the hospital. The bodyguard had messaged me earlier to inform me that my dad had confirmed the brakes were fine and pleaded for my help. Just after I replied don't worry, there was a knock at my door. Joyce, are you asleep? I got up to open the door. Dad, my dad entered with a stern face. Sit down. He didn't ask me. He waited for me to confess voluntarily. Standing in front of him, I spoke in a low voice. I don't like them. My father, suppressing his anger, demanded reason. I took a deep breath. Dad, I had a dream. In the dream, you married Mona, and Jojo became my sister. We lived together for 10 years. I respected Mona as a mother and cherished Jojo as my own sister. However, Mona drugged you, causing you to fall gravely ill. After I took over the company, Jojo and my intended spouse conspired together, eventually leaving me to die at sea. They inherited the family fortune and lived gloriously. The hatred that had been festering inside me began to grow wildly. My hands tightened by my sides, nails digging into the flesh, yet it was nothing compared to the pain in my heart. My father's gaze was heavy as he stared at me, all because of a dream. My voice choked up. Mom passed away early, and it was you who raised me from a young age. You know best what kind of person I am, Dad. If it weren't for experiencing it firsthand, if I didn't hate to the core, would I let the bodyguard run someone over? I've never been impulsive. It must be something I inherited from you, Dad. Unbeknownst to me, my father gripped the arms of his chair, his eyes fixed on my face. The air quieted down. We looked at each other calmly, but there was turmoil in both our eyes. No matter how much I tried to suppress it, strands of hatred still leaked from my eyes. My father's eyes gradually reddened. The usually composed man suddenly cursed. Finally, he closed his eyes and took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. In an instant, my nose tingled, and tears fell. Dad, my father opened his arms and gently embraced me, patting my back soothingly. His voice trembled. My Joyce has suffered. It's all my fault. I misjudged people. His voice grew firm. Don't worry, I will never let those things happen again. My heart trembled, and I couldn't hold back my tears any longer. The next day when I woke up, my father was not at home. He had said last night that he would take care of everything and that I shouldn't worry now. Mona and Jojo posed no threat at all. I wasn't worried. No matter how cunning, no brain can withstand the forces of power and money. My only worry was Jason. We had agreed to meet today, but he was late. Just as I was about to call him, Jason got out of a taxi and hurried towards me. Sorry, there was a sudden issue. Got held up for a bit. Did you wait long? Seeing the sweat on his forehead, I frowned. It wasn't hot today. The short run shouldn't have made him sweat. I handed him a tissue. I just got here too. Wipe off Your sweat first. Jason took the tissue, wiped away the sweat, and smiled warmly. Where do you want to go? I smiled back, grabbed his wrist, and led him forward. Come with me. I didn't notice that Jason's body stiffened. There were many fun activities in the West City, and taking advantage of the midday I dragged Jason to the haunted house first. To be honest, I'm the type who is both timid and adventurous. Throughout the experience, I screamed nonstop and clung tightly to Jason. He, on the other hand, wasn't scared at all and even comforted me in a gentle voice whenever I got frightened. As we reached the final section of the haunted house, the surroundings were eerily quiet and pitch dark. All I could hear was our breathing. I gripped Jason's arm tightly, my eyes wide open as I scanned the surroundings. Even though I couldn't see anything, Jason patted my hand, saying, "It's okay, I'm here." I was still scared and started to make small talk. Out of nowhere, I blurted out, "Aren't you going to confess your feelings to me?" Jason froze suddenly. I was also taken aback. Damn my big mouth, why wasn't I shy now? But since the words were already out, I boldly continued, "Jason, the truth is I like you." But before I could finish, he covered my mouth. "Shoo, there's something ahead." My attention immediately shifted. I stared intently straight ahead. In the darkness, I couldn't see Jason's expression, nor could I tell that his face was pale and his expression panicked. Even the hand covering my mouth was trembling slightly. "Don't move, Joyce, the ghost is coming." My body instantly stiffened. Just then, Jason let go of me and even stepped back slightly. "What are you doing? Don't go." I held onto his hand tightly. "I'm not going," he said, but I wasn't reassured and dared not move. The room remained silent. There were rustling noises behind us, like something cracking or the sound of a plastic bag being rubbed. "Jason, Jason." I called out his name in fear. He responded softly, a few seconds later, he moved forward. "It's okay now. The ghost is gone." I paused, slow to realize. "Were you tricking me?" He chuckled softly. "You caught me." I was both angry and annoyed. "Jason, yes, I'm here. You've learned to be naughty." He wasn't like this before, but Jason just pointed out, "The exit is over there." I remained somewhat annoyed until we got out, but when I turned around and saw Jason's smiling eyes, all my anger vanished. However, his complexion looked terrible. My heart tightened. "Jason," he interrupted me, "what else do you want to play?" I forced a smile. The haunted house was really scary. "Let's rest for a bit." He nodded. "Okay." We found a relatively quiet restaurant and ordered some drinks. When Jason got up to go to the restroom, as he turned around, I caught a glimpse of a silver corner sticking out of his jacket pocket. It was brief, but I recognized it, a strip of pills. My hand tightened under the table. I knew that schizophrenia required constant medication. Today, should I have called him out? Before long, Jason came back. His expression as usual. He stayed with me and played until the afternoon, thoroughly enjoying himself and almost always accommodating my requests. However, when I suggested we play the latest popular murder mystery game, he declined. "Joyce, I'm a bit tired." He said. He didn't look tired, but I could see a hint of reluctance in his eyes. I immediately changed the topic. I didn't realize how late it had gotten. "Let's head home then." He nodded in agreement as we left the western part of the city. The sky was a vast expanse of fiery red sunset. "It's so beautiful." I took out my phone and snapped several photos of the sunset. With the fiery sunset in front of me, the gentle Jason by my side, and the cool evening breeze around, a sudden thought struck me. I turned the camera towards Jason. "Smile," I said before he could react. I captured his photo and then switched to video mode. "Jason, do you like me?" Jason, who had wanted to stop me, froze. He stared at me blankly. "I like you, Jason." I smiled. In the camera, Jason's expression visibly shifted to panic and nervousness. I peeked from behind the camera to look into his eyes and spoke again. "I've liked you since you patiently helped me with my homework. Why do you still come to school every day even though you've already been admitted on recommendation?" I asked. Jason's pupils trembled as he looked deeply into my eyes. We held each other's gaze. Amidst the noisy backdrop of traffic and voices, which seemed not to affect us at all, it took a long while for Jason to respond, as if he had just processed the situation. "Joyce," he began, his eyes suddenly lighting up with surprise. But a sudden ringtone from his phone interrupted him. His expression darkened instantly. I sensed something was wrong. Jason took out his phone, hung up the call, and his expression settled into calmness. He took my phone and stopped the recording, as if putting an end to something between us. "What does this mean?" I asked. Jason looked down at me, his tone bitter. "You saw everything yesterday. Aren't you afraid of me?" I'm sick, I'm a madman, I'm not afraid, I interrupted, my resolve seemingly taking him aback as his eyes momentarily filled with tears but quickly, he deflated, speaking in a downcast and listless tone. Don't say things like that, Joyce, he sighed heavily. As if all his strength had left him. I'm scared. I instantly understood. He was afraid this was just a whim of mine, afraid I would abandon him, afraid to have something only to lose it again. I stepped forward, wanting to embrace him, to show him my commitment wasn't fleeting, but Jason stepped back. Joyce, let's just be classmates, I won't cross the line, and you, don't push me, he spoke quickly. I'm sorry, I won't walk you home then. Take care on your way, he said. He turned around and fled in panic. Jason. I didn't understand why he liked me. He wanted to confess his feelings to me, so why is he backing away now? Jason ran a great distance before he finally slowed down. His phone in his pocket kept ringing incessantly, always the same number. He didn't want to answer it at all, but eventually, he did. Hello. On the other end, the voice of a man was calm and stern. Why aren't you answering your phone? Why did you turn off your location services and unplug the surveillance? 3 consecutive whys made Jason feel suffocated. This morning, when he had gone to the hospital to get his medication, he had already answered a call. The caller on the other side angrily questioned why he was still harming himself, asking if he was in love with Joyce. Does your little desk mate know you have a mental illness? Does she know you harm yourself every day, that you need to take medication every day? Do you think her kind words mean she's interested in you? She's just pitying you, trying to comfort you. I hope you don't end up like your mother, treating love as your only pursuit. Utterly lacking in ambition, the morning's words still echoed in his ears. The voice from the phone continued relentlessly. You've grown bold over the months, not just talking back but daring to defy me outright. It's just a few words from me, and you dare to unplug the surveillance and turn off the location services. What, you want to die out there? I'm putting so much effort into this for whom? Humph. If it weren't for your mother's despicable and ruthless tactics, do you think I'd bother to care about you, a lunatic? Do you think Joyce would like a lunatic? Don't delude yourself. Someone like you isn't worthy of her. Jason suddenly let out a low, unsettling laugh, prompting passersby to instinctively steer clear of him. He said, yes, I'm a lunatic. I'll turn the surveillance back on now, and then, let you see a corpse. How about that? Or maybe I'll turn on the location services, and you can guess where you'll find me. In the river, at the station, or in the morgue. Jason's words grew increasingly manic. What to do? I really want to die, Father. He deliberately emphasized the word father. The person on the phone fell silent. Jason laughed louder and louder. Father, shall I go and die now? Would you prefer I get hit by a car or jump into the river? You, Jason. Jason quieted down, listening to the intense breathing on the other end of the phone. He chuckled. If you don't want me dead, then never let me hear those 3 words from your mouth again. Her name, merely uttering it, he felt was a desecration. A beep beep sound came from the phone. The other side had hung up. Jason looked up at the evening sky. Joyce, God knows, when he heard the words I like you, his whole body was boiling with excitement. But, oh well, I'm going to hurt you, Joyce, I'm sorry. Jason fell to the ground, covering his face as he sobbed. He longed for her yet couldn't bear to hurt her. He was greedy yet dared not make a move. Living is so difficult. Ever since I confessed my feelings, Jason stopped coming to school. Being in the 3rd year of high school, I was too busy to visit him. I could only wait for the weekend to check on him at his house, but to my surprise, Jason had moved away. Even the teddy bear doorbell was gone. Looking at the bare black door, I felt a heavy sadness. When I got home, my dad noticed my troubled expression and asked, "What's wrong? Is school too much for you?" I shook my head and remained silent. During dinner, my dad talked about Mona and Jojo's situation. He had conducted a thorough background check and found out Mona had been fishing for a wealthy husband, and many had taken the bait. At this point, he paused. I glanced at him. Among those deceived, he was the easiest target. Embarrassed, my dad changed the subject to Jojo. Jojo had inherited her mother's tactics and personality, using her looks to attract wealthy heirs at school, also dreaming of marrying into a wealthy family for a soaring social climb. Not all the men Mona entangled with were single. My dad discreetly leaked some information to the wives, being careful to hide his own identity. After all, it was quite embarrassing. A grown man. I suddenly looked up. Dad, can you help me look into Hugh's family? Hugh's family, your classmate, Jason. I nodded, immediately on alert. My dad asked, why are you looking into his family? Do you like him? I openly nodded, yes, But after I confessed, he hasn't been back to school, my dad's expression darkened. No, I don't approve. Hugh's family's issues were well known, there's hardly anyone who doesn't know. I was already against you being desk mates with him, but I didn't want to interfere. I quickly interrupted him. What happened with Hugh's family? After glaring at me for a while, he began to explain. Hugh's family was not originally from the capital but from Jiang City originally. The two families arranged a marriage, and Jason was born. Susan had loved Hugh since she was young and was devoted to him. However, Hugh did not love her back, and when she found out about his affairs, she became hysterical. She would often take her anger out on Jason. Later, when Susan heard that Hugh had fathered a child with another woman, she completely lost her sanity. After having the mistress and the illegitimate child killed, she personally mutilated Hugh. Then, she locked herself and Jason at home, planning to die together with him. At that time, Jason was 10 years old. He didn't understand much but instinctively wanted to live. He hid and then witnessed Susan's death. The incident was well known at the time. For a whole month, it has been trending on social media. Even the joint efforts of two companies couldn't dampen the enthusiasm. Later, both parties fought over the custody of Jason. Hugh, unable to have more children, desperately fought for Jason to inherit the family business since he was the biological father. Jason was ultimately awarded to him. To compensate Jason, Susan's family agreed that after he inherited from Hugh's family, he would receive 1/3 of Susan's family's assets. Unexpectedly, due to years of mental stress and the trauma of witnessing his mother's death, Jason developed schizophrenia. At the same time, he displayed an extraordinary talent. My dad sighed. Jason is also a poor child. Back then, everyone said he was the biggest winner, but he was actually the biggest victim. Over the years, as he grew up, his condition became increasingly uncontrollable. He used to study in Jiangqing, but he transferred here after his condition caused him to inadvertently hurt someone. The day you told me you had a new deskmate, I was worried. That's why I had a bodyguard protect you closely. Joyce, you must not fall for him. I was stunned, silent for a long time. No wonder Jason refused when I suggested playing a murder mystery game, because there was a part where you witness your mother's death. No wonder he declined, saying he was scared. Not scared that I would reject him, but scared that he might hurt me. My dad slammed the table. Joyce, I'm talking to you. I looked up. Dad, I'm afraid, I can't do that, right now, immediately. I desperately want to see him but I don't know where he is. Jason has always been good at avoiding me. In a past life, he kept an eye on me without my noticing. This time is no different. Even after the college entrance exams, the people I sent couldn't find out where he was. I even went to the university he was supposed to attend, but still couldn't find him. Why is he avoiding me? I asked, frustrated. My best friend handed me a glass of wine. It's simple, because you like him, my friend explained. Before, when you didn't like him, he could warn himself not to act rashly, not to do anything that might make you dislike him. But now that you like him, and you're making direct moves, he can hardly resist. He can't help himself. But he doesn't want to hurt you, and with his condition, he can only hide. It's a mix of insecurity, sensitivity, and avoidant attachment. My friend sighed. He's got a lot of issues. If you want to be with him, it's going to be exhausting. You'd have to deal not only with his potential schizophrenia outbreaks, watch out for him losing control and hurting you, but also repeatedly reassure him of your love, comforting him, and giving him a sense of security. If you can't handle it and want to back out midway, he might die. Think it over carefully. Actually, him hiding might be for the best. I stared at the drink in front of me, my thoughts in turmoil. What are you researching? Can you tell me? Researching? Joyce, he's always been studying me, but I am not a test subject, not just data. I am a living person. Wasn't that essentially a distress signal he was sending me? I like him. I want to rescue him. This thought grew stronger and stronger. Reflecting on my past life, I was busy with my studies, busy managing the company, meeting countless people, and making numerous acquaintances. I admired their talents and was dazzled by their appearances, yet none stirred that trembling in my heart. What seemed like a casual brushstroke in my youth has, over time, become increasingly bold and vivid. Finally, through my relentless efforts at the beginning of freshman year, I found Jason at his school. He had become even thinner, his whole being shrouded in melancholy, not as bright as before, though he was never really that bright to begin with. The moment he saw me, Jason froze. It wasn't until I approached and called his name that he snapped back to reality. He murmured, "It's not an illusion." He looked at me intently. "Your school isn't here, What was it I said again? He had been watching me all along. I didn't blindly apply to the university Jason was attending. After all, the major wasn't a fit, but you are here. I had deliberately delayed my registration to catch him here. Jason's eyes flickered, somewhat at a loss. Joyce. I told you not to. I tiptoed and kissed him on the corner of his mouth. He froze completely, as if his soul had been drained. I grabbed his hand. I like you, Jason. If once isn't enough, I'll say it a second time, a third time. I know what you're afraid of. Will you hurt me? Jason shook his head vigorously. Then he said, I can't control it. His body began to tremble, wanting to flee. I held him. Then, when you can't control it, avoid me, okay, and when you can, come back out. Jason blinked very slowly. Can we do that? Don't know until we try, Jason pursed his lips, and under my expectant gaze, he nodded. I took half a month off. During that half month, I was with Jason. We stayed at his apartment. He was extremely proper, never overstepping boundaries. To me, he was more like a roommate than a boyfriend. Once, when I tried to kiss him while pretending to be drunk, he pushed me away as soon as I touched the corner of his mouth, awkward and shy. Joyce, don't. I might lose control when I'm emotionally unstable. If you kiss me, I'll be very happy, and then I won't be able to control myself. All I could do was hug him, rubbing my head against his chest. But I really want to kiss you. Next time, try not to be so happy, okay? Jason nodded, his lips already curling into a smile. I took the opportunity to touch his abs. Does this make you happy too? Yes, it does. Looking at his flushed face, I thought it was hilarious. Sometimes, though, the fun goes too far. Jason would lock himself away, staying silent no matter how much I talked. All I could do was wait outside his door, keeping him company. When he finally came out and saw me, he would apologize. Feeling guilty, I'd take the chance to give him a kiss, a touch. Over time, he grew accustomed to my touch, but gradually, I realized something. Jason doesn't express his needs, he just indulges me, going along with whatever I want. This, actually, is not good at all. Just like now, as I was packing and telling him that I needed to go back to check in, he was clearly reluctant but just nodded and agreed. I went downstairs and sat for half an hour. When I went back up, I saw Jason in a fit of rage, having thrown everything around the room. She's gone, she's gone, she doesn't love me anymore, she's so far away from me, I miss her so much, I want her so much, it's because I'm not good enough, she doesn't like me anymore. At the moment Jason raised a knife to harm himself, my heart tightened, but I didn't rush in to stop him. He had warned me several times before, during his episodes of self-harm, not to intervene. He couldn't distinguish me in those moments and might hurt me. If he realized he had hurt me after regaining his senses, he would feel even more guilty and despairing, and would hide even more. I watched helplessly as Jason hurt himself, feeling as though the wounds were also on me. It was incredibly painful. After what felt like an eternity, Jason stopped. He gradually regained his composure. That's when I entered. The moment he saw me, his first reaction was panic, fear. Joyce. He hurriedly hid his arms behind his back, unable to face me. I stepped up to him, steeled myself, and slapped him. Jason's head turned to the side, his body began to tremble. He couldn't stop apologizing. I'm sorry, Joyce, I didn't mean to. Don't be scared, I won't hurt you. He didn't look at me, just let tears fall to the ground. I grabbed his collar, forcing him to look at me. Jason, what is the purpose of having a mouth? Can't you say if you miss me, need me, love me? Say it, say you miss me, need me, love me. Jason looked at me with tear-filled eyes and repeated my words. I miss you, need you, love me, I need you, I miss you, Joyce. He repeated over and over. I bowed my head and kissed him. It was a kiss mixed with tears, salty. I sniffed. I know, so, I'll stay for 2 more days, I said. Jason's eyes lit up. He repeated, Joyce, I need you, I really need you. I can't bear to be without you. I hugged him tightly. I understand. From now on, you have to tell me everything, your thoughts, your needs. That's the only way I can understand. Do you get it? Jason tightened his arms around me, as if he wished to meld me into his very bones. I understand. I'm sorry. Jason choked up. I know. I reassured him. The truth is, he doesn't really know how to love someone. That's why he's cold to others, but with me, he's compliant. No one ever taught him how to love. No one ever asked him about his feelings or cared. People knew he was unwell and would just avoid him. I tried to act normal, but in reality, I just hide away," he confessed. Hearing this, my heart ached for him. "You don't have to, I love you. Just follow my lead, love me the way I love you, and love others in the same way." After spending another 2 days with Jason, it really was time for me to go back. After clinging to each other for half the day, he reluctantly drove me to the airport. "Joyce, can I move to be with you?" he asked. I shook my head. "Jason, this is the second lesson I want to teach you. Don't give up your own future and dreams for someone else. Don't lose yourself, even if that person is me. I like seeing you shining brightly from great heights, not just compromising and accommodating for me." Jason disagreed. "But I only want you," I smiled. "Then for my sake, aim for those heights. We should meet at the summit, not cling to each other." Jason looked at me for a long time, then slowly nodded. "I will, Joyce." I knew he would. In a past life, even without me, he had reached the pinnacle, but this time, I hoped he would stand there longer, go further. Though we were apart, we'd meet whenever we had the chance. Jason continued taking his medication, seeing his doctor, and with my guidance, his condition had greatly improved. His episodes were becoming less frequent. At the same time, he was developing more skills like, "Joyce, I want you to kiss me. Joyce, I want you to touch me. Joyce." His requests grew bolder with each plea. Soon, following the trajectory of his past life, Jason made a name for himself. He was called a genius scientist. It was then that his father, Hugh, came to visit, asking him to come back and take over the family business. Jason happily agreed. It took him half a year, but returning to Hugh's family, Hugh was ousted and deprived of his inheritance. Then, he was kicked out without hesitation. At the same time, Susan's family fulfilled their promise by giving him 1/3 of their assets. Suddenly, Jason became the talk of the town, with his name echoing through the streets as media outlets clamored to cover his story. Yet, the first thing Jason did was, "Joyce, if I present all these as a betrothal gift, would your dad agree to let us be together?" I went to the hospital for a checkup today, and the doctor said I'm cured. This isn't hereditary, so there's no worry of passing it on to the kids, or we can choose not to have kids if you prefer. I was busy dealing with company matters and found Jason's chatter distracting, so I pushed his head aside. "Let's talk after I'm done." Jason's expression instantly fell. "All right." He stayed quiet for no more than 2 minutes. "Joyce, I need you. I never knew it would turn out like this." Helplessly, I turned my head and kissed him on the corner of his mouth. "Wait over there for me." After I finished my documents, I looked up to see Jason. "What? Are you crazy? This is the office." I saw Jason on the sofa opposite, wearing the outfit I had bought for him before, wearing fluffy dog ears. He stared at me with a mix of desire and tranquility. "I thought that's what you wanted." He came over, grabbed my hand, and touched the fluffy ears on his head. "I need you to touch me. I need your help." His burning gaze seemed to melt me. "Jason, you're too much. It's what you taught me. Joyce, I'm loving you." Jason traded his entire fortune for a chance to marry into my family. My father was speechless. Our family status soared. On our wedding day, the magnitude of the event was known throughout the city. Normally, I'm at the company, Jason's at the research institute. On other days, I'm at the company, Jason's under my desk. Later, I asked him if there was any lifelong research he couldn't let go of. He turned his head and kissed me. "Yes, my lifelong research is called Joyce, the end, extra." Jason won. Jason always felt like he was a monster. He was sick. He couldn't express himself. He was afraid to make demands, but he could pretend to be normal, like an ordinary person. He went to school, took exams, made friends. Initially, he pretended very well, just like a person. His only hobby was research. He studied various things, various people. Gradually, his condition worsened, and during an episode, he inadvertently hurt others. His schizophrenia was eventually exposed. To cover up the disgrace, Hugh arranged for him to transfer schools. On his first day at the new school, he pretended to be normal as always. At first, he didn't even notice what his deskmate was like, whether male or female, beautiful or ugly. He interacted with her as he did with any new acquaintance, politely, distantly, noncommittally, but it seemed his deskmate couldn't understand his indifference. She chattered incessantly, asking all sorts of questions. It was noisy and annoying. He remembered her name, Joyce. Indeed, far too noisy. During one superficial conversation, he accidentally revealed, back at home, people would enter my room without knocking. It was annoying. Previously, after self-harming, Hugh saw it on the surveillance and called emergency services. Joyce heard about it. Later, she bought an ugly little bear doorbell. Here, install this on your door. From now on, it will ding-dong whenever someone opens the door. Out of politeness, he accepted it and thanked her. That was the beginning of an avalanche. All sorts of clutter started accumulating in his hands like it was free. His room could barely contain it all. Gradually, he got to know Joyce. Gradually, it seemed he started to care about her. He looked it up. This feeling was called having a crush, but he was ill, very ill. He was terrified of Joyce finding out, so he kept pretending he became whatever she liked, and secretly, he kept watching her. Seeing her smile at others made him jealous. Seeing her talk to others made him wish he could eliminate them unexpectedly. He had an episode right in front of Joyce. Reviewing the surveillance footage later, he was extremely cautious even in his breathing. Can you tell me what you are studying? Studying Joyce, studying how to make her not fear his true self, studying how to make her like him too. Strangely, he who was usually capable of anything, now faced difficulties and obstacles. He couldn't figure it out. Joyce said, "You can just tell her. She won't reject you." She was just comforting herself. She would reject him definitely. So after she lulled him to sleep, she left. That day, he really wanted to die. He heard Susan's voice again, saw Susan again. "It was me who brought you into this world, and it should be me who takes you out. Let's die together. Jason, come on." She was hysterical, urging him. He picked up the sharpened triangular ruler hidden under his bed slat. He didn't know how many times he slashed. His phone rang. It was Joyce's special ringtone. "I had to go home for a bit. Are you awake?" In that moment, her voice seemed to dispel all the darkness. He played it over and over until the phone rang again. A more vivid voice came through. "Do you have time tomorrow? Let's go to the West City and check out the haunted house there. They say it's super thrilling, just the two of us." His initial reaction was joy, then fear. He deliberately delayed his morning to pick up his medication, hoping to prevent another episode that might frighten her. But then, Hugh called him. He was furious, turned off his GPS, and disconnected the cameras, so he didn't have time to take his medicine, and he was in a hurry to meet her. When he got out of the car, he was sweating profusely. He also felt guilty, afraid that she would notice. Fortunately, all was still well. During the haunted house visit, Joyce clung to him. He felt a thrill, but his condition did not allow for excitement. Realizing he was losing control, he pretended to see a ghost and hid from her to swallow his pills. What was she trying to say at that moment? He didn't know. He just thought she smelled so good, her body so soft. No, she mustn't get any closer. Unexpectedly, Joyce confessed her feelings. Under the evening breeze and the fiery sunset, she repeated every word. "I like you, Jason." He was so elated he felt like he could explode. He wanted so badly to accept her, but then Hugh called. His beautiful dream was abruptly shattered. He began to feel scared. To evade, he didn't deserve her. He hid himself and secretly watched Joyce. She kept looking for him while he was happy. He dared not show himself. He was a monster. He could hurt her. He felt terrible. He missed her, yet Joyce still found him. He couldn't hide in time. Her reasoning was so persuasive. They moved in together. He was so happy and so scared because his issues were slowly revealing themselves. Joyce hit him. After hitting him, she might as well not leave, but he couldn't bring himself to say it. She told him mouths are made for speaking. She taught him, "Say you can't bear to lose me, you need me, miss me, love me." Such regret. "I don't." He received a kiss, a careful, gentle one, filled with consolation. Turns out, voicing your needs can indeed be met with fulfillment and reward, not scolding or beating. Joyce taught him another lesson, to love himself, but he loved her more. She said, "For me, then, stand on high places. We should meet at the peak, not cling to each other." At that moment, he seemed to understand. She also loved him deeply. Joyce taught him step by step. He learned to love her, in her way, only her. She worked hard to make him normal. He kept getting better. It turns out, his initial plea for help had indeed saved him. The moon in his dreams was not a mere reflection in the water. Story 2, I am the cherished first love of a wealthy family who was brought back to life 4 years after my death. By then, my replacement had already taken my place successfully, wearing my face and taunting me smugly. "Everything that was yours is now mine, you're too late." However, she didn't realize that the allure of the beloved first love is so strong that once I appear, everyone abandons their principles to come to me. 1, I'm back, Mom. As I pushed open the grand doors of the Shin family home without any resistance, I greeted my mother, who was sitting on the sofa, with a smile. Just like every time I returned home, it seemed like an ordinary day, but suddenly, there was a loud clang. It was the sound of her teacup smashing on the floor. Her response to my return was a tearful cry. "My Yushi is back. I am Shin Yushi, the young mistress of the Shin family, who died from heart failure." in my dying moments, I was bound by a system for quick transmigration, and I realized that I was just the tragically early deceased first love in a story about replacements. The real protagonist is my look-alike replacement. Due to her appearance, she crossed social classes and caught the attention of the wealthy elite, becoming the darling of their world. Eventually, my parents took her as their goddaughter, my childhood friend became her lover, and my younger brother obeyed her every command. She received everyone's love, but all this was predicated on my death. So, when the system asked if I was willing to complete the task and return to life in my original world, I didn't hesitate to agree. Why should my life be a mere stepping stone for someone else, even my tragic death being used as a starting point for someone else's happiness? So, I came back. Mom, it's me, I'm back. My mother's embrace was as warm as ever, but now it felt almost suffocatingly tight, as if she was afraid that I would disappear if she let go. I sighed and gently patted her frail body, comforting her. The system altered memories, changing my death from a futile medical rescue 4 years ago to a disappearance in a maritime accident. She thought she had been searching for me day after day for years now, regained what was lost. However, this tearful mother-daughter reunion was soon interrupted by a noise at the door. Too. Mom, look what we bought for you. Before she even appeared, a sweet yet unfamiliar female voice rang out. A young girl carrying a box of pastries rushed in first. Soon after, I heard an extremely familiar voice, filled with indulgence. Slow down, don't run. With just that phrase, I recognized him. Xiajihe, the boy I grew up with. Mom, do we have guests? Why are you crying? This was my brother, Shinju, who spoke as he entered, but with my back to him, he couldn't recognize me. He only saw our mother and a young girl embracing and crying, and he hesitated before asking. I felt my mother grip my hand even tighter, her eyes red and lips trembling, wanting to speak but tears kept flowing. Mom, don't cry, what's going on? Who is this sister? Ah, Jiha, why are you pinching me? It hurts. The sweet voice spoke again, this time with a hint of whining complaint. Xiajiha seemed to sense something, his intense gaze fixed on my back, indifferent to the young girl's complaint, his Adam's apple moving as he tried to utter a familiar but long strange name. Why is everyone acting so weird today? The security guard at the door even said I had just come back a while ago. How strange, the girl muttered, glancing at our crying mother. I glanced at my silent brother and Xiajiheng, whose mood was visibly off. Finally, my gaze rested on myself, and a sudden uneasy premonition rose in my heart. As if to confirm this premonition, I emerged from my mother's embrace, turned my head, and looked at them. Ah Ju, Jiheng, long time no see. Yushi. Xiajiheng's voice trembled almost imperceptibly, while Shinju was much more outspoken. Shin Yushi, you dare to come back? Where have you been all these years? Did you know I really thought you were dead? How could you? The 18-year-old boy was far from composed. He spoke through clenched teeth, his eyes frighteningly red, tears falling like tiny pearls. Uncontrollably feeling guilty, I patted his shoulder. Ah, Ju has grown up. Back then, he was just a 14-year-old kid, and now he's all grown up. Seemingly unable to hold back any longer, he rested his head on my shoulder, sobbing softly. Sister, I missed you so much. This was a reunion filled with both sadness and joy. It was only when a food container dropped to the ground that everyone noticed the girl who had been standing at the door, silent until now. I looked at her. Her face, so similar to mine, had lost all color and looked terribly disheveled. We sat down together for a dinner where everyone had different thoughts. Surrounded by dishes I loved, my mother kept serving me food zealously, while Shinju peeled shrimp for me conscientiously. When Xiajiheng subconsciously placed my favorite plum pork ribs into Yun Tian's bowl, everyone paused momentarily. Thank you. Yun Tian tightened her palm, her tone calm as she thanked him, her first words since learning of my identity. Xiajiheng paused, then responded faintly. I didn't let the undercurrents at the dinner table bother me and continued eating calmly. Your room has remained unchanged. I've been cleaning it every day myself. Now that you're back, go rest well. The doctor will come to check on you later, and your father will be back tomorrow. My mother's incessant chatter was her way of showing care, and I responded to each point. They didn't say much about Yun Tian, but I wasn't flustered. This was the confidence of being loved. What I hadn't expected was that if I didn't go to the mountains would come to me. Late at night, my room door was knocked. Opening the door, it was Yun Tian's familiar face, standing there with a glass of milk. I raised an eyebrow at her. somewhat surprised, thinking it was an attempt to ease the awkwardness, but unexpectedly, her expression changed from the silence at the dinner table to one of scorn. You should have stayed dead. Why come back? Do you think you can beat me? I've been winning them over for 4 years, except for this room. Everything you once had is now mine. You've come back too late. Understand, strategy was a familiar term. Her words had just ended when, without waiting for my reaction, she poured the milk over her own face and then, with a scream, fell to the ground as the glass shattered with a crisp sound. Tears streamed down her face. Sister, I'm sorry, I just wanted to please you. There was no malice. It had been a long time since I had experienced such a low-level trap, and in that moment, I even found it somewhat amusing, coldly observing the pitiful girl on the ground, her clothes thin, the milk soaking her hair, her eyes red and fearful, overall evoking pity. In truth, I wasn't keen on competing with Yun Tian. Whatever her reasons, she had been the one providing some comfort to my loved ones over the years. I bore her no great malice, only wishing she would understand the situation and back down on her own. But her hostility towards me was clearly not insignificant. The commotion of the night always draws attention, especially on such a day. None of the people in the house had any intention of sleeping, so when Yun Tian screamed, a few other doors opened one after another. What happened? Is it Yushi? Did something happen to Yushi? Mother Shen, pale-faced and hastily dressed, had even put on her shoes incorrectly. It was only when she came out and saw me standing there unharmed that she breathed a sigh of relief. Over the years, her sleep had been poor, frequently disturbed by dreams filled with unsettling images. Mom, after confirming I was safe, Yun Tian's plaintive call finally reached her ears. What happened? Why did you fall? Mother Shen frowned as she looked at the shards of the cup next to Yun Tian. Before Yun Tian could reply, she spoke again. How could you be so careless? What if the broken glass had hurt someone? Get up now. It was sister. Yun Tian pursed her lips, on the verge of tears, but her performance was once again interrupted. What happened to your hand? Shinju very clearly grasped my hand, noticing a small, bleeding wound on the pale back of my hand, likely caused by a splinter of glass. It wasn't painful, and I didn't feel much else, but Shinju's brows were furrowed as if facing a major crisis. Can't you take better care of yourself? Didn't you know you were hurt? He chided me, instinctively blowing on the wound like he used to when we were children, before quickly realizing, I'll get the first aid kit. Saying this, he was about to run off. Mother Shen also hurried over, distressed. Ju, go quickly, she's bleeding. Yushi, does it hurt a lot? It's my fault, I didn't notice you were hurt. She held my injured hand, filled with guilt. Yun Tian, once again ignored by everyone, couldn't help but twist her face in a moment of frustration. Ever since her face had helped her marry into a wealthy family, she hadn't tasted defeat. The doting of her parents, the care from her lover, and the attention from her younger brother were all within easy reach. She thought she was the happiest person in the world. But why did the deceased have to come back to life? Mom, it's okay, it's not painful. I noticed Yun Tian's resentment and jealousy, knowing she wouldn't let this go easily. Some things, when possessed for too long, are subconsciously assumed to be one's own. Mom, I'm in pain, I'm hurt too. Yun Tian, seizing the moment when Mother Shen was distracted, grabbed a piece of glass, her palm bleeding profusely. She spread out her cut palm pitifully, tears welling up in her eyes, longing for her mother's attention and affection. The first aid kit, I've got it. Shinju appeared just in time, pausing briefly as he saw Yun Tian's bloodied hand. Ju, it hurts. She knew exactly which tactics worked best with Shinju. Every time she showed weakness and dependency like this, he would reluctantly but carefully take care of her, always catering to her desires. Though it was just a brief pause, she saw it as a sign of hope and called out again. Ju. Shinju pursed his lips, the first aid kit in his hands now taken by Mother Shen, who hurriedly pulled me into the room to treat my wound. Ju, help her up. Of course, I was aware of the neglect from my mother and brother, focused more on me, partly because they feared I would feel uncomfortable because of Yun Tian. After all, having such a similar face, I wasn't naive and understood well the role she had played during my absence. My speaking out was unexpected even to my mother. She paused, looked back, and since Shinju always listened to me, he carefully navigated around the debris to help Yun Tian up from the ground. Ah, Ju, do you and Mom dislike me now? Yun Tian stood up, leaning on his strength, her eyes red with grievance. All her pretense couldn't stand up against a single sentence from me. Shinju did not answer her. I just wanted to bring a cup of milk to my sister. I really didn't mean any harm. I don't know why she pushed me. Mom ignores me, my sister hates me, Ju. Are you trying to drive me away, Ju? If I apologize to my sister, will she forgive me? I don't want to leave you. All, my sister, she, Yuntian, Shinju called her name indifferently, stopping her mid-sentence. She snapped out of her emotions and looked up at Shinju, his calm gaze met hers. As if he were looking at a stranger, he said, Shinyushi is my sister. With that one statement, Yuntian understood his implication. Shinyushi was his sister, not hers, so her constant reference to Yushi as sister was incorrect. Shinyushi was his sister, and thus his trust in her was unconditional. He wouldn't believe a word against her. Tears fell one by one from Yuntian's eyes as she spoke stubbornly. What about me, Ju? What do these 3 years we spent together mean? You used to call me sister too. Her voice trailed off, choked with emotion. I never did. I never called you sister, Shinju denied. He had never called Yuntian sister, except maybe the first time they met when he thought she was someone else. Yuntian choked up, recalling that instance, realizing Shinju was mostly silent. She thought he was just not very talkative. She hadn't expected that he had always clearly distinguished between his real sister and her, not even sparing the term sister, but she couldn't believe it. After 3 years of living together, she couldn't accept that Shinju had no feelings for her at all. Are we not family? She murmured to herself. This time, Shinju did not respond. He just gave Yuntian a deep look and turned to go inside. Yuntian's expression changed several times before she fell silent and followed Shinju inside. This was her first time entering this room. Previously as taboo as any other, after becoming the adopted daughter of the Shin family, the room was styled completely differently from hers, yet every detail was exquisite. She had always thought that one day she would live here as the mistress, but in the end, it was its true master who opened it. My wound had been treated, and I hadn't missed the commotion at the door. Miss Yun's wound should be treated too. Ju, help her out. The medicine box is here, I spoke up, my voice gentle and kind, the way Shinju remembered best. Okay, sure. Shinju did not refuse and complied obediently, but Yuntian felt humiliated. She thought I was showing off, her eyes occasionally sweeping over me with a dark look, yet, as if unaware, I continued talking to Shin's mother. The doctor said you are severely depleted, you need to take good care of yourself, and let me know immediately if you feel unwell. Yes, I'll listen to Mom, don't worry too much about me, I'm not a child anymore, no matter how old you get, in Mom's eyes, you'll always be a child, the treasure I hold dear in my heart. Shin's mother was a loving mother, but she rarely expressed her love so openly. I felt a twinge in my nose, thinking of all the tasks I had completed in strange little worlds, never daring to stop for the sake of revival. I'd been through a lot, and the belief that sustained me was always the idea of returning home. I thought I was strong enough, but a few simple words from my mother could still easily soften my heart. A sharp pain caused Shinju to pause momentarily as Yuntian severely hurt herself, the wound in her palm deep and embedded with shards of glass, requiring careful removal. Endure it a bit, Shinju said softly, his eyes and eyebrows lowered as he patiently completed the task his sister had assigned. Yuntian, her voice nasal, hummed in response. She remained silent thereafter, gripping the crumpled hem of her skirt tightly whenever the pain intensified. Soon, Shin Ju had her wound neatly bandaged. I rubbed my temples wearily, and Mother Shin, noticing my gesture, spoke up, it's late, everyone should go to sleep, whatever matters there are can wait until tomorrow. She glanced deliberately at Yuntian, seemingly warning her to stay in line. Yuntian's words stuck in her throat as Shinju packed up and stood, nodding at me before he left, saying, sister, good night. I smiled and responded warmly, Ju, see you tomorrow, seemed more hopeful than just good night, and Shinju's steps lightened a bit. Mother Shin had left with Yuntian, and I knew they probably had more to discuss. Sure enough, just as I closed my eyes, I heard voices. My experiences as a task performer had left me with some unusual abilities and talents. Tian, is your hand okay? It was Mother's gentle voice, followed soon by a weeping female voice. Mom, I thought you didn't want me anymore. It hurts so much, my hand and my heart both hurt. Why didn't you pay attention to me just now? I'm your daughter too, Yuntian cried, asserting her place as a daughter, albeit not by birth. She just got back, she's understandably sensitive. I thought to look after her a bit more. Can you understand? Mom, you're all my children, and I love you all the same. Besides, you've been by my side for so many years, how could I not want you? Silly child, don't overthink it. Tomorrow I'll have a doctor come over to properly bandage your hand again. We can't have any scars. Mother Shin switched from her cold demeanor in front of me to a completely different, caring tone. I listened, my brow furrowing, not understanding her intentions until Yun Tian spoke up again. I knew Mom loved me too. Sister is just too sensitive. I didn't mean to compete with her. I genuinely wanted to be part of this family. She's really hostile towards me. She even purposely. Yes, Tian. You're a good child. I'll speak to Yushi about this. You'll just have to bear with it for a bit. I'll need to check the surveillance footage tomorrow to see who's been negligent. Yushi mentioned you tripped over something outside her room door, which is quite dangerous, causing both of you to get injured. Mother Shin interrupted Yun Tian, speaking mostly to herself, her tone slightly annoyed as if she was truly displeased with the careless work of the servants. Yun Tian choked up, surveillance. So there were cameras at the room door. No wonder Shinju didn't believe her earlier. It's not that, I was just careless and tripped over myself. Mom, you don't need to bother. I'll be more careful next time. I'm sorry for also causing sister to get hurt. Yun Tian quickly changed her statement, swallowing back any accusation she was about to make. She can't shoot herself in the foot. Oh, is that so? Shin's mother seemed somewhat surprised. Yes, it's my fault for still being so impetuous at my age. I'll apologize to my sister tomorrow, Yun Tian said. Surprisingly easily. It might be because she was overly confident about their relationship over the years. To her, it was just a minor hiccup that didn't matter much. 11 Host, are you feeling sad? The quiet outside had returned, but I was still pondering the conversation between my mother and Yun Tian. Although my mother seemed to have little affection for Yun Tian, she was very comforting behind the scenes. Every word seemed meaningful, appearing to show concern, but in reality, they were all meant to favor me and Yun Tian. Why did she so easily believe what my mother said? I was reminded of the term strategy she used. Does she also have a system like me? Before I could figure it out, the system, which had been unbound, suddenly spoke in my mind, asking if I was feeling sad. I paused, somewhat astonished. Why have you come back? I still want to see if the life you chose is worse than listening to me, not returning to the original world, and choosing immortality. No, this is where I belong. I shook my head, denying the system's words. But your mother has acknowledged another daughter. You're not the only one anymore. Like all the past world's beloveds, you will eventually be replaced by a substitute. No, maybe you have already been replaced. Isn't it good to live in memories where one is always cherished? The system didn't quite understand human emotions. It could only analyze from actual situations. That won't happen. I trust my mother. A mother's love for her child cannot be faked, and I firmly believe she loves me deeply. My conversation with the system ended with its silence, and I knew it hadn't left for good. The night grew more silent, and I closed my eyes in fatigue. It was my soul that was more exhausted than my body, though each death wasn't the end. The recurring agony was something I had genuinely experienced. 12 Brother Zhiheng, are you here to take me out? When I saw Xie Zhiheng's figure, Yun Tian had already eagerly thrown herself into his arms with Shin's mother's comforting words from last night. She felt she hadn't lost. It was just the initial impact of the returned beloved that was strong. Over time, she believed she would stick around. So, facing Xie Zhiheng, she was equally confident. I watched the two embracing not far away and stopped in my tracks. My hand is injured. Can you pamper me today? Yun Tian showed her newly bandaged palm to Xie Zhiheng, seeking sympathy. Usually, he would have been very sympathetic, but this time Xie Zhiheng paused, and after realizing, he pushed the person in his arms away. Sorry Tian, I'm not here for you today. Yushi, do you have time for a chat? He looked up at me. I raised an eyebrow, glanced at Yun Tian who was full of hostility towards me, and smiled in agreement. Sure. For the first time, Xie Zhiheng resisted Yun Tian's coquettish behavior, giving us a chance to be alone. In the cafe, we looked at each other in silence, so quiet that I thought he just wanted to have a coffee with me. I thought after such a long time, we would have a lot to talk about. Xie Zhiheng sighed deeply. I stopped stirring my coffee and looked up at him. What do you want to say? You're still the same as before, cutting straight to the point. He didn't leave any room for subtlety. He laughed, seemingly confident in his understanding of me. First, I owe you an apology regarding Yun Tian. I was wrong, he said, admitting his mistake of treating her as a stand-in for me. I will explain things to her clearly. Yushi, do we still have a chance? His gaze was intense as he looked at me, reminiscent of the unresolved tension between us 4 years ago. It's not possible anymore. I replied decisively, leaving Xie Zhiheng stunned. He froze, unable to comprehend why I would respond this way. Why? He asked almost reflexively. Simply because I don't like you anymore, I answered without any burden. After so many years in this foreign world, I've seen enough of such dramas and even found them somewhat dull now. This meeting ended unpleasantly. But I quickly put it behind me. However, someone took it very seriously. Enjoying your chat with someone else's boyfriend, sister. Yuntian's voice suddenly emerged from behind me in the flower room. I paused in trimming the branches and turned to look at her. Don't you find it tiring, maintaining this facade? Before others, she played the weak and vulnerable, but with me, her tone was full of provocation. Tired? Why would I be tired? Playing your role allows me to live a life like yours, which is far too easy. But I just can't understand, why are you still alive? She shed her frail disguise and became aggressively confrontational. How I live is none of your business. What's not yours will never be yours. Lives built on pretense never last. Isn't it better to be yourself? If you want, I can give you some money. I don't really care for the identity of the adopted daughter of the Shin family. I was willing to be merciful before things got out of hand, but I'm no saint ready to step aside and let her trample over me and claim a legitimate place in the Shin family. Your high and mighty attitude is truly annoying. At the end of the day, you're just being hypocritical. You must really hate me deep down. Shin Yushi, are you jealous of me, or are you scared? Yun Tian couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh, as if she had seen a weakness of mine that no one else knew. Shin Yushi, you're not as confident as you think you are. You're scared that even after your return, they will still choose me. After all, during the years you were gone, it was I who was by their side day and night. Haha. Yun Tian grew more convinced of her own words, her demeanor smug. I hate smart fools. Since that's the case, there's nothing left to discuss, I said, facing a face that bore a resemblance to mine but showed an expression I could never have. I closed my eyes, unable to bear it any longer. Of course, I will fight you to the end. Shin Yushi, I won't lose, just wait and see. Her fighting spirit was palpable as she dropped these words, her departing figure exuding arrogance almost as if cued by her declaration of war. My luck started to turn. Little mishaps happened now and then, which I initially ignored, until a car accident almost broke my legs. Thankfully Shinju appeared just in time to save me, and narrowly avoided accident left my mother in tears and trembling with fear. I began to stay alert, and indeed, during the birthday banquet that day, another accident occurred. This was the first birthday I celebrated in 4 years since coming home. Attended by friends from my old social circle, they clinked glasses and reminisced with me. Compared to me, Yuntian's situation was much quieter. After all, an adopted daughter couldn't compare with one's own flesh and blood, let alone a stand-in, whether in terms of emotional ties or perceived value. These scions of wealthy families preferred to socialize with me. Sister, this drink is for you, Yuntian said politely in front of others, almost too sweetly. I didn't take her glass but chose another from the waiter's tray. Then I'll have the same as sister, she said, casting a subtle glance my way. I was willing to maintain the facade of cordiality with her and slightly nodded in agreement. She took the initiative to toast me, and in this battle between the true principal and the substitute, it seemed unsurprising that I had the upper hand, but I knew Yun Tian wasn't someone who would give up easily. Almost as soon as she made a move, I signaled with my eyes for someone to follow her. Soon after, a piercing scream erupted. Yun Tian emerged from Shinju's room, her dress torn and her face flushed. Stumbling as she ran, my heart tightened until a waiter passing by slipped something into my hand, calming me down. Why did you drug my drink? Yun Tian accused, blushing with shame before fainting. Immediately, someone dialed for a doctor. The guests present, spurred by her outcry, cast strange glances my way. Some more perceptive ones even thought to take their leave. Not wanting to offend anyone lightly, however, I spoke up at this moment. Ladies and gentlemen, no need to rush off. I too am curious about the drugging Miss Yun mentions. Right and wrong cannot be established by mere words. This slander, I, Shin Yushi, will not accept. Following my words, the room fell silent. Yun Tian was quickly covered with a coat, and the doctor who arrived soon after began treating her. Minutes later, she regained consciousness. Upon opening her eyes and seeing me, her eyes reddened, her lips quivered, and her body shrank. Zhiheng has broken up with me. Do you still refuse to let me go? I know you hate me, thinking I'm unworthy to be your stand-in, but I've always regarded you as my sister, and Ju, he protects you so much. Are you afraid he'll monopolize the Shin family, so you want to frame him too? Even though I'm adopted, incest between siblings would be a huge scandal. Her words were filled with schemes and provocation, not just trying to alienate my family from me but also to tarnish my reputation. Is Shinyushi really such a person? It doesn't seem like it. Who knows? After all, with the years she's been missing, there's been a blank slate. Maybe she picked up some bad habits outside. People change. I actually think this Miss Yun is quite pitiable. Indeed, when it came to the interests of family inheritance, some began to waver, and murmurs arose. Yushi, Yun Tian is innocent. The matter of the stand-in has nothing to do with her. If you have an issue, come at me. Whether it was a sympathy for the underdog or Xie Zhiheng's chivalrous spirit, he frowned and stood disapprovingly in front of me. Are you sick? Have you had enough acting? I looked up impatiently, failing to understand the meaning of such men in every little world I encountered. Mom, I'm scared. Yun Tian turned towards my mother standing behind me, suddenly as if seeing a savior. I turned around and was about to speak when my mother interrupted me for the first time. Enough, stop this now. I was stunned because I knew that this was directed at me. My mother, whom I trusted unconditionally, was for the first time opposing me. Was she really siding with the stand-in? Yet, why was her hand trembling slightly? I told you, you can't beat the female lead. Host, I'm willing to give you another chance. Rebind with me. The system's voice, full of temptation, rang out again. Still not giving up on persuading me after being silent for so long. Shut up, I scolded in my mind, already annoyed. What did you say I did again? I asked, looking at Yun Tian with a stern gaze. She seemed proud, basking in the scolding I received from her mother on her behalf. Of course, it was about drugging. You didn't want to drink my cup of wine, so guiding me to drink another was your intention, right, sister? I can't believe you hate me so much, even to the point of hurting Ju. He's your own brother. You're too cold-hearted. Yun Tian was crying, yet the look she gave me was one of bright defiance and pity. She seemed to think I had already lost. Thanks for standing up for me. I just came back with a gift for my sister. Can someone tell me what's going on? Shinju, who had said he was feeling unwell and resting in his room, suddenly entered neatly dressed from the doorway. He was holding an exquisite gift box, obviously not lying. Everyone was stunned. Since Shinju wasn't in the room, Yun Tian's hasty exit earlier must have been self-directed. Yun Tian was also confused. Although the lights were off, she clearly felt someone in the room. Miss Yun was so proactive just now. Turns out she mistook someone else, a young man said as he walked out of Shinju's room. His every move was casual, his shirt unbuttoned revealing ambiguous red marks on his chest. This was Shinju's notorious playboy friend. While everyone's attention was diverted, I took the opportunity to grab Shinju's phone and inserted a memory card given to me by a waiter. The video on it showed Yun Tian's self-directed actions. Is this the drugging you mentioned? I pulled up the video of Yun Tian toasting to me, then secretly adding powder to her drink. She also specially had a servant bring water laced with drugs to Shinju under the guise of caring for him, then entered his room when the time was right. But she didn't expect that the person sleeping in the room wasn't Shinju, and the playboy, following his principle of taking advantage of situations, had allowed her approach. How can it not be this way? This video is fake, Yun Tian exclaimed in disbelief, frantically calling out to her system in her mind. Why aren't you helping me block this? What are you doing? Do you even know who your real master is? I was taken aback, catching the desperation in Yun Tian's eyes. How could I hear her inner voice? Her system remained unresponsive, but I sensed a familiar energy fluctuation. As the mocking gazes almost drowned her, Yun Tian called out desperately, Mom, as if commanded. Shin's mother suddenly spoke up. Enough, Yushi. Tian was just joking with you. Don't take it to heart. I couldn't believe such disjointed words came from my most trusted mother. Anger tinted Shinju's face, but I held back the impulsive young man from lashing out. The expressions of the guests varied, but Yun Tian was visibly pleased. Right, sister, it was just a joke, a naive prank. You won't hold it against me, right? I just wanted to foster a closer sisterly bond. I won't dare do it again. She cheekily stuck out her tongue, her flimsy excuse convincing no one, but it was the protective stance of Shin's mother. Of course, I wouldn't mind. If we were at a circus, I suppose I'd be more supportive there. I dropped the comment and quickly led the increasingly agitated Shinju out of the scene. I really can't understand her. Why does she still defend that person? They used to say Yun Tian was your substitute. I thought she couldn't bear the pain of losing you and found someone else to focus on. She wants a happy family, and I played along with her. But now that you're back, What is she really doing? Is she sacrificing her own daughter for her adopted one? Shinju punched the wall, a teenager who couldn't fully grasp the complex emotions. He just felt that his mother's actions were unfair to his sister. Don't be angry, I'm not upset, her tricks can't hurt me. I pulled his hand away, feeling somewhat helpless as his knuckles were reddened when he was younger. He would need me to soothe even the smallest scrape, and now he resorts to punching walls. But Mom, enough, I'll handle this. Why don't you tell me what happened during the years I was away? I felt like the plot had changed from what I had known before. Shinju pursed his lips and nodded. Mom, did you have a nightmare again? In the middle of the night, when Shin's mother came to check on me, I opened my eyes and called out to her. This wasn't the first time she had come to check on me secretly at night. But it was the first time I didn't pretend to be asleep. I only learned today from Shinju that she used to have nightmares and had trouble sleeping until Yuntian came, and then things slowly got better, seemingly not expecting me to be awake. Shin's mother paused, opened her mouth as if to say something, worry evident in her eyes. Finally, she awkwardly said, I'm sorry. Those 3 words made me cast aside all my doubts, my heart aching uncontrollably. Mom, you have nothing to apologize for. I know you have your reasons for what you've done, right, Yushi? Death is painful. If I could, I would really want my child to never have to experience these things, but I'm a useless mother, only able to watch her die over and over again in different ways, powerless to stop it. Her tears fell on my face as she tenderly stroked my hair. My expression remained calm, but inside, a storm was brewing. Did she mean that she could see every one of my deaths? What an impact that must have had on her. I felt somewhat suffocated by the thought, but how could an ordinary person see these things? My greatest wish is for you to have a safe and smooth life. Leave everything else to me. That was the last thing my mother said to me that night. A late-night talk left me unsettled for a long time. Yuntian, relying on mother's favoritism, had already stopped making superficial efforts with me. Of course, I wasn't easy to provoke, and she gained no advantages from me. The most recent conflict was about a set of jewelry that Shin's mother had given me. Sister, how does it look? Yuntian, wearing the necklace I had only worn once, asked me with a smug look in her eyes. Didn't anyone ever tell you that taking without asking is stealing? Put it down, and get out of this room. She dropped her act, and I naturally didn't greet her with a smile. I won't put it down, I want this set. If you're unhappy, go complain to Mom. Saying this, Yuntian was about to leave with the jewelry. I grabbed her arm. I said, put it down. She rolled her eyes, trying to shake me off, but I grabbed her hair and smashed her head against the dressing table mirror. Don't you understand? Yuntian was shocked. She never expected that I, usually so gentle, would resort to violence so suddenly. You dare to hit me? I won't let you get away with this. Yuntian screamed in anger. With a slight click of my tongue and an expressionless face, I continued to pull her hair and smash her head against the dressing table. Amidst her screams, I'm going to kill you, Shinyushi, the system, she has violated the rules, you should kill this wretch quickly. Last time you said that the affection overdraft blocking function was ineffective, there should be no excuse this time. Suddenly, my arm felt numb, and all my suspicions were confirmed at that moment. The system had indeed betrayed me, or rather, Yun Tian and I had been using the same system all along. Only harming another user bound to the same system is considered a violation of the rules, and would be punishable. Shinyushi has unbound from this system and is no longer a mission participant. The system has no authority to erase her. It was the system's familiar voice, but it came from Yun Tian. The drama eventually attracted the attention of the servants, who called Shin's mother. In the living room, Yun Tian played the victim and cried, while I sat opposite her with a cold face, eyes closed, unwilling to watch. Since you two can't get along, Yushi, you should go abroad. For many years, it has been Tian by my side, and I'm used to it. Suddenly, Shin's mother spoke up, and the room fell silent. I opened my eyes and saw Yun Tian barely able to contain her glee. Although Shin's mother let her lean on her, the look in her eyes was cold, but Yun Tian, too thrilled, failed to notice. Her words sounded like a victory trumpet, and people often overlook crucial details when they are too proud. Alright, I looked at Shin's mother, remained silent for a long time, and finally spoke that single word, loser. Yun Tian mouthed provocatively as she leaned against Shin's mother. The decision for me to go abroad was thus settled, and Yun Tian couldn't wait to declare her victory to the world. There was much gossip in our circles, and Shinju was so angry he didn't come home, but he couldn't change anyone's decision. System, I've thought it over, I'm willing to rebind with you. I want to make them regret. Maybe you are right, the moonlight is only worth remembering when it exists in memory alone. I looked down and gave a bitter smile, met with silence, no reply from the system. Have you abandoned me too? Maybe I shouldn't have come back to life, I muttered forlornly, time ticking away. Suddenly, the familiar voice spoke again. Host Shinyushi, do you wish to rebind with System 933? Please confirm yes or no. My eyes flickered, but I pretended to be overjoyed. That's great, you're still here. Yes, host, I have always been here. You were right, human emotions are too fickle. I lost to my own substitute. What about you? Will you betray me? I probed quietly, and after a few seconds of silence, the system continued. The system cannot betray the host, or it will be destroyed. I suddenly remembered the day I bound 4 years ago. The system had told me where its destruction key was to gain my trust, but I had been obsessed with coming back to life and trusted it completely. Host Shinyushi, do you choose to rebind? The question was asked again, and I chose yes. The binding process began to initiate. I suddenly asked, is Yun Tian also your mission participant? Yes. It was somewhat surprised that I had noticed, but now that I agreed to rebind and there was no conflict of interest with Yun Tian, it had no reason to hide anything. Moreover, system rules stipulate that the system cannot lie to its host. It turned out that it was Yun Tian's main system's clone, specifically split to deceive the universal consciousness and steal my destiny, replacing my life with Yun Tian's. I was supposed to die in the mission world, never expecting to complete the mission and return alive. The system had no authority to erase such subjects, it could only fulfill the promise to revive me. Yet, upon my return to the original world, just after meeting Yun Tian, that destiny rushed back to me as if coming home. Yun Tian thought it wouldn't be a big issue. With the system's support and years of accrued goodwill, it seemed manageable. I couldn't win against her even after coming back. The allure of the white moonlight was too overwhelming. Just a few encounters and her plans nearly succeeded. To eliminate me as an obstacle, the system was compelled to deceive me into a binding that would force me to leave. Thus, the early death was a lie, and so was the plot about being replaced. All these were crafted to cater to Yun Tian's desire over my life and the system's need for destiny manipulation. From the moment she entered this world, she had her sights set on me. 23. Has my mother's change in attitude got anything to do with you? Did you intentionally let her see my death in that mini-world, or did you manipulate her to side with Yun Tian? The system remained silent, merely speeding up the binding process. A clear enough answer. Binding progress 80, 99, 100. Host, we can leave now. Since you've decided to abandon the past, let's leave it behind. From now on, I will be a system for you alone. It turned out to be Yun Tian. Once she knew I was willing to rebind, she unbound her system and stayed behind forever. Her mission as the adopted daughter of the Shin family had long been completed. She had been dragging it out with points, reluctant to leave or unbind. Now, she had made her choice. I was just feeling sleepy when someone brought me a pillow. Thank you for clearing things up. 933. I will never trust a traitor again. I quickly located and pressed the delete button in my mind. The next second, the system space in my mind flickered red. Codes flew chaotically, everything teetering on the edge of collapse. System 933 tasted betrayal for the first time. You will regret this. I won't. 24. Sister, I've stopped Mom. The phone rang, and the call connected, carrying Shinju's voice. Still frightened, relieved by the news, I grabbed my keys and ran out. You handled it well. Don't panic, I'm on my way. By the time I arrived at the abandoned warehouse, Yun Tian was gagged and lying in the dirty mud, and my mother, shaking with hatred, hesitated because of Shinju. Mom, this is illegal. It's no use glaring at me. If she doesn't die, your sister will. My mother hissed through clenched teeth. Shinju froze, bewildered. Move aside. Mother pushed him, attempting to continue her assault on Yun Tian, but I caught her in time. Mom, how did you get here? Leave. This has nothing to do with you. Yushi, listen to Mom and live well. Mother was shocked to see me, pushing me to leave. Mom, it's okay now. Everything's over. Just listen to me. I then revealed the secrets of my disappearance over the past 4 years, the process of being bound by the system, the recent discussions, and the destruction of the system. I knew it. There are no such coincidences in this world. Yushi, Mom failed to protect you. Mother cried uncontrollably, embracing me tightly, with Shinju also tearing up. 25. Yun Tian was brought back by Xie Jihe 3 years ago. Initially, Mother detested this girl who resembled me, disgusted by Xie Jihe's act of finding a substitute, her daughter, was irreplaceable. Even if there were millions of lookalikes in the world after my disappearance, she began to suffer from insomnia and nervous breakdowns. However, after meeting Yun Tian, she suddenly started to dream of various scenarios of my death. Hearing a voice telling her that treating Yun Tian well and loving her as her own daughter was the only chance for her child to return. Initially, she didn't believe it as the images in her mind became more frequent and vivid. She tentatively began to reach out to Yun Tian, hoping for relief. Indeed, things improved. It was like seeing a beacon of hope. She showered Yun Tian with affection, which everyone assumed was her way of compensating for something missing. Yet, during the sleepless nights, she secretly prayed for her own child to return. Not long after she officially adopted Yun Tian, I truly came back. At just one glance, she recognized the differences between Yun Tian and me, and she was overwhelmed with emotion. She thought this would mark a perfect ending, but then that voice started haunting her again, warning that neglecting Yun Tian would bring me misfortune. Initially, she couldn't control herself and tried to make amends quietly, but to no avail. It was only after a car accident shattered her hope that she realized she must protect Yun Tian openly. She did as advised, and the situation improved. However, Mrs. Shen felt a chill run through her body. She firmly believed that the instigator would ultimately benefit from all this. Determined not to let me be constrained for life, she sent me abroad to lower my guard around Yun Tian and take matters into her own hands. To eliminate the threat, the voice was likely a result of hypnotic suggestion. After Mrs. Shen went missing, her mental state deteriorated, perhaps exploited during a moment of weakness. 26. Yun Tian woke up, looked around in panic, and then frantically sought our help. I turned towards the commotion, but Shinju screamed, "Where did Yun Tian go? Who is this?" The girl on the ground had an ordinary, unfamiliar face, one we had never seen before. "That's Yun Tian." "What?" Shinju was confused, but Mrs. Shen was not as surprised. Now unbound, she no longer had to pretend and merely glanced briefly before looking away. Shinju tore off the tape from her mouth. "Mom, save me. It was Shinyushi who wanted to kidnap me. Save me." Seeing me, she tried to throw accusations my way, but Shinju quickly retaped her mouth, met with a fierce glare from Yun Tian. "Can't you speak properly? We are here to rescue you. Don't be ungrateful. If you can't speak nicely, we might just leave you here alone in this abandoned warehouse. Who knows if those violent criminals might return," Shinju subtly threatened. Naturally, the kidnapping was orchestrated with hired goons, and Yun Tian hadn't seen their faces. The Shen family maneuvered behind the scenes. She could find no evidence. Yun Tian softened her demeanor, looking pleadingly at us, so Shinju tore off her tape again. Nevertheless, the kidnapping case was left unresolved, with no news leaking from the Shen family. 27. "I am Miss Shen, let me in." When Yun Tian returned from the hospital, nobody recognized her anymore. Her face bore no resemblance to her former self, and no one believed her claim of being Yun Tian. "Stop pretending. Everyone knows Miss Shen. Do you think we are blind?" The gates of the villa remained closed, and Yun Tian was driven away by security. "I am Yun Tian," she fumed, but no one paid her any attention until she saw Xie Zhiheng visiting. She approached him. "Zhiheng, they won't let me go home. It must be Shinyushi's doing." "You are?" Xie Zhiheng paused, faced with a stranger. "I am Yun Tian. Don't you recognize me either?" Yun Tian became agitated, then touched her face and screamed, "Ah, my face, what's happened to my face?" Finally, she saw her reflection in the glass. A face she had long forgotten was her own. Yun Tian was devastated, unable to accept it, and stumbled away desperately. Xie Zhiheng thought he had encountered a madwoman and paid her no mind. He was there to apologize. He didn't understand what had happened. He had exhausted their childhood friendship with his words, but he still owed an apology. I didn't accept his apology. He seemed distraught as he left. When I heard from him again, it was somehow related to Yun Tian. 28. Yun Tian couldn't accept her original appearance, and the system never returned. She didn't lack the desire for revenge, but each attempt ended with her getting caught red-handed. Out of options, she turned her attention to Xie Zhiheng, hoping to start over, but without her previous face. Xie Zhiheng didn't recognize her. In a scuffle, they both ended up in a car accident. Xie Zhiheng injured his leg, and Yun Tian was left mentally incapacitated. I scrolled through the news on my phone, raising an eyebrow. It seemed like just desserts. "Yushi, dinner's ready," my mother called out, carrying a pot of soup from the kitchen, my brother yawning sleepily. I got up. Coming outside, the moon hung perfectly in the sky, luminous and unsetting.